Hello friends and folks near and far who have visited my beloved YouTube channel. If you guys enjoy the story, please give me a like, subscribe, and share to help me out, so I won't be so worn out and frazzled with worry. Thank you all so much. I hope everyone enjoys the story and smiles as brightly as a newly blossomed flower. The scene opens to a vast citadel with green mountains and turquoise waters. Currently, white snow is falling, blanketing everything. Inside the Alliance Leaders Hall, a figure is sitting on the highest chair. He is the Alliance leader, Tien Ha Tran, reading through memorials. Beside him is the Grand Strategist, Jia Cat Luong. He glances outside and notices the falling snow. Already, hearing this, Tien Ha Tran also looks up and out. The snow has now covered almost the entire citadel. Jia Cat Luong averts his gaze to the side. Ba Bao, your little one must love this, right? He replies cheerfully, yes. He's probably jumping for joy right now. Suddenly, Tien Ha Tran chimes in, Ba Bao, your little one is 3 years old this year, right? His words silence the two men beside him. A few seconds later, Ba Bao smiles and bows his head. My lord, he is already 5 years old this year. This is the warrior guard Ba Bao. Tien Ha Tran's hand pauses slightly. Then he remarks with some emotion. Really, has time passed so quickly? I had no idea. Ba Bao looks at him, seemingly bewildered. Seeing this, Jia Cat Luong kindly reminds him, My lord, you asked the exact same question a few days ago. Tien Ha Tran is astonished. He feels a slight headache, rubbing his forehead and thinking to himself, how strange. Why have things like this been happening so often lately? What on earth is wrong with me? But perhaps I should buy some clothes for Ba Bao's kid. After all, he's been my loyal subordinate for decades. Then he wonders, but Ba Bao's little one? He can't remember if it's a girl or a boy. Tien Ha Tran truly can't understand. How can I not even remember this? Suddenly, a voice calls out, My lord, it's Jia Cat Luong, his face showing clear concern. Are you all right? Tien Ha Tran slightly bows his head and replies, I'm fine. His eyes are filled with sadness as he states, Perhaps I've grown old. Upon hearing this, Jia Cat Luong quickly reassures him. Not at all, my lord. You are still so strong and healthy. Tien Ha Tran doesn't reply, only reminiscing silently. Time really flies. It's been 40 years since I sat in the position of the number one person under heaven. At this point, he has left the desk where he was reading memorials. His gaze is distant, strategist Jia Cat. Jia Cat Luong bows his head and replies, Yes, my lord. He suddenly asks, What kind of person am I? Jia Cat Luong doesn't understand. What do you mean, my lord? Tien Ha Tran clarifies, Just as I said, in your eyes, what kind of person am I? Once again, this question seems to stump both. Jia Cat Luong and Ba Bao, or rather, the two of them don't know what he is trying to do. But very quickly, Jia Cat Luong has an answer. The greatest person in this martial world. Tien Ha Tran falls silent for a moment after hearing this. The greatest person? Martial God Tien Ha Tran, a title he obtained at the young age of 29, making the Sword Emperor, the Saber Emperor, and the Fist King kneel at his feet. The first person to sit in the position of the Wulin Alliance leader in his 30s. After becoming the Wulin Alliance leader, I went through countless campaigns, crushing evil cults and heretical factions, tearing the Black Way's 13 alliances into hundreds of pieces, annihilating the Blood Heaven Divine cult, the successor to the demonic cults. Finally, I fulfilled the long-held wish of the Wulin Alliance. I lived on, watching over the peace of the martial world. But after some time, internal enemies appeared. Those who craved absolute power poisoned my food, and at night, sent assassins to have a heart-to-heart with me. But I survived and cut down all those traitors. The people of the martial world call me the Iron-Blooded Alliance leader. They also call me the Alliance leader of punishment because I cut down traitors without a hint of hesitation. While Tien Ha Tran is lost in thought, Jia Cat Luong adds, My lord is the peerless powerhouse of this martial world. You symbolize chivalry and martial arts. His eyes deepen, Jia Cat Luong's voice still echoing around him. Or to put it more profoundly, my lord is the martial world itself. Jia Cat Luong says worriedly, My lord, you seem different from usual. I wonder if you're feeling unwell somewhere. Contrary to his earlier melancholy, Tien Ha Tran gives a light laugh and replies, Not at all. I'm fine. I'm heading inside. Then he turns to the side. Ba Bao, you haven't been home in several days, have you? Go home early today. You don't need to stay and guard me. Ba Bao is worried about him, not knowing how to respond. After that, both Ba Bao and Jia Cat Luong bow respectfully. Yes, my lord, please rest well. On the rooftops, the snow continues to fall, blanketing everything in white. Only Tien Ha Tran remains here. Am I the martial world itself? Yes, when a martial artist reaches this level, there is nothing left to desire. But have I lived too harshly? He remembers his own blood-stained face from his youth. As time passed, features of maturity gradually appeared, eventually becoming the aged features of today. Suddenly, a sharp pain shoots through him, causing Tien Ha Tran to frown. He clutches his chest, coughing dryly in extreme pain. Confused by this, why suddenly, his hand squeezes tighter over his relentlessly aching heart. In the end, he can't stand it anymore and collapses, fainting. The The scene changes to another place. A polished wooden ceiling. Tien Ha Tran is doubtful. Where is this place? He silently sniffs the air, assessing the smell of medicinal herbs. So I'm in a medical room. Did I faint? Slowly sitting up, Tien Ha Tran laments. I'm gonna have to listen to strategist Jia Cat nagging me about not taking care of my health again. He mocks himself slightly. The number one person under heaven fainting like this. Huh. Suddenly, he feels a difference in his body. What is this? A bit of panic. My dantian is completely empty? Tien Ha Tran thinks of a name. Skill-scattering poison. But he quickly denies it. Impossible. How could skill-scattering poison have any effect on me? Just then, an older man and woman appear in the room, their faces worried. He's awake. The sect master's wife approaches and asks with concern, "Are you all right, son?" Tien Ha Tran frowns in confusion. "Who are you, ma'am?" As soon as the words leave his mouth, he realizes, why does my voice sound like this? The sect master's wife, still with a gentle expression, asks again, "You look at me and ask who I am?" Tien Ha Tran answers without hesitation. "That's right." The sect master's wife repeats, trembling. "That's right." Veins start to pop on her forehead. Tien Ha Tran looks at her, confused. She immediately slaps Tien Ha Tran across the face. This startles the bitch sect master, who exclaims, "Wife, calm." She shouts angrily, "I wonder what I was praying for every minute of every second." "Who am I, you ask?" The bitch sect master looks a bit helpless as he listens to her scolding their son. Yes, let me tell you. I'm the pitiful person who couldn't sleep a wink worrying about someone. I am." Tien Ha Tran awaits the answer. "I am." Before she can finish, the sect master's wife wants to lunge forward and give him a beating. "You unfilial brat." The bitch sect master quickly holds her back. Wife, calm down." She is still scolding. "You dare speak to your mother like that?" The bitch sect master tries to placate her. "Calm down. Our son just woke up. His mind is probably not clear yet." She struggles. "Let go of me." Despite the increasingly chaotic situation, Tien Ha Tran still doesn't understand what's happening. Overly angry, the sect master's wife says something harsh. "You might as well have just died, you unfilial son." Tien Ha Tran sighs. Am I dreaming? He thinks that's probably it. If not, then he glances up. He sees his own reflection in a mirror. Confused, he touches his face. Is that person me? Then he reassures himself with a faint smile and affirms to himself, so that's it. It really is a dream. But this damn dream is too vivid. My head hurts. His body sways a little, and then he collapses once more. This makes the bitch sect master and his wife stop their struggle. Both exclaim worriedly, "Don't Time passes quickly, and now the evening twilight embraces the vast citadel. Tien Ha Tran sits alone in the room, his expression tangled and confused. His gaze turns to the window as he thinks, I thought I had woken up. Will I return to being the Alliance leader? Isn't this a dream? He still doesn't understand. No matter how deeply he slept, there's no way he couldn't distinguish between dream and reality like this. It's not a symptom of cultivation deviation, either. Then he looks at himself in the mirror again. Why did something like this happen? Tien Ha Tran frowns. In 70 years of fighting in the martial world, I've experienced countless unbelievable things. But reincarnation? Moreover, on top of that, I still retain all of Tien Ha Tran's memories. Just then, the head steward enters carrying a tray. You should be ashamed. The old man reminds him. Yesterday's incident disappointed many people. Tien Ha Tran replies, I don't remember anything. In his heart, Tien Ha Tran thinks, I know absolutely nothing about this young man's life, so saying I don't remember is also correct. The head steward smirks. Don't remember? Truly an irresponsible person. Tien Ha Tran is bewildered, irresponsible. He remembers the past. When he was the Alliance leader, rewards and punishments were clear, kindness was repaid, and vengeance was sought. A bit annoyed, even after going through so many hardships, he never blamed his circumstances, never relied on the loyalty of his subordinates. Following the old man's back with his eyes, Tien Ha Tran seems to be recounting. He would always take full responsibility for what he had to. And yet I'm being called an irresponsible person? Suddenly, the head steward stops, glances back, and leaves a sentence. You are the disgrace of this family. These words throw Tien Ha Tran into confusion again. After saying that, the old man also leaves, slamming the door shut. Tien Ha Tran sits and ponders again. What on earth did this young man do? To be treated like this right after opening my eyes? He lets out a soft sigh. So tiring. At this moment, a noise is heard from outside the door again. It turns out to be Kwang Dao. Oh, young master, you're awake? He sits down beside him and starts rambling. I told you so. Even if it's a woman, it would be hard for you to win. And on top of that, you even drank. Tien Ha Tran frowns. Who are you? The young man sighs helplessly, a bit annoyed as he questions. I heard about it too. Are you pretending to have amnesia, young master? Tien Ha Tran doesn't understand and exclaims. Huh? Kwang Dao bows his head in thought. It's at times like these that your tricks are the best, young master. He then voices his own question. But why couldn't you grasp the situation yesterday, young master? Oh no, you've always been carefree. Then he reminds him, but young master, you should take this opportunity to practice your martial arts properly for once. It's very embarrassing to go out and get bullied by a woman. Tien Ha Tran has lost all patience. I'm asking for the... Before he could finish, the young man quickly shouts, Kwang Dao, it's Kwang Dao. Oh, this is no fun at all. Don't pretend to have amnesia with me, young master. Because the pronunciation is quite similar. Tien Ha Tran misunderstands a little. Kwang Dao. Is there something wrong with your head? Kwang Dao explains again. Of course not. It's the Kwang for not Kwang. Something wrong with your head is just what you use to tease me, young master. I don't know what's up with you today. Tien Ha Tran is also very helpless. I really don't remember anything. Unexpectedly, Kwang Dao assumes. Do you need to pretend to have amnesia, even with me, young master? He immediately replies, it's true. The young man looks over in surprise. Really? Tien Ha Tran confirms. Yeah. Kwang Dao then tests him. Do you remember how much money you borrowed from me, young master? Tien Ha Tran replies, I don't remember. How much was it? He answers, 2 coins. He says indifferently, is that so? Let me see. Then he rummages in his pocket, then takes out a few coins. As luck would have it, there's money here. Here's your payment. Only now is Kwang Dao stunned. Oh my goodness. So you really have amnesia, young master? Tien Ha Tran is a bit confused. Why do you suddenly believe me now? The young man explains, you've never paid back the money you borrowed from me, young master. He is bewildered again. Huh? Borrowing money and not paying it back? Tien Ha Tran is annoyed. What kind of person is this man, really? What kind of life have I been living? Kwang Dao's eyes are complicated. Where should I even begin to tell you, young master? In his heart, Tien Ha Tran affirms. It seems there's more than just 1 or 2 incidents. He thinks and makes a decision, the most recent one. Why was I injured like this? Kwang Dao tells him everything without hiding anything. You went to see Miss Tong, but were rejected by her. Then, because of your reckless words, you were given a sound beating by Miss Tong. Speaking of this, he sighs. Because of that, you got angry and went drinking. Then you caused a ruckus everywhere and fell into a pond. Tien Ha Tran frowns. Who is Miss Tong? At this point, Kwang Dao's eyes are wide. You don't even remember Miss Tong, young master? His face darkens. Yeah, that's Tong Hoa Lan, the successor of the Tong family of Kang. Kwang Dao continues. The #1 beauty in Shandong. She's intelligent, and her martial arts are strong, a truly perfect person. But she has one extremely fatal flaw. Tien Ha Tran is curious. What is this extremely fatal flaw? He glances over. The young miss is your fiancée, young master. Tien Ha Tran forces a smile. That's a fatal flaw? Kwang Dao replies with regret. Young miss truly has no luck in marriage. Because of this arranged marriage, the young miss now has a weakness. These words render Tien Ha Tran speechless. He asks nonchalantly, do I normally hit you? This startles the young man. No. Why are you suddenly asking that? Young master. Tien Ha Tran clenches his fist. I don't know why, but hearing your words makes my hands itch. I want to punch you. Who would have thought that this Kwang Dao would burst out laughing? The relationship between me and you, young master, is even stronger than your marriage. Looking at his own hand, Tien Ha Tran is a bit hesitant. Is that so? Then he remembers the head steward's words from earlier. You are the disgrace of this family. Tien Ha Tran starts to investigate. What about before that? Kwang Dao answers. You lost a large sum of money gambling, and you also spent a lot of money on courtesans. He frowns as he listens to the young man's list. Drinking, fighting, refusing to practice martial arts, and often running away from home. And on top of that, arrogantly claiming to become the public enemy of the martial world. Unable to bear it, he speaks up. That's enough. Remembering the bitch parents from before, to have a son like this, and his mother only hits him on the back of the neck once? If it were me, I would have just killed him. Suddenly, Tien Ha Tran has a question. Kwang Dao, in your eyes, what kind of person am I? The young man hesitates. You want me to be honest, young master? He nods helplessly. Yeah, at times like this, you should be honest. This is your chance. Kwang Dao bows his head and sighs, then answers decisively. Trash. Tien Ha Tran repeats that answer in his mind. Trash. At this moment, he remembers Jia Cat Luong's words from before. My lord is the martial world itself. He lets out a soft breath, then accepts it. It seems I really did die and come back to life. Tien Ha Tran has gathered the basic information. The young man I've been reincarnated into is named Bitch Lai Don, the young sect master of the Bitch Sword sect in Shandong. From his relationships with others to his martial arts, everything is pathetic. The son of a martial arts family, yet at 20 years old, the internal energy accumulated in his dantian is only at a 5-year level. He glances to the side. But at least he still has an attendant who has followed him since childhood, which is Kwang Dao. Bitch Lai Don speaks up and asks, Kwang Dao, have you heard anything? The young man is puzzled. What specifically, young master? He explains, for example, a peerless expert's treasure being found, or a rare spiritual beast appearing, or Kwang Dao's expression becomes serious. Or, he replies, the Alliance leader dying, for instance. He answers seriously, nothing like that. Then he carefully emphasizes, the Alliance leader is so healthy. How could he die? Bitch Lai Don thinks in confusion. It's been a few days since I was reincarnated. The news of the Alliance leader's death should have spread by now, shouldn't it? What on earth happened? He rubs his chin, pondering. Could it be that those people want to hide my death? Because if the Wulin Alliance leader dies, the entire martial world will be in an uproar. Suddenly Kwang Dao remembers. Ah, but there are some rumors related to you, young master. He immediately asks, rumors. What rumors? The young man answers honestly. After getting beaten up by Miss Tong, your mind became addled. Bitch Lai Don gives a strained smile. That's also the reason I was injured. I don't know why, but every time I hear the story, I'm truly shocked. He asks curiously, but is Miss Tong really that beautiful? To the point that I had to run over there and take a beating? Mentioning this topic, Kwang Dao gets a little excited. Yes, the young miss was named the #1 beauty of Shandong not long after she returned. Then he reminds him, don't you remember you had to wait in a long line just to see Miss Tong's face, young master? He crosses his arms and replies, I told you I don't remember. He reminisces silently. In my past life, I met many women, including some of the 4 great beauties of the Central Plains, and also one who was called the #1 beauty under heaven at the time, but none of those relationships came to fruition. Perhaps I became an outstanding master at too young an age. So they didn't treat me as a man named Tien Ha Tran, but as the #1 master under heaven, Tien Ha Tran. Back then, the sword was my only fated connection. Next, Kwang Dao puts on a knowing look. Even though you were beaten, you still want to see Miss Tong, right? I understand you, young master. At this moment, Bitch Lai Don stands up and refuses flatly. No need. Kwang Dao is surprised. What? He gives an order. Put the matter of Miss Tong aside for now. Go and get me a sword. The young man is bewildered again. Why get a sword all of a sudden? But Bitch Lai Don's face shows an obvious expression. Why? Does a martial artist need a reason to look for a sword? After a few seconds of silence, Kwang Dao affirms, it seems you really have amnesia, young master. He also replies, I told you it was true. Then Kwang Dao brings a sword. It's scabbard black. I looked for a long time. It's been in the warehouse for a very long time. He takes it with some emotion, his gaze pensive. It's been a long time since I held a sword. He slowly starts to draw the sword. Because I had broken through to the supreme realm, I didn't need to hold a sword to cut down my enemies. But even though I was called a martial god, I still couldn't break through to the realm of the heart sword. The realm of using an invisible sword made from the heart, capable of cutting down anything in this world. The white light from the sword also gradually spills out. He swings the sword and stands straight. If I am to be reincarnated, then I must walk the path that I could not reach in my past life. At this moment, Bitch Lai Don's eyes also become incredibly sharp. Kwang Dao beside him is frightened by this aura. Young master, don't tell me you're planning to get revenge on Miss Tong? He is confused, huh? The young man tries to stop him. You can't do that. He asks again, what are you talking about? But he stops to observe Kwang Dao, looking at this guy's face. It seems he's not enough. He lets out a soft sigh. What kind of person was the owner of this body? Really? Before he could do anything, he sees the sect master's wife approaching. Do you really want to do that, son? Kwang Dao quickly bows in greeting. Greetings, great madam, she says in a stern voice. Are you really planning to harm Ho Alan? He replies, that's not it. She doesn't believe him. Then why are you holding a sword in your hand? Bitch Lai Don is utterly helpless. If he didn't normally practice martial arts, then he deserves to hear these words when holding a sword. He thinks and replies, I'm planning to practice martial arts. The sect master's wife is astonished. Practice martial arts? You? These words also startle Kwang Dao. She frowns and scolds. Do you want to lie until the very end? If that's the case, you're definitely plotting something. Bitch Lai Don cuts in. Mother, I don't know what I will be able to do with this sword in the future. The sect master's wife is both surprised and confused by him. Then she hears him continue. But at the very least, I will not attack my fiancé. Bitch Lai Don affirms, because I don't use it to threaten those who are weaker than me. The sect master's wife's eyes widen in bewilderment. He thinks to himself, because I was immersed in martial arts and taking care of the Wulin, I was unable to build a family of my own. Then he decides, I don't know why I was reincarnated into Bitch Lai Don's body, but from now on, I will live as this Bitch Lai Don. He reassures her, Mother, don't worry. These words render the sect master's wife even more speechless. Several days have passed. Bitch Lai Don's eyes are shut tight with a white aura surrounding him. It turns out he is sitting cross-legged, meditating, and cultivating. Inside his body, the Dantian is also gradually growing. A powerful aura erupts from within his body, then begins to gradually dissipate. Bitch Lai Don lets out a sigh of relief. He rejoices silently in his heart. I have cleansed the impure internal energy of the past 5 years. The heavenly martial heart protection art is the #1 heart art under heaven. It helps the body circulate chi and regulate breath after gaining consciousness. His eyes are determined. Now, I just need to increase my internal energy with the heavenly martial heart protection art and cultivate my physical strength. Just then, the door to the room is suddenly opened by someone. Kwang Dao runs in to announce, something big has happened. Bitch Lai Don judges. It's finally here. He asks seriously, the alliance leader, is he dead? He is met with a scornful look from Kwang Dao. What are you talking about, young master? Why would you say the alliance leader is dead? Then a commotion unfolds. Sect Master Tong has arrived. He asks, puzzled, who is that? The young man explains. He is Miss Tong's father, the great hero Tong, no kin. Bitch Lai Don is confused. He's here. So he's here, what's the rush? Kwang Dao had been speaking hesitantly, but now he blurts it out. He came with Miss Tong. Outside, the trees sway in the wind, a few leaves falling. As they walk outside, Kwang Dao reminds him, "Young master, you really can't cause any trouble this time." He replies, "I know." The young man is trembling slightly. "You must apologize very formally. Do you understand, young master?" He replies nonchalantly, "I know already." Suddenly, they both stop. Bitch Lai Don is a little surprised, while Kwang Dao behind him has turned pale with fear. Seeing him, the bitch sect master greets him cheerfully. "You're here. You're here?" A look of clear surprise is on his face. This stunningly beautiful girl in pink is the successor of the Song family manor, Song Warren. He sighed to himself. "She's much more beautiful than I thought. I see why Bai Li Dan went crazy." At that moment, Song Warren's charming eyes glanced at him, then shifted away slightly. Bai Li Dan bowed in respect. "It's been a while. Are you well, clan master?" Song Warren's father replied gently, "Yes, I'm very well." He was Song Okyung. He also quickly apologized. This junior sincerely apologizes for what happened that day. At the mention of this, Song Warren looked a little sorrowful. Suddenly, Song Okyung turned and called out to her, "Warren." Seeing this, the Bai clan master stepped in to mediate. Now, the fault lies with my son after all. You don't need to blame Warren like that." Hearing this, Song Okyung softened. But unexpectedly, before long, Song Warren spoke up. "Since everyone is gathered here, I have something to say." The Bai clan master asked kindly, "What is it you want to say?" She raised her head and replied, "I want to break off the engagement." These words rather surprised Bai Li Dan. The Bai clan master and his wife, along with Song Okyung, were also in disbelief. Her gaze was firm, without a hint of jest. Bai Li Dan also watched, her with wide eyes. Song Okyung became angry and shouted, What did you just say?" Song Warren explained, "Isn't this just an arranged marriage? It may be disrespectful to say this, but I believe I am qualified to choose a husband for myself." These words once again left the Bai clan master, the clan master's wife, and Song Okyung speechless. Bai Li Dan, standing beside them, understood the reason and let out a sigh. The sky over the Bai household was still clear, the mountains lush and green. Once again, he looked at the bewildered faces of the three elders. Song Warren shyly bowed her head. "I sincerely apologize to you both." Her eyes were filled with sadness. "Since I was young, you have cherished me like your own daughter, but I have absolutely no intention of marrying young Master Bai." Hearing this, the Bai clan master and the clan master's wife were a bit stunned and awkward. Song Okyung couldn't contain his anger and shouted, "What are you talking about? They love you like their own daughter, so why would you demand to break the engagement?" He questioned, "And you didn't even discuss it with me first." Song Warren hesitated, calling out, "Father." He didn't stop. "Are you looking down on me, the clan master, and the great madam like this?" Song Warren bowed her head and did not reply. Seeing the tense situation, the Bai clan master came to intervene. "Okyung, calm down. Warren must have her own reasons. That's why." Song Okyung was still shouting. Even so, just then, Bai Li Dan spoke up to defuse the situation. "I agree with Miss Song." Even Song Warren's eyes widened in surprise. Once again, the three elders were alarmed. They all looked at him. Guangdu, behind him, couldn't help but stand, frozen. Song Warren also turned to look at him in disbelief. Song Okyung sighed. "I sincerely apologize. Please don't be hurt by this." Bai Li Dan thought to himself emotionally. This guy was the one in the wrong from the start. Why is he apologizing? It seems that although this person is trash, he is surrounded by many good people. He explained, "I'm not saying this because I'm hurt." Song Okyung was confused. "Then why?" Bai Li Dan raised his head and replied, "I also do not want an unwilling marriage." At this, Song Warren was rendered speechless by him. The Bai clan master and the clan master's wife closed their eyes in acceptance. Then the Bai clan master said softly, "All right, if that's what you children want, then so be it." But Song Okyung disagreed. "Why you too, clan master?" "No, the engagement cannot be broken." The Bai clan master again explained on Song Warren's behalf. But as Warren said, "We cannot decide the child's future for her." Song Okyung shouted, "Absolutely not." Then he turned and walked away. "That's enough talk for today." Song Warren lowered her face, then glanced at the person beside her. She asked curiously, "Why did you change your mind?" Bai Li Dan exhaled and replied, "Because your fists are too strong." Hearing that, she didn't ask any further. She bowed to the Bai clan master and the clan master's wife, then left with Song Okyung. Watching Song Warren leave, Bai Li Dan felt a bit helpless. The Bai clan master let out a sigh. At this moment, the clan master's wife spoke up. "What are you planning to do?" He immediately replied, "I sincerely apologize, father and mother, but I have no intention of marrying anyone at this time because I have things to do." She questioned, "If you had no intention of marrying, then why did you run to Warren's place and cause a scene?" Bai Li Dan didn't make excuses and lowered his head. "I'm sorry." He thought to himself, "I don't know what to say because those were things the owner of this body did, not me." Suddenly, the clan master's wife repeated his words. "But you said you have things to do at this time?" He answered honestly, "Yes, as I said before, I want to practice martial arts." She was surprised. "Are you serious?" Bai Li Dan said confidently, "Yes." The clan master's wife was once again rendered speechless. Seeing this, the Bai clan master beside her put his arm around her. "Come on, let's go. It's been a while. Let's have a drink together." She was bewildered. Why are we suddenly going for a drink?" He looked visibly happy. "Since our son has said so, shouldn't we go have a celebratory drink?" The clan master's wife still didn't want to leave. But but the Bai clan master pushed her along. Come on, let's go. Looking at their retreating backs, Bai Li Dan sighed emotionally. Every time I look into their eyes, my heart feels a pang. His eyes were filled with sadness. I never expected them to worry and trust this trash body so much. He once thought, I've always feared that family is what makes a martial artist weak, because once you feel love, your heart will gradually soften. If that's the case, you can't be ruthless when you need to be. Once again, he watched their retreating backs. Inside the Bai family's residence, Bai Li Dan stood panting nonstop. Sweat dripped down. He wiped away the sweat with his hand. He sighed inwardly. Just this much and my stamina is already exhausted. I ran 20 li without using internal energy to improve my stamina, but my current stamina is truly terrible. But it's okay. If I keep training, there will be changes after a while. Then he opened the door and went outside. Something made him startle. It's Song Warren. She's as beautiful as ever. Seeing Bai Li Dan's gaze, she turned away sharply. Don't get the wrong idea. I didn't come here because I wanted to. Then she stated her purpose. My father told me to come and apologize to you. Unexpectedly, he was very direct. I didn't misunderstand. Suddenly, Song Warren fell silent. Then she brought up the past incident. Do you remember what you said that day when you were drunk? He wondered, letting out a hum. Seeing this, Song Warren kindly reminded him. Let's see how long that pretty face will last. One day it will just be wrinkled and ugly. Don't act so high and mighty. Bai Li Dan sighed to himself. This guy, he really has no tact. He had to face it. I sincerely apologize for what happened that day. Song Warren cut him off. You were right. He was startled, not knowing what she was about to say. Song Warren repeated those words. Right now, everyone praises my appearance. But when I get old, no one will look at me anymore. That's why I want my name to be famous for my strength, not my looks. So right now, I have absolutely no intention of being romantic with anyone. Bai Li Dan's face was blank, looking incredibly foolish. But she affirmed with one sentence. However, the biggest reason I'm breaking the engagement is still that I hate you. He hesitated. Your thinking is very sound. She was a little curious. You agreed to break the engagement. Was it because your pride was hurt? He tilted his head in surprise. After understanding, he let out a breath. He didn't explain, just replied, you can think whatever you like. Bai Li Dan thought this was the right thing to do. That's right. These are the feelings one should have at the age of 20. Meeting and parting, laughing and crying together. The owner of this body, that's why he often acted so rashly. He smiled lightly. You don't need to worry, because I have no intention of changing my decision to break the engagement. Song Warren was stunned into silence. Bai Li Dan walked past her. As he got close, he stopped. From now on, I will no longer stand in your way. This time, she was so surprised her eyes went wide. Song Warren glanced at his retreating back. She was lost in thought. As for Bai Li Dan, he looked extremely calm. He reflected, my 20s were too full of slaughter. The time when I wielded a sword, fought everywhere, and killed every demon lord of the Central Plains. My youth was not a bright green, but only a dull gray mixed with the color of blood. Back then, I lived a very tiring life. Suddenly, a sound from afar caught Bai Li Dan's attention. He looked towards the door of the house, somewhat pensive. He went outside, where the forest was completely covered in white snow. Bai Li Dan stood in a clearing, holding a sword. He began to spread his feet apart. He placed his left hand on his right wrist, which was holding the sword. Using the soul-chasing Azura sword technique, Bai Li Dan brandished the sword, emitting powerful waves of energy. As he moved, he thought, I used this sword technique to pierce the hearts of the 13 leaders of the 10 alliances of the Dark Path. Right now, he was extremely serious, as if in a real battle. Facing a great and brutal figure, he got into a ready stance, his eyes determined. He swung the sword decisively. A sound rang out as the blade swiftly swept across. Bai Li Dan recalled that time, beheading the leader of the Blood Heaven demonic cult and taking the seat of the #1 under heaven. His feet were planted firmly on the thick snow. His entire body emitted an incredibly powerful aura. His lips were pressed tightly together. His eyes determined, his spirit blazing. A loud roar echoed, and the snow began to be blown up into the air. Viewed from behind the dense trees in the forest, a blinding white light appeared, dazzling the eyes. In the middle of the forest, the snow seemed to have been slashed away, leaving many hollows. Where Bai Li Dan stood, a vortex formed surrounding his body. He reflected, this body is better than I thought when performing martial arts. Feeling lucky, he let out a breath. He was also a bit confused. Is it because he has a talent for martial arts? Bai Li Dan, why do you possess such a talented body, yet live like such a piece of trash? The next day, at a pavilion by a lake near the edge of the forest, Song Warren's attendant reported, I heard that young Master Bai has been practicing martial arts lately. Song Warren was surprised. Practicing martial arts? She nodded. Yes, the entire Bai Sword clan is in an uproar about it, because young Master Bai has never practiced before. She said with some confidence, it seems he's trying to show off in front of you, my lady. Song Warren replied wistfully, unfortunately, he has no such intention. This made Song Warren's attendant disbelieving. Why not? Song Warren remembered Bai Li Dan from that day. The words he said then. It seems they were true. Seeing this, Song Warin's attendant quickly changed the subject. There's a gathering of the rising stars today. Song Warin seemed a bit reluctant. Do I have to go? The attendant replied. Yes, you must. Young Master Yang of the Yangso faction has sent several letters reminding you to attend this gathering. She kept rambling on. As you know, my lady, the Yangso faction. Before she could finish, Song Warin cut her off loudly. Enough. She frowned and continued. I'll go, so stop talking. Song Warin's attendant looked at her with some concern. Then she bowed her head in respect. My sincere apologies, my lady. I will go and prepare. From a distance, the magnificent scenery could be seen, with a flock of birds flying off somewhere in the distance. On the bustling streets, people came and went. Bai Lidan looked outside, thinking, I came out to the streets to see if I could overhear any information related to Myungji's death. He sat alone by the window, reflecting, but there's nothing. He wondered himself, why is the news so slow? Bai Lidan's eyes were sad. I really want to rush to the Martial Arts Alliance headquarters to find out the details, but I can't do that. Suddenly, a figure in pink clothes appeared, catching his attention. Song Warin had also seen him and was a little surprised. The two young masters with her, one in front and one behind, were no less surprised. They exclaimed by Lidan, why is he here? Yang Ji Gang approached and sneered. You rotten brat, I thought you were on the verge of death, but you still look quite healthy. Bai Lidan didn't reply, thinking to himself, does he have a grudge against this guy too? Unexpectedly, Yang Ji Gang was very obnoxious, sitting right on the table to provoke him. I heard you started practicing martial arts lately. What for a plan to fight me? Bai Lidan smiled lightly, and asked in return, why would I practice martial arts to fight someone? Suddenly, his eyes revealed a clear killing intent, and his voice dropped. If you're gonna bother practicing martial arts, you should kill those who want to kill you. Just that was enough to make Yang Ji Gang tremble. This guy's eyes. Looking again, he saw him calmly sipping his tea. Yang Ji Gang couldn't believe it. What me, scared by this by Lidan. But he still tried to act tough. You insolent debtor. I heard from Miss Song that you cried your eyes out when she beat you up. At this, Bai Lidan's eyes were bewildered as he thought, debtor? Did I borrow money from this guy? I'll have to ask Wang Du later. Seeing this, Song Warin spoke up to refute it. I never said that. Yang Ji Gang replied slyly, whether you said it or not, it doesn't matter. Miss Song, don't tell me you're concerned about this person. Song Warin said coldly, not at all. Seeing that it was enough, Bai Lidan put on his hat, preparing to leave. Yang Ji Gang was stunned. Hey, where you going? He yelled from behind. Watch where you're going. Bai Lidan thought, I don't need to waste my emotions on these brats. Although I don't know why I was reborn as Bai Lidan. As he walked past Song Warin, he thought, but at least I have no reason to waste time on these pathetic games. And he didn't stop for a second or say a word to her. The young master in purple clothes looked at his back, puzzled. Why does he seem so different? Song Warin also watched him go, her eyes looking troubled. By the time he returned to the Bai residence, the sun had already set. Inside, Guang Du was still diligently sweeping. As soon as Bai Lidan entered, he saw this scene and was a little curious, asking with concern, it's so late and you're still cleaning? The boy replied, the Yang clan leader will be here soon. Bai Lidan asked back, who is the Yang clan leader? Guang Du was exhausted. Young master, you don't even remember him? He replied, no, I don't. He thought to himself, this kid knows I've lost my memory, but he asks that question every time. Seeing this, Guang Du explained, great hero Yang Ji Chiol is the leader of the Yangso faction. The Yangso faction is the largest faction in Shandong. He asked curiously, is that so? Are we second then? The boy immediately replied, no, sir. The Yangso faction is first, followed by the Song family manor. Our clan is only ranked 10th. Bai Lidan's eyes widened, a little confused. Our clan was once number 1, but we've fallen to such a low rank. What on earth happened? Guang Du was annoyed. Are you kidding, young master? Noticing his look, he immediately understood. Is it because of me? Guang Du nodded. Yes. He added, over the past while, our clan has spent an untold amount of money to deal with all the incidents you caused, leading to financial decline. So the number of martial artists has also decreased. Bai Lidan asked further, is it bad enough that we're in debt? The boy answered honestly, of course, sir. We owe money to many places, but we owe the most to the Yangso faction. Now he remembered what Yang Ji Gang had said earlier. This debtor. He thought to himself, I understand now why he had that attitude towards me. Without stopping, Guang Du continued to describe the current situation. Our clan used to have 3 sword teams, but because the number of members has decreased, there is now only 1. The number of servants has also been reduced by more than half. Furthermore, I heard that the clan's finances have been in dire straits lately, which made him feel helpless. The boy wanted to say more. It's really, but he just fell silent and sighed. Bai Lidan asked with concern, so that must have affected wages, right? Unexpectedly, Guang Du replied, no, sir. Our wages have never been late. The master always manages to arrange for our salaries. He silently blamed himself. Bai Lidan, no, it's me. I've ruined the future of my clan. Then he asked again, all right, but why are you still cleaning so late? Guang Du, holding a bag of trash, replied, when a creditor comes to visit, the house must be clean. Then he continued cleaning. I'm very busy. I'll talk to you later, young master. Seeing this situation, Bai Lidan sighed. Suddenly, a soft voice came from behind. The young master of the Yangso faction hit brother. Guangdu. Looking at the little girl approaching, he wondered, is this little girl Song? I heard Guangdu say that Song he is a good kid. Bai Lidan asked, why did he hit Guangdu? The little girl lowered her head. There was trash in the courtyard, so the young master hit Brother Guangdu for being lazy. He was confused. He hit someone else's servant? Song he cried out in frustration, but the young master was the one who threw the trash there. At this, he became a little angry and his eyes widened. He littered and then hit someone else's servant in my own house? Looking at the wet tear tracks on Song Hee's face, he hesitated. At that time, was I there? The little girl replied, yes. Unexpectedly, Song Hee suddenly became angry. Not only were you there, young master, but you also stood there laughing gleefully when you saw Brother Guangdu being hit. He froze, his face darkening in disbelief at what had happened. He blamed this body. Bai Lidan, you truly are a pathetic psycho. How could you? At that moment, he heard Song Hee continue. But yesterday, Brother Guangdu said that you've changed for the better, young master. He told me to trust you from now on. Bai Lidan went from one surprise to another. So that he wouldn't get too pleased, the little girl quickly added, I didn't believe you, young master, but I will believe Brother Guangdu's words. After speaking, she also bowed to him. Then she turned and left to continue her work, leaving Bai Lidan alone in silence. Suddenly, a sound reached him, and he quickly turned around. In the distance, Guangdu was still focused on cleaning. Looking at Guangdu's focused face, he thought, you were treated like that, and you still treat me so well? As if ashamed, Bai Lidan lowered the brim of his hat and walked away. As he walked out of Guangdu's sight, the evening sky gradually darkened. The starry night sky replaced the day, along with the sound of a report. The Yang clan leader has arrived. The large doors slowly opened. A group of people entered. Yang Jiaichul led the way, followed by Yang Jiaigang and a group of retainers. The moon was full and round, without a single blemish. Lanterns in the corners had been lit. Yang Jiaichul laughed loudly. Are you still well, Bai Clan Master? The Bai Clan Master also laughed politely. Yang Clan leader, you must have had a hard journey coming all this way. Bai Lidan, standing beside them, thought to himself, I heard he used to call my father Great Hero Bai, and his attitude was very warm every time they met. Since when did his attitude change to this? He judged inwardly. Moreover, for him to visit at this time of night, he's clearly looking down on us. Yang Jiaigang's eyes were half closed. He glanced at him. That guy's the one who hit Guangdu for a ridiculous reason? The old man suddenly asked, you must know Great Hero Bang Mundu of Hebei's Bang family, right? The Bai Clan Master replied, of course. Yang Jiaichul stroked his beard smugly. My family has just returned from there, because this time, our manor and the Bang family will be cooperating. I also spoke well of you, Bai Clan Master, to Great Hero Bang. The Bai Clan Master replied politely, thank you for your concern, clan leader. Before long, he heard the old man laugh with delight. His petty face was obvious. You must know that besides me, there's no one else who cares about the Bai Clan. Master, the Bai Clan Master gestured with his hand. Let's go inside to discuss the specifics. The old man said arrogantly, fine. Ahem, when the two elders had gone inside to talk, Yang Jiaigang came over to provoke Bai Lidan. Hey, we meet again, debtor. Bai Lidan encouraged himself, endure it, for my father and the clan. I'm sorry, Guangdu, but just this once. Suddenly, his eyes glanced to the side and saw Guangdu still trembling with fear. He cursed inwardly, damn it. Seeing Guangdu like this makes it hard for me to hold back. He turned to go inside. Since you're here, come in and have a meal. Unexpectedly, Yang Jiaigang cursed, a beggar still trying to save face. As soon as his words left his mouth, Bai Lidan's entire body froze. He continued to provoke from behind. You bastard, stop talking nonsense and pay us back. It's only 20,000 taels, but you're taking forever to pay. Bai Lidan replied coldly, you should watch yourself. I didn't borrow that money from you. His face twisted. Well, you got some nerve. Do you still think you're the successor to Shandong's #1 faction? He replied softly, I know. This surprised Yang Jiaigang. Huh. Bai Lidan said to himself, I know I'm a piece of trash. After saying that, he didn't stop but continued walking inside. Seo Jung, seeing this, was secretly pleased. It seems the young master has really changed. Calm on the outside, Bai Lidan was still in turmoil on the inside. 20,000 taels, a sum large enough to pay off all the debts of a mid-tier clan. What on earth did he do to have to borrow 20,000 taels? A sound from behind reached his ears. He startled and whipped around. It turned out Yang Jiaigang had grabbed Song. If your trash master won't welcome us, then at least you should welcome me. Bai Lidan was furious, a fire igniting in his heart. Guangdu rushed in to try and save Song. Young master, the girl is still young. Yang Jiaigang gritted his teeth in anger. This lowly peasant dares to touch me? Deeply traumatized, Guangdu was terrified and immediately dropped to his knees to beg. I'm sorry. I'm sincerely sorry, young master. Seeing this, Yang Jiaigang was extremely pleased. Does this bastard want to die? Suddenly, he remembered the last time. Are you the brat I beat up back then? Baldy gritted his teeth and bowed his head low. Unexpectedly, Yang Jiaigang spat on the ground right in front of him, stunning everyone there. Then he arrogantly asked, "What is this filth?" Baldy looked at the puddle of spit in terror. Yang Gi Gang shouted, "You bastard. I asked you a question. Why aren't you answering?" "I asked what this is." Baldy stammered, "It's spit, sir." He was very good at playing games and began to scold, "Why is there such filth in the courtyard? We have an honored guest, yet you let the house get this dirty? Didn't I tell you before to keep the house clean?" Baldy's jaw dropped, not expecting this. Then he raised his head and replied, This humble one will clean it right away, sir." Just as he was about to get up, Yang Gi Gang stomped on his hand, and he cried out in pain. His foot still pressed down hard. "What are you doing?" His hand still held Song Hui tightly. The humble one's face contorted. Since spit came from a mouth, shouldn't it be cleaned with a mouth too? Baldy didn't expect him to do this. Over here, Seo Jung's face had already darkened. Even Ding Lu couldn't stand it. Song Hui cried, "Big brother, let me. I'll clean it." Unexpectedly, Baldy snapped at her. "What are you talking about?" Then he loudly reminded her, "Go quickly and see if the clan leader needs anything and serve him quickly. Hurry up." Song Hui closed her eyes as if accepting her fate. Suddenly, they both looked up toward the source of sound. Bai Ridon was slowly approaching. Song Hui felt a bit of anticipation. Yang Gi Gang shouted again, "I said hurry up." Bai Ridon continued his sentence. "That's right. You have to clean up the filth, don't you?" Song Hui's mouth fell open in shock. Baldy also fell silent, his lips pressed tight. Over here, Yang Gi Gang smiled with smug contempt. Seo Jung thought to himself, as expected, there's no way the young master could have changed. Seeing this, Baldy, with tears in his eyes, replied, "Yes, sir, this humble one will clean it right away." He slowly lowered himself to the ground, and tears began to fall. Yang Gi Gang once again flashed a petty and arrogant smile. As Baldy got close to the puddle of spit, his tongue already out, Seo Jung started to step forward. Then he heard Bai Ridon say, "What are you doing? Why should our Baldy clean that?" Baldy stopped immediately. "What, sir?" He smiled harmlessly and replied, "Shouldn't the one who spat it out be the one to clean it?" Baldy exclaimed in shock, young master." Song Hui was no less overjoyed. Bai Ridon's face was full of mockery. "Yang Gi Gang, what are you still standing there for? Why don't you hurry up and clean that filth?" He gritted his teeth in anger. "What did you say?" His eyes darkened as he ordered, "I told you to use your mouth to lick that filth clean." Yang Gi Gang's face gradually contorted. This bastard. His curse was laced with provocation. "You bastard. Did that woman beat you until you went crazy?" Bai Ridon asked Baldy, "Are you alright?" He asked back, "Young master, what's wrong? Just let this humble one clean it." He was very calm. "Didn't you hear what I said? Why should you clean that?" These words left Baldy endlessly surprised. Young master. Looking at Bai Ridon's determined eyes, he was a bit stunned, but he also stood up, bowed his head in a salute. "This humble one understands, sir." He stood there and ordered, "I will handle this matter. You all don't need to interfere." Seo Jung behind him was confused, looking at his back and pondering something. Then he also clasped his hands respectfully. Sword Squad Captain Seo Jung will obey. Over here, Yang Gi Gang sneered again. "What can you possibly do to handle this?" Bai Ridon paid him no mind, only stating his demand. "If you apologize, I will consider this matter closed." He was sharp-tongued. Even if you licked it with that mouth, the floor would only get dirtier. He replied with a disdainful attitude, "I'm not apologizing." "So what?" Bai Ridon announced. "Neither slowly nor quickly, then you'll get a beating." Yang Gi Gang walked over step by step, mocking, "Then let me see the strength of the great bitchin' Sword Clan successor." He smiled slyly. "You have no idea how long I've waited for this day. You beggar who doesn't even have a bit of money." Yang Gi Gang swung his fist. "Today, I will turn you into a cripple. Prepare to drag your body out to the streets and beg." Bai Ridon still stood still, a sharp glint in his eyes. Then he quickly punched him in the shoulder, a very powerful blow, making everyone there jump. Yang Gi Gang clutched his face in pain and staggered back, coughing a few times. He cursed angrily, "You bastard." Then he swung his fist and charged forward again. Seo Jung sensed it and wanted to step in. Young Master Yang is using his internal energy. I must stop them quickly. Unexpectedly, Bai Ridon easily dodged it. He was also calculating in his head. He's using internal energy? If he hits me, he could kill me. Another fist came straight down towards his lower body. Bai Ridon dodged to the side. Suddenly, he let out a cunning laugh and thought, "All right then." Seo Jung and his subordinate, who were stepping forward, also froze in astonishment. On one side was Yang Gi Gang, continuously throwing powerful punches. On the other was Bai Ridon, lightly dodging without expending any internal energy. Seo Jung silently assessed the young master's movements. He can't run forever. Bai Ridon landed a blow on Yang Gi Gang, making his face contort as he coughed up blood. He staggered backward, coughing. Yang Gi Gang's face was already bruised and scraped. He cursed angrily, You bastard." Just as he finished speaking, Bai Ridon appeared in front of him. As quick as a flash, he landed 3 blows on 3 different spots on Yang Gi Gang's body. Bai Ridon cursed inwardly. "You will never know that what you do will cause those children to live with trauma for the rest of their lives." Once more, Yang Gi Gang's entire body took a blow from him, his face already contorted. He stepped back to gain momentum, a person like you will absolutely never be able to understand. Finally, he threw a punch straight into Yang Gi Gang's body. sending him flying backward. Ding Lu, Seo Jung, Song Hui, and Baldy all had their eyes wide and jaws dropped. Only when Yang Ji Gang fell heavily to the ground did they react. Young Master, the aura around by Redon was gradually dissipating. Ding Lu helped Yang Ji Gang up and turned to question. What do you think you're doing? Bai Redon calmly replied. Didn't you all see what he did? Telling someone to lick up the spit he spat out. Is that something a human being should do? These words silenced Ding Lu and his subordinate. Only Yang Ji Gang was still stubborn. Kill him. His face ferocious, he roared, kill that bastard for me. This is an order. At this moment, Ding Lu hesitated slightly as he looked at him. Seeing this, Yang Ji Gang immediately threw a punch at Ding Lu's face. What are you still standing there for? He calculated in his mind, although the Bitchin clan is just a minor power now, I can't just kill their successor over something like this. His hand rested on the hilt of his sword, somewhat hesitant, but if I don't obey the order. Before Bai Redon could speak, Seo Jung stepped forward. Young Master Yang gave this order in a moment of agitation, so I cannot ignore it. He also placed his hand on his sword hilt as a subtle warning. Please consider the consequences and reconsider. The two sides were at a stalemate, neither willing to back down. Ding Lu on this side was a bit bewildered and hesitant, while Seo Jung was resolute and determined. Then Ding Lu compromised. Senior is right. He thought to himself, we can't possibly kill the successor of the Bitchin. Sword Clan. He thought, this matter can only be resolved by the clan leaders. Before anything else, Yang Ji Gang pushed him aside, drawing his sword from its sheath. You useless bunch. He charged forward, shouting, die, you bastard. Seo Jung gritted his teeth, no. But Bai Redon still easily dodged. Then he grabbed the wrist of the arm, holding the sword of Yang Ji Gang. His sharp eyes glanced at him. Yang Ji Gang nervously glanced back at him. Another grab on the bicep, both hands using force, twisting it back. Immediately, he clutched his arm and screamed in pain, as if his arm had been bent in several places. Not stopping, Bai Redon raised his knee and forcefully kneed Yang Ji Gang's body once more. He screamed again, clutching his injured leg. Still not satisfied, Bai Redon prepared a fist. From below, straight up to Yang Ji Gang's chin. Both blood from his nose and mouth spurted out. Ding Lu also didn't think he would strike so heavily. Bai Redon, however, was very calm. Yang Ji Gang rolled a few times on the ground. Seo Jung and Baldy's jaws dropped in shock. Bai Redon maintained his posture, looking at them. Ding Lu rushed to catch him, and then ordered, quickly hit the young master's pressure points and call a physician. And you guys go inform the clan chief. Hurry up. Baldy was so worried for him that he stammered. What's wrong with the young master? Why did you get into a fight with the people from the great Yang Minor clan? In the inn, why? Young master, you should hide first. Let the clan leader handle what comes after. He shook his arm. If you just stay here and wait for the Yang clan chief to appear, it will be a big problem. Young master, hurry up. He calmly replied, I don't want to. He was confused. Why? Why not? Didn't Baldy know that he was worried about him? Because if I do that, you'll have to take the blame for me. This whole thing started when I stepped in to stop Yang Ji Gang from insulting my servant. So Baldy would definitely be in trouble. That's why I can't leave here. Baldy looked at him, bewildered. Why is the young master looking at this humble one like that? Young master, hurry. Bai Redon glanced over as a reminder. It's too late. He also looked in the direction he was looking. From a distance, Yang Ji Chol could be seen approaching aggressively, followed by the Bitchin clan leader. Because he was in such a hurry, the old man was panting, mixed with anger. Bai Redon, also sweating a little, announced, don't worry, if I die, I'll drag you down with me. Baldy pressed his lips together in fear. In the sky, the moon was still illuminating a part of the Bitchin estate. Yang Ji Chol asked in confusion, What happened? Yang Ji Gang sat on the ground, groaning. Father, this bastard tried to kill your son. Hearing that, the old man's sharp gaze shot to the side. Bai Redon remained as calm as if nothing had happened. Yang Ji Chol asked again suspiciously, really? Ding Lu hesitated. About that, before he could answer, the old man slapped him. The old man frowned and shouted loudly, you idiot. Yang Ji Chol didn't stop physically assaulting Ding Lu. What did you do to let the successor of the great Yang Minor clan end up like this? On this side, the Bitchin clan leader and Bai Redon were both silent. Only Baldy was still worried. Just when Ding Lu coughed up blood and fell to the ground, it seemed Yang Ji Chol had stopped. But no, he continued to kick him repeatedly. Baldy didn't think it would be so brutal, but Bai Redon beside him remained indifferent. Both Yang Ji Gang and his subordinates were also shocked by this anger. After a while of beating, Yang Ji Chol finally stopped. He called out, Bitchin clan leader, how do you intend to take responsibility for this? The Bitchin clan leader looked towards Bai Redon. He was silent, not knowing how to answer. Seeing this, he immediately asked Seo Jung, what happened? Seo Jung immediately replied, the thing is, he mentioned from the moment Yang Ji Gang grabbed Song Hui, Baldy, wanting to save the girl, had touched him. The Bitchin clan leader's face darkened. Over here, Yang Ji Chol gritted his teeth in anger. Then it came to the part where Yang Gi Gang stomped on Baldy's hand, forcing him to lick his puddle of spit clean. Over here, Baldy, not daring to face it, closed his eyes. As for Yang Gi Gang, he was still seething with anger. Byridon, as usual, did not offer any explanation. After hearing the story, the Bitchin clan leader was silent for a moment. Unexpectedly, Yang Gi Chul had already exploded with rage. So just because of those two servants, you beat my son to this state? You dare to hit my son? Byridon still did not answer. The old man looked at him with a sharp gaze. So how do you intend to take responsibility? Before he could answer, the Bitchin clan leader spoke first. The one who should take responsibility is you, Yang clan chief. This startled him, who was standing behind, and even the others present were endlessly astonished. Yang Gi Chul smiled slyly. Bitchin clan leader, what did you say? The Bitchin clan leader questioned back. Young Master Yang not only used his internal energy, but he also drew his sword in an attempt to take my son's life. He took another step forward, while my son only used his bare hands. The people here can bear witness. Seo Jung smiled happily in his heart. On this side, the people of the Yang family frowned and lowered their heads, not saying a word. The Bitchin clan leader's voice was stern. This matter can be considered a serious crime, but out of respect for the Yang clan chief, I will temporarily forgive. At this time, when Yang Gi Chul heard this, he shouted, "What?" The Bitchin clan leader continued without compromise. If this matter gets out in the martial world, not only young Master Yang, but your esteemed clan will also become a laughingstock for the world. Yang Gi Chul's facial muscles twitched. What did the clan leader say? These words made the Bitchin clan leader completely furious, his voice rising. So now, what does the clan chief intend to do? Yang Gi Chul looked at him in bewilderment, speechless. Even Byridon's eyes widened in shock. Looking at his back, he was dazed. I thought my father was a bit timid, but it turns out that's not the case. Seeing this, Yang Gi Chul resorted to petty tricks. Perhaps I can't continue this conversation civilly. Bitchin clan leader, return all the money you borrowed from me right now. Unexpectedly, the Bitchin clan leader just replied coldly. Fine. Then he ordered, see your guests out. Yang Gi Chul trembled with anger. Behind him, Yang Gi Gang also shakily stood up. The old man gave the order. We're leaving. The people of the Bitchin clan all stood there watching the group leave. Only then did the Bitchin clan leader ask him, why? Byridon was silent for a few seconds before replying. He ordered a member of our family to do an unreasonable thing. It was clearly a sign of contempt for our clan. Baldy and Song Hui were shocked when they heard him say the two words, our family. Even the Bitchin clan leader tilted his head to look at him. Then he turned and walked away. Squad Captain Seo, walk with me for a moment. Seo Jung bowed and replied, yes, clan leader. Byridon frowned, waiting for them to walk away. Suddenly, he remembered something. He turned to look at Baldy and Song Hui. Byridon asked, you two must have been very scared, right? Song Hui quickly said, that's right, sir. He reassured them. You don't need to be afraid of him harassing you. That guy is nothing to be afraid of. Byridon promised, so you can rest assured. From now on, I and the elder brothers of our clan will protect you. Song Hui was surprised. What, sir? The disciples of the Bitchin clan also smiled and nodded. In confirmation, seeing this, Song Hui was deeply moved and bowed her head. Thank you, young master. Thank you, uncles. With the matter settled, the two disciples quickly left. Only then did Baldy have time to turn to him. Aren't you scared, young master? He wondered, why should I be scared? Baldy explained, the great Yang minor clan could attack us. As this humble one said before, they are currently the #1 in Shandong. Byridon reminded him, didn't you see the look on that martial artist's face earlier? He despises his master immensely. There aren't many who are loyal to that young Master Yang. Remembering Seo Jung, he continued, however, our sword squad is different. Baldy was still very scared, but their numbers are still much greater than ours. He replied softly, fights aren't just based on numbers. Besides, a war won't break out that easily. He retorted, but that young Master Yang was beaten black and blue. Byridon calculated his mind. A quick-witted person like the Yang clan chief certainly won't act rashly. He only acts when he is sure of victory in his hands. He explained, Yang Gi Chul didn't consider his son's condition. He was angry not because his son was injured, but because his son was beaten. Baldy was a bit confused. It's the same thing, sir. But he retorted, it's different, fundamentally very different. According to Byridon's speculation, he is a selfish person who only thinks of himself. Baldy was still dazed. This humble one doesn't understand what the young master is saying. But Byridon just instructed, you go back and rest. You've had a hard day today. Unexpectedly, just as he was about to leave, he heard him call out, young master. He turned back in surprise. Baldy was shy. Thank you, young master. Byridon smiled happily. Then he just left one sentence behind. Don't forget my favor. This made him a little disappointed. But he quickly smiled as he watched his retreating back. Though his expression was calm, Byridon was still calculating in his mind. With my experience, he won't act. Right away. Looking at that expression, he could guess. But he will definitely find a way to get revenge. He thought, or in a way that doesn't get his hands dirty. I have to act before that happens. The scene changes to the Bitchin clan leader's residence. He was shouting, no, looking at the clan leader's wife, admiring an object inside a wooden box. He disagreed. Isn't this your family heirloom? It's the thing you cherish the most. She said softly. The Yang clan chief is a petty man. He certainly won't care about the greater good. Holding the heirloom in her hand, the clan leader's wife decided. So if we sell this, we can pay back almost all the money we owe them. The bitchin' clan leader shouted. Absolutely not. As long as I haven't closed my eyes for the last time, you're absolutely not to sell it. She explained. It's just an object. He didn't accept it and retorted. It's not an ordinary object. It's a relic left by our ancestors, the thing you cherish the most. Unexpectedly, a bright smile appeared on that wrinkled face. You're wrong. You and Donor are the ones I cherish the most. These words stunned the bitchin' clan leader. The bitchin' clan leader thought, husband, Donor has come to his senses. The thing we are protecting is not this, but our son. He hesitated. You believe in that boy? She quickly replied, of course. The bitchin' clan leader retorted, even after being deceived so many times? The clan leader's wife replied very gently, after all, he is our son. The bitchin' clan leader didn't expect this answer. He lovingly embraced her. He didn't realize that outside, Byredon was standing and witnessing everything. He was silent. I was going to apologize to my parents for what happened earlier, but I didn't expect to hear this. At first, I thought I was reincarnated, for my own sake. He looked up at the blue sky and thought. Then I thought I was reincarnated for Byredon. But after hearing their story, I think heaven let me be reincarnated for them. The original Byredon still didn't understand. But why me? I've never felt anything called family affection in my entire life. High above, the bright moon seemed to understand his heart, hearing him lament. I'm just someone who can't sleep if I can't pay back tenfold what I've suffered to the one who harmed me. The next day, in a place of rolling mountains, a horse-drawn carriage was traveling on a winding path. He stammered. For what, sir? His eyes never left the book. I'm going to resolve this matter. Baldy's eyes widened in shock as he looked at him. Then he hesitated. But why did the young master bring this humble one along? Unexpectedly, he gave him a choice. I have two answers for you. One easy to hear, one hard to hear. Which do you want to hear first? Baldy replied, as if accepting his fate. Young master, please say the hard to hear one first, sir. Byredon replied, because this matter, in the end, started because of you. He let out an of understanding, then nodded in acceptance, and slowly asked again. So what's the easy to hear answer, sir? A glint of joy appeared in his eyes. Because you're the only one I trust. This sentence left Baldy dumbfounded. Then he sighed. How sad is that? The young master doesn't know many people, and the relationships he does have are very bad. He asked worriedly, has the young master prepared a plan? He looked very calm. I'll just think as I go. Baldy still couldn't believe it. What kind of injury could make a person change so positively? Byredon's mouth was a bit playful. You could be like that too. The number of people who want to beat you up in this place is countless. If you get hit in the head once, you might change for the better like this too. Once again, he was left speechless. He thought to himself, before, I would never have been able to make jokes like this. Is it because my body has become young again that I can joke around? If not, perhaps it's because I had to live and endure such strict rituals that I lost myself. Over here, at the Yang family's residence, Yang Jiaichul was scolding with his arms crossed. Useless. How could you be beaten by that brat? Yang Ji Gang's whole body ached, covered in bandages, unable to sit up. Father, you have to kill Byredon for me, and that damn father of his too. No, you have to crush the entire bitchin' sword clan. The old man replied, that's what I want to do too. Remembering the scene from that day, Yang Jiaichul became even angrier. That old man dared to look down on me? A useless bunch that can't even get into the 10 great sects of Shandong dares to look down on me? He announced, I've already called the bloodhounds. Yang Ji Gang was terrified by his own father's words. Yang Jiaichul smiled slyly. They have to know the price of messing with my son, don't they? Back on the carriage, Baldy stared at the title of the book in Byredon's hand. He covered his hand and asked in a low voice, isn't this the clan leader's exclusive martial art? He replied, that's right. Why are you suddenly whispering? He explained, because this is a very precious martial art. How can we let the carriage driver hear it? Byredon teased him again. Then don't you think you yourself look very suspicious? Hearing that, Baldy immediately covered his mouth as if afraid someone would find out, then pretended to laugh loudly. The White Moon sword technique is just a worthless sword technique. Unexpectedly, he was hit with a bucket of cold water. I'll have to tell father about this. This made Baldy's face freeze up. He immediately changed his tune. Young master, what's wrong? The #1 sword style in the world is, of course, the White Moon sword style. Vichlite Doan casually replied, one moment this, the next moment that. You're truly suspicious. Kwang Dao called out shyly. Young master. Vichlite Doan again gave a faint, amused smile. He focused on the moves within the White Moon sword style and then assessed. To be honest, this martial art isn't bad. If I were to seriously evaluate it, it would be in the upper middle tier. I don't necessarily have to practice it, but to hide my true martial arts, I have no other choice. Kwang Dao spoke up again at this moment. This humble one is really not used to the sight of the young master reading something. He hesitated. Until now, the only things the young master would read were tavern menus and lists of courtesans. Vichlite Doan cut him off. Do you want to learn martial arts? Startling Kwang Dao into exclaiming, yes. After thinking for a few seconds, he replied, no. He hit the crucial point and asked again, you just hesitated, didn't you? His eyes darkened. Not at all. How could someone like this humble one learn martial arts? His words seemed harsh, but were actually encouraging. What kind of person is someone like you? Even someone like Dyun Ko Kwang can practice martial arts. Kwang Dao still replied sorrowfully, because he was born into a prestigious family. That young master must have studied martial arts with a master since he was a child. Bitch Lai Don closed the book and explained, the important thing in becoming a martial artist of the Jianghu is not family background or a master. Kwang Dao forced a smile. Then what is important? This question also made him fall silent for a few seconds. Over here, he had started to point things out. God-given talent, bone structure, or willpower. Ah, it's effort, right? Bitch Lai Don replied. There's something even more important than that. This piqued his curiosity a little. What on earth is it, young master? He only said 2 words, affinity. Kwang Dao was a bit surprised. He looked up and asked him, affinity? Bitch Lai Don smiled. That's right, an affinity with the Jianghu. Kwang Dao's eyes widened in surprise. But as if he still didn't understand, he crossed his arms. Hey, what is that? If the young master doesn't want to tell this humble one, just say so. He looked at him, a little amused. He thought to himself, this kid thinks I'm just joking, but I'm being completely serious. To become a martial artist of the Jianghu, the truly most important factor is affinity. At this moment, he was reminded of Zhuge Liang and Bao. Suddenly, Bitch Lai Don glanced outside. Then Kwang Dao also looked out the window. After traveling for a whole day to an inn, Bitch Lai Don said to the innkeeper, give me a room. Hearing this, Kwang Dao quickly said, then this humble one will sleep in the carriage. Hearing this, he glanced over in confusion. What nonsense are you talking about? Do you think I deliberately got 1 room so you could sleep outside in this cold weather? He exclaimed in surprise. Yes. As he walked, he explained, what I mean is that you and I can share a room. 1 room has 2 beds. Why rent 2 rooms? It's a waste of money. Kwang Dao still wanted to refuse. No, how can this humble one sleep in the same room as the young master? This humble one will sleep in the carriage. Unexpectedly, he was cut off by Bitch Lai Don. All right, let's have a drink and then go up to the room. Kwang Dao turned back and forth and asked, with this humble one? Over here. He had already sat down and replied with a smile. Who else is here? Waiter, bring me a jug of wine and some snacks. The girl behind him immediately replied, yes, sir. But Kwang Dao still stood motionless. Seeing this, he urged, hurry up and sit down. What are you doing? He slowly walked over and replied, yes. He asked with concern, what's wrong now? Kwang Dao hesitated slightly. The thing is, this is a first. It turned out he was moved. It's the first time this humble one has sat drinking with the young master, and also the first time sleeping in the same room as the young master. Hearing this, he cursed inwardly. Bitch Lai Don was truly a fool. Then he quickly picked up the wine jug. Here, accept a cup for me. This frightened Kwang Dao, who hurriedly stood up, young master. Young master, please give it to this humble one. I will pour for you first. He casually said, all right, you receive first. He kept waving his hands in refusal. Young master, Bitch Lai Don is very strange to Kwang Dao today, extremely courteous. You're older than me, so you should accept a cup for me first. Hurry up. Kwang Dao held up his cup with both hands to let him pour the wine. He shyly tried to stop him. Ah, this won't do. This humble one is just a servant. I can't be so disrespectful. This will be the only time. I will not forget this for the rest of my life. Then he reminded him, oh, shouldn't the young master drink with this humble one? Bitch Lai Don also poured wine for himself. It's all right. Suddenly, something flashed through his mind. Now this humble one gets it. Bitch Lai Don's action of drinking wine stopped. Kwang Dao's expression darkened. Young master, you brought this humble one along to kill me, didn't you? These words made him freeze, forgetting to drink his wine. He asked with some anxiety, that's why you're treating this humble one so well, isn't it? Seeing him not answer, he quickly affirmed, it seems I'm right. He used his hand to wipe the wine stain from his mouth. He let out a helpless sigh, only to hear Kwang Dao explain. Before slaughtering a buffalo, the farmer also feeds it good food. The night grew later, and from outside the inn, Kwang Dao's voice could still be heard. Young master, this humble one was too busy earlier and didn't get to ask. Bitch Lai Don looked up and asked, what is it? He was a little curious. It's about the young master's martial arts. How could you defeat that guy so easily? He casually drank his wine and replied, I've been practicing lately, haven't I? Kwang Dao retorted, it's only been about 10 days. Unexpectedly, Bitch Lai Don thought, to deal with a piece of trash, 10 days is more than enough. Kwang Dao kept looking him up and down. No matter how I look, you're still the young master. But how can you be so different? While pouring wine, he replied, there's a saying that great vessels are slow to complete. He again picked up the wine cup and drank it in one go, then slammed it on the table. This humble one doesn't dare hope for a great vessel. He continued expectantly, but it won't be a broken vessel, will it? Bitch Lai Don affirmed, it won't break. Kwang Dao was a bit insistent. Promise me, young master, that you will never go back to how you were before. But he thought, words are like the wind. What's the point of such a promise? He wanted to hear it again. It's important to this humble one. This humble one must hear the young master's promise. Bitch Lai Don's gaze deepened, his movements stopping. Kwang Dao waited nervously for him. In the end, it was Bitch Lai Don who compromised. All right, I promise. Hearing the words he wanted to hear, he let out a sigh of relief. Then he revealed a secret. I've been hiding my martial arts. The truth is I'm stronger than you can. Imagine. Kwang Dao looked up in surprise. The young master hid his martial arts. Why? He tilted his head back and drained his cup, explaining, if you want to live a long life in the Jianghu, you must hide 30% of your true strength. He was confused. Could it be that you deliberately acted insolently like a wastrel son? This topic gave him a headache. Ah, that's not it. It's just that in the moment Miss Tong hit me, I suddenly realized I couldn't go on living like this. It's hard to believe, but I truly awakened. He affirmed to himself, this kid will believe my words, because I've changed so much since then. Then he raised a wine jug and said, let me pour you another cup. Unexpectedly, Kwang Dao refused. A servant who is treated too well will become ill-behaved. Bitch Lai Don replied casually, it's fine if you become a little ill-behaved. This made Kwang Dao feel as if he was being spoiled, a little hard to believe. He quickly held out his cup with both hands, waiting for him to pour. Bitch Lai Don also smiled happily, looking at him. Then he also poured wine for Kwang Dao. Holding the cup in his hand, he sighed, come to think of it, this is probably the first time in my life I've been able to get drunk to my heart's content like this. Both of them drained the cups in their hands. The next morning, they arrived in Dongben, a place of majestic and beautiful mountains. The two were walking on a path, Kwang Dao looking around. So what do we do now? Bitch Lai Don replied, naturally, we have to find out what those guys are plotting. He didn't understand, but how? He explained, they won't let any information leak out. Let's try to find out through an internal source and see. A serious expression appeared on Kwang Dao's face. He stopped walking. Then he spoke up, young master, can you entrust that task to this humble one? He glanced at him, confused. Kwang Dao waited for his answer with some anticipation. Bitch Lai Don only reminded him, it will be dangerous. He described the outcome. If you get caught, you could be tortured, beaten, have a hot iron pressed against you, and maybe even have your fingers cut off with a saw. This made him jump, but he still tried to joke, it's all right, before I get tortured, this humble one will confess where the young master is, and say that it was all the young master's orders. At this point, he was cut off. You must do that. That is wise loyalty. Kwang Dao looked at him, confused. This humble one was just joking, but that's loyalty? Bitch Lai Don lowered his head and replied, that's right. Because he believed the highest value of loyalty is not yielding even in death. But the loyalty I want from Kwang Dao is not. Like that. But Kwang Dao thought, isn't that betrayal? He just glanced at him and replied, at least for now, that is still a wise loyalty. Kwang Dao clenched his fists with determination. It's so confusing. Anyway, this humble one will not regret it. Please entrust the scouting mission to me. He finally compromised. All right, then you go. Although a little worried, he was still very excited. Then this humble one will be off. With that, he walked past Bitch Lai Don. Suddenly, he stopped, making him behind him wonder what was wrong. Kwang Dao walked back to his side. He pointed out, not seriously, after the young master lets this humble one go, you'll secretly follow and protect me, right? The young master will observe everything from a place I can't see, right? But at this moment, Bitch Lai Don was quite serious. If that's what makes you comfortable, you can think that way. Anyway, I'd already decided to give you this task. Hearing that, Kwang Dao let out a sigh. Then he resolutely turned and walked away again, which made Bitch Lai Don a little confused. He turned his face, wanting to make a demand. When this humble one returns, the young master must remember to buy me wine. Then he walked away without waiting for an answer. Looking at his retreating back, he smiled to himself. I believe, remembering the things that had happened, he thought that the affinity between me and Kwang Dao, there's no reason it would be severed just because of something like this. He also had another purpose, and only in this way could Kwang Dao's affinity with the Jianghu continue. He was certain, therefore, you can do it. Then he also turned and walked in the opposite direction of Guangdou. The streets here were also very bustling. Sitting by the window, Bitch Lai Don silently calculated, it's been 4 days, right? He thought that by now, Kwang Dao had probably been captured and tortured. Then he sighed again. For all I know, he might have already become a corpse buried underground. Suddenly, a sound came from outside. A person wearing a straw hat, with a sword at his hip, walked in. Standing in front of him, he asked, the 4 Cs are all comrades. Since we've met by fate like this, how about we have a drink together? Bitch Lai Don lowered his head and smiled. He then looked up and asked, was it fun? Only then did Kwang Dao take off his hat and complain, what do you think, young master? This humble one almost died. He sat down on the chair and heard him ask, what's the situation? Kwang Dao recounted what he had overheard. Jung Chu Bang, through someone called Hu Yet Kuyan, is gathering wanderers. Bitch Lai Don was puzzled. Gathering wanderers? He affirmed, yes, dozens of wanderers have already joined. They are clearly plotting to take down our bitch family. Besides secretly gathering wanderers, they also deliberately spread a baseless rumor that the young master tried to abduct a woman but was stopped by Jun Ko Kwang, and as a result, he was sneak attacked by the young master. He had already guessed. I suppose everyone believes it's true, right? I usually do all sorts of scummy things anyway. Kwang Dao nodded. That's for sure. What could be more believable than that? Although the young master once said that no matter how much of a scoundrel you were, you could never become the kind of trash who abducts women. Bitch Lai Don had a plan. Anyway, the rumor will blow up soon. But how did you find that out? You disguised yourself as a wanderer and infiltrated their group. Ah, mentioning this, Kwang Dao blushed and replied, no, this humble one found out from Jun Chu Bang's handmaiden. At this moment, a sharp glint flashed in his eyes. One of their handmaidens has sided with us. A look of awkward disbelief appeared on Bitch Lai Don's face. Unexpectedly, he heard Kwang Dao say, "How could this humble one not understand the feelings of those people?" Hearing this, he burst out laughing. While he put on a smug look, this humble one was very lucky. I heard that Junko Kwang cruelly killed a handmaiden who served him. Because of that, all the servants have a bad impression of the Jung family. Bitch Lai Don silently assessed. This kid was lucky to get the information so easily. But luck is also a kind of ability. If you can't find a way, following your luck isn't a bad idea. Kwang Dao continued. Through that woman, this humble one heard the name Huyet Kuyin and about the Jung family recruiting wanderers. I originally intended to blend in with the wanderers to find out more. At this point, he was a little embarrassed, but I was too scared, so I didn't dare. My apologies, young master. Bitch Lai Don replied, "Not at all. You've done more than I expected." He lowered his head. Through this experience, this humble one has also confirmed one more thing. He was surprised and also a bit expectant. "What is it?" Kwang Dao put on a cool, charming air and replied. This humble one's face is very popular with women, leaving him speechless. Over here, he was still preening, stroking his hair. "Anyway, are we going back now? We must report this to the family head immediately." Bitch Lai Don immediately threw cold water on him. "No, we're not going back just yet." He wondered, "Not going back?" A glint flashed in his eyes, serious and sharp. Bitch Lai Don was resolute. "We have to resolve this matter once and for all." Scene changed to the June residence. A roar echoed. "What are you still standing there for? Get over here." Accompanied by a weak, pleading voice, "Young master, please." The girl, with tears welling up, replied. This humble girl is already betrothed. June Ko Kwang, covered in bandages and lying on his sickbed, shouted, "Betrothed?" The girl confirmed. "Therefore, how can this humble girl serve the young master?" His eyes were vicious. "Do you want me to kill that man right in front of you?" The girl was shocked, not expecting him to be so cruel. June Ko Kwang gave the girl a choice. "Between serving me and that man's life, which is more important to you? Choose." The girl trembled, tears falling, somewhat resigned. He praised her. "That's right. You should have been like this sooner. Wouldn't that have been better? Then I wouldn't have to kill your fiancé." The girl, while crying, pulled at the buttons of her own clothes. Suddenly, a stream of white energy appeared. The girl's entire body was instantly unable to move. Jun Ko Kwang angrily shouted, Who is it?" A person appeared, slowly walking in and reassuring the girl. "No need to worry. I just hit your pressure points to temporarily immobilize you." He conveniently explained a little. "Little miss, not all men in the world are like this." The person, masked and cloaked in black, came to her side. "It's just that in life, sometimes you get bitten by a dog." He seemed to be asking, so there's no need to judge all the dogs in the world because of one mad dog, right? Jun Ko Kwang was still yelling his head off. "Who the hell are you to dare barge in here?" The girl's eyes began to slowly close. He caught the girl before she fell. "Therefore, you should forget everything that happened today and live happily with your fiancé." The girl was completely unconscious, being ignored. Jun Ko Kwang was now furious. "I'm asking who you are." In his heart, he was a little wary. "I've definitely heard this voice somewhere before." Then he suddenly realized, "You could it be bitch?" Before he could finish his sentence, a sword stabbed straight into his stomach. Blood spurted everywhere. Jun Ko Kwang cried and begged. Wait, I was wrong. Please," he said in a cold voice. "When this woman begged you, when so many others begged you, what did you do to them?" He seemed terrified, his consciousness almost fading. A sword swung, and blood began to spurt out again. He closed his eyes and waited, the splatters of blood flying past his face. At the same time, Din Lu was trying to persuade Dun Ko Thiet. "Clan leader, please reconsider. If we attack the bitch sword sect, we will be condemned by all the martial artists of the Jianghu." "He is the vice clan leader, Din Lu." The old man frowned and asked back, "Condemned? Did you just say condemned? My son almost died." Dun Ko Thiet glanced at him. "I am merely making those people pay for what they have done. And for that, I have to face the condemnation of the Jianghu's martial artists?" In his heart, Din Lu thought the young master ended up in that state because he started the trouble in the first place. He found it somewhat unacceptable. Besides, what kind of righteous faction would throw a stone and hide their hand like that? Using his son being beaten as an excuse to recruit wanderers and start a war with another sect? Jun Ko Thiet advised, "Vice clan leader, don't think about stopping me anymore." But Din Lu remained stubborn. "Clan leader, please reconsider." Unexpectedly, a voice echoed back. "Why do you have to pretend to be so virtuous? The vice clan leader isn't that gentle, is he?" The last words were from Huyet Kuyin. In his heart, Din Lu silently called his name. "Huyet Kuyin, he's here to discuss the plan." "Clan leader, what's the plan? We need to strike fast and win fast in this matter." Huyet Kuyin believed. Wanderers are a group of people who don't belong anywhere. They can't keep a secret. He added a slight threat. "If the clan leader doesn't give me a definite answer now, we can consider this matter disbanded." Jun Ko Thiet affirmed, "That won't happen. Everything will still be carried out according to the original plan." Din Lu exclaimed helplessly, "Clan leader." The old man immediately reminded him, "Vice clan leader, this matter is not simply about revenge for my son. Although the bitch family is on the decline, there's still many places under their influence. He schemed, if we can seize all those places, our clan's power will be twice as strong as it is now. Din Lu also spoke up to Object, clan leader. The reason the Shandong region is heavily influenced by the bitch family is because the martial artists here have absolute trust in sect master bitch. Jun Ko Thiet glanced over with a vicious look. Is the vice clan leader saying that my character is not as good as that man named bitch? He quickly explained. This subordinate has no such intention. The old man asked again, you just mentioned trust? He believed, in the Jianghu, there is absolutely no such thing as trust. There are only two things that exist in the Jianghu, the strong and the weak. Jun Ko Thiet growled. The strong are the ones who dominate, and the weak are the ones who are dominated. That is the Jianghu. Din Lu couldn't understand, not to mention acting chivalrously, but how can a righteous faction throw a stone and hide its hand? But he had made a decision. Clan leader, if you insist on attacking the bitch family, then this subordinate can no longer follow you. Jun Ko Thiet was furious. What? How dare you give me conditions? If you don't want to die, then get out of my sight. Din Lu's eyes widened in shock. In his mind, the old man's words repeated. If you don't want to die, then get out of my sight. Din Lu called out, clan leader. He was cut off by Jun Ko Thiet. I told you to get out. Do you really want me to act? He was astonished. 20 years. That's how long I've followed and assisted clan leader Jun. He clenched his fists, trembling with anger. Without me, how could the Jun Chu Bang have grown so strong today? I have worked hard for the Jun Chu Bang for a long time. Din Lu turned to leave. What have I been doing until now? From behind, he heard Jun Ko Thiet curse. Useless thing. Jun Ko Thiet instructed. The important thing is that on that day, not a single person with the bitch surname is to be left alive. Huyet Kuyin replied, don't worry. I will pull them out by the roots. I'll even kill their dog without mercy. Hearing these words, Din Lu couldn't help but exclaim, vicious, too vicious. He gritted his teeth. How can a person do such things? He finally made up his mind. I must leave this place before I am cast aside in humiliation. And to think that I, Din Lu, once wanted to build the Jun Q Bang into the #1 clan in the world. Suddenly, he was surprised by something he saw. A figure in black, holding a sword, flashed by. Din Lu, ready to draw his sword, exclaimed, who? Bitch Lai Don asked, vice clan leader. Do you want to end it like this? He was confused. What do you mean by that? As he passed by Din Lu, he asked, I mean your life. He said softly, do you really want to protect someone like that and then die? Din Lu sensed the aura on Bitch Lai Don and silently assessed. An expert, he instructed, if you don't want to die in vain, then wait here obediently. His eyes became sharp, because this is the moment your life changes. Din Lu looked up in surprise. The door was suddenly pushed ajar. Bitch Lai Don strode in majestically. Seeing his presence, Jun Ko Thiet became alert and shouted, who are you? Although the cloth covered most of Bitch Lai Don's face, his cold, sharp gaze alone was enough to make one shiver. I am the young master of the family you want to slaughter. Hearing this, Jun Ko Thiet was immediately stunned. What does that mean? A storm began to brew in his heart. The young master of the family, I want to slaughter? At this moment, Jun Ko Thiet's eyes suddenly filled with confusion, his face contorting as a guess formed in his mind. He's a member of the bitch clan? And that voice, isn't it? Duan Ko Thiet was so astonished that he uttered the name out loud. Bitch Lai Don. Bitch Lai Don didn't bother to hide it and calmly confirmed. That's right, it's me. Duan Ko Thiet was stunned by Bitch Lai Don's attitude. His eyebrows nearly touched from the tangled doubts in his mind. What on earth did this piece of trash believe and to dare do something like this? But wait, how did he even manage to get in here? It doesn't matter anymore, because I'm going to kill him anyway. With that thought, the old man decisively turned and ordered Huyet Kuyin, who had been standing by his side all along, get rid of this brat. As if just waiting for this command, Huyet Kuyin immediately broke into a smug grin and decisively named his price. 5,000 taels. Duan Ko Thiet was shocked to hear this. He retorted in annoyance. What are you talking about? You have to kill this guy sooner or later anyway. But Huyet Kuyin had already found a loophole and directly called him out on it. The initial agreement wasn't about killing people here, was it? Then he put on an indifferent expression and said mockingly, if the clan master is stingy, he can do it himself. Duan Ko Thiet could no longer keep his composure. Although annoyed, he could only curse silently in his heart. This greedy bastard. In the end, I still have to grit my teeth and accept. Damn it, I know. Hurry up and take care of him for me. As soon as Huyet Kuyin heard this, he smiled triumphantly. He immediately picked up his spiked mace and strode gleefully towards Bitch Lai Don, not forgetting to taunt him. Youngster, thank you. Thanks to you, I've got another 5,000 taels. Bitch Lai Don showed no sign of panic. His eyes, filled with scrutiny, questioned the man before him. Are you that Ronin named Huyet Kuyin? Huyet Kuyin contemptuously asked back. That's right, a wet behind-the-ears brat like you has heard of my esteemed name? Then you must surely know that you're about to die, right? As soon as the words left his mouth, Huyet Kuyin Kuyin bared his teeth in an excited grin and lunged forward. He threw a powerful punch, but Bitch Lai Don keenly leaned aside to dodge it. Kuyin's punch immediately caused the room to explode, the powerful force blowing everything outside. Bitch Lai Don's eyes immediately became vigilant. He thought to himself, the physical body of Bitch Lai Don with less than 5 years of internal energy. Kuyin turned again to prepare for his next mace swing, exclaiming with interest, "Your agility surprises me." Immediately after was another powerful swing of the mace, and Bitch Lai Don instantly curled up and leaped to dodge the dangerous blow. Kuyin continued to attack frantically, but one blow after another was precisely dodged by Bitch Lai Don. It wasn't due to his innate agility. To be precise, it was very slow. His eyes narrowed to follow every single detail, no matter how small. If I couldn't predict the direction of Kuyin's attacks, he could have ended this fight with just a single blow. A streak of light flashed, and Bitch Lai Don calmly thought to himself. But unfortunately, this is not a fight with Bitch Lai Don's physical body, but a fight with the experience of me, the Alliance Master. Immediately after, he charged forward forcefully, turning defense into offense, delivering a series of slashes to disrupt Kuyin. A sudden thought popped into his head. Come to think of it, this is fun. But as soon as this thought appeared, Bitch Lai Don was startled to realize, it's been a long time since I've fought on the line between life and death like this. Kuyin slammed his mace down again, but this time he didn't retreat to dodge, but nimbly circled behind him. Bitch Lai Don told himself, I remember now. The sword in his hand was held horizontally, and Bitch Lai Don gently ran his hand along the blade, at which point he realized, I've always loved to fight. Images of himself in the peaceful days of the past suddenly returned to Bitch Lai Don's mind, even having climbed to the position of the number 1 under heaven, a life in his final years without conflict. In a flash, Bitch Lai Don was right at Kuyin's side, and he was also preparing for one last swing of his mace. The thought in his mind, just finished, had made me feel incredibly bored. Sharp sword strikes immediately streaked through the air, creating trails of light. Kuyin's eyes widened in shock, as if he couldn't believe the situation before him. His arm was still in the posture of swinging the mace, but a powerful surge of energy ran through him, causing his body to stiffen. In that brief moment of passing by, Bitch Lai Don had executed the first sword of the soul-chasing Azura sword style, leaving Kuyin no time to react before he had to. Spill blood. When it was all over, Bitch Lai Don still stood tall, completely unshaken. And behind him was Kuyin, lying in a pool of dark red blood. Duong Ko Thiet, who had witnessed everything from start to finish, was now in a complete state of panic. Impossible. A thin wisp of energy rose again as Bitch Lai Don calmly sheathed his sword. Duong Ko Thiet's eyes filled with even more terror. He just looked down to realize that a gash had been carved into his chest at some point. Duong Ko Thiet trembled in disbelief. Since when? Immediately after, he collapsed in pain, a dry cough echoing. On the other side, Bitch Lai Don still had his back to him. He just coldly glanced over with a look full of contempt. As the old man gasped for breath, the wrinkles on his face contorting in pain, he tried to whisper a question to the person before him. Bitch Lai Don, how could you possibly have this kind of power? Bitch Lai Don calmly picked up Kuyin's mace and let out a cold laugh. Even if I explained it, an old man like you wouldn't understand. Seeing this action, Duong Ko Thiet became even more frightened. His body trembled uncontrollably, sweat poured out as if he had been drenched, and his wide eyes were bloodshot. His voice trembled as if he had realized something. Why are you holding Kuyin's weapon? Could it be, you brat, that you intend to stage this as if Kuyin and I slaughtered each other? Bitch Lai Don calmly corrected the old man. Something like that, but you're wrong. It's more like Kuyin killed you and then fled. Duong Ko Thiet had now completely fallen into the abyss of despair. He tried to plead, wait, I'll meet any condition if you spare my life. Seeing Bitch Lai Don standing right in front of him, Duong Ko Thiet grew more anxious and continuously explained, this will only be beneficial for you and the Bitch family manor. He quickly opened a cabinet. The assets inside could make anyone's heart flutter. I have over 100,000 taels right here. But Bitch Lai Don's attitude remained as cold as ever. Still able to make conditions, I see. It seems the old man is still quite calm. Duong Ko Thiet thought he was interested and tried hard to persuade him. How about it? If you spare my life, all of this will be yours, and not just this, I still have many assets in other places. He even acted mysterious and threatened Bitch Lai Don. If you want, I'll give you the rest too. But if I die, you'll never find all of my assets. Hearing this, Bitch Lai Don replied nonchalantly, I heard everything you said outside earlier. In the martial world, there are only 2 types of people, the strong and the weak. Before Duong Ko Thiet's shocked eyes, he emphasized the old man's words. The strong live and the weak must die, right? Speaking to this point, Bitch Lai Don asked in a cold voice, today, you must be the weak one. Immediately after, a sharp blade appeared right before Duong Ko Thiet's eyes. Bitch Lai Don decisively struck, sending Duong Ko Thiet to meet his ancestors. Everything fell silent. From outside the door, one could see the silhouette of Bitch Lai Don delivering the decisive killing blow. Suddenly, Bitch Lai Don closed his eyes and signaled, "Come in." The door was immediately pushed open, and the person who appeared was Din Lu, his face extremely tense. And right after witnessing the scene in the room, his eyes widened in horror. Inside, Bitch Lai Don was standing between two lifeless corpses, the ground mottled with still warm red bloodstains. Din Lu observed the horrifying scene, finding it hard to believe. Hiet Kuyen and the clan master are both dead. Could young Master Bitch alone have brought them to this state? At this moment, Bitch Lai Don suddenly cast a sharp gaze behind him and spoke. "Chief Steward Din Lu, from now on, you're the new clan master of the Duong Chubang." Hearing these words, Din Lu was stunned, his entire face filled with shock and disbelief. In a moment, the sky had brightened. Bitch Lai Don, having just returned, was suddenly startled, because before him, Kwang Dao was still sitting silently in the same spot, his hands constantly rubbing together, his face filled with anxiety. The waitress beside him explained awkwardly. After the young master left, he didn't sleep all night and just sat there waiting. Hearing this, Bitch Lai Don stood silently, looking at Kwang Dao for a long while. As soon as he saw the familiar figure appear before him, Kwang Dao was startled and looked up. Immediately after, he couldn't hold back his emotions and started to whimper, tears welling up in the corners of his eyes, his expression looking incredibly wronged. As Bitch Lai Don gently took off his hat, he smiled faintly and guessed to himself, "Youngster, you must have been very worried, huh?" Kwang Dao was still wiping his tears as Bitch Lai Don leisurely began to speak. "I'm hungry. Let's eat." Kwang Dao quickly stabilized his emotions, letting out a soft sigh of relief. Immediately after, Kwang Dao excitedly shouted, "Bring me the most expensive dish here." The server cheerfully replied, "Yes, sir." The sky outside was now completely bright. Inside, a table of delicious food had been laid out, its colors and presentation incredibly pleasing to the eye. Kwang Dao immediately asked hesitantly, "There's a rumor that Hiet Kuyen killed the Duong Chubang's master and made off with all the wealth. That's not true, is it?" Bitch Lai Don calmly enjoyed his food, smiled faintly, and calmly confirmed, "That is true." Kwang Dao hurriedly asked further, "Wasn't it the young master who did it?" Bitch Lai Don nonchalantly corrected him, "It was Hiet Kuyen." Hearing this, Kwang Dao tried to analyze it in the way that seemed most logical to him. That's right. That's a matter of course. How could a young master possibly defeat the Duong Chubang's master and Hiet Kuyen? Bitch Lai Don calmly added, "Exactly." Kwang Dao tried to convince himself again. It was all just a coincidence. It just so happened that when the young master went out, something like that occurred. Bitch Lai Don replied once more, "That's right." But Kwang Dao's expression had now turned ashen. He silently looked at Bitch Lai Don, his eyes filled with helplessness. Then, Kwang Dao had no choice but to accept it, unable to contain his curiosity as he wondered, "Right, my foot, how could there be such a coincidence in this world? How on earth did you do it?" "Young master." Bitch Lai Don just nonchalantly repeated, "I already told you I did it." Kwang Dao was horrified and covered his mouth to keep from shouting, trying to keep his voice down as he asked in a small voice, "Good heavens, how?" Then Kwang Dao hurriedly whispered to confirm, "So the money that Hiet Kuyen stole was also stolen by you, young master?" Bitch Lai Don calmly refuted, "What theft? That was just compensation money." Kwang Dao was even more confused. Compensation money? Bitch Lai Don's eyes turned cold. He explained in a low voice, "What else? He ordered his underlings to kill my parents, me, you, and the entire bitch family manor. He would have certainly taken all the assets too, after wiping out my bitch family." Hearing this, Kwang Dao, though a bit horrified, still wondered in confusion. But that's still stealing, isn't it? He wanted to ask more, but stopped midway. How much did the young master take? "Never mind, young master, please don't say it. This lowly one doesn't want to know." Bitch Lai Don feigned confusion to provoke him. "What's wrong? If you're curious, I'll tell you." Kwang Dao decisively refused. "No. From ancient times to the present, the more secrets you know, the sooner you die." Hearing this, Bitch Lai Don smiled with amusement. Well, you're quite knowledgeable." He immediately recalled the amount of gold that Duong Ko Thiet himself had offered up, 32,000 taels. "If I had lingered at the Duong Chubang a little longer, taking this and that to sell, I could have gotten even more money. But I didn't do that." The images of Duong Ko Thiet and Din Lu, the two who had direct contact with Bitch Lai Don, appeared in his mind, reminding him, "It's not worth revealing my tracks and creating many harmful variables just for greed. Din Lu knows I am the successor of the Bitch T Sword sect." Bitch Lai Don silently recalled the scene at that time, when Din Lu had accepted to humble himself before him. "He must think I am a hidden dragon who has concealed my martial arts all this time and has sworn to be loyal to me. Of course, I'm not naive enough to believe in this sudden loyalty. It's enough to just maintain a proper distance and make use of him." At this moment, Kwang Dao asked again with suspicion, "So Duong Ko Kwang is also dead?" Bitch Lai Don confirmed in a low voice, "Yes." Hearing this, Kwang Dao suddenly became quiet, his expression also looking sad. Bitch Lai Don noticed this and was puzzled. He asked with suspicion, "What's wrong? You feel sorry for him?" Kwang Dao kept his head down, his tone a bit bitter. He was was still a child. Bitch Lai Don bluntly replied, what does age have to do with right and wrong? Whether young or old, if you do something that deserves death, you must die. Hearing these words, Kwang Dao could only reluctantly accept. That's true, but seeing that Kwang Dao was still hesitant, Bitch Lai Don recounted, I didn't kill him for your sake. He really wanted to kill me. Kwang Dao kept his eyes tightly shut and replied softly, yes. Bitch Lai Don carefully observed the person before him. Kwang Dao's face was still extremely dejected, his eyes shut tight as if lost in tangled thoughts. Bitch Lai Don could only smile faintly and assess him. You're too kind. Immediately after, he suddenly called out, hey Kwang Dao. Kwang Dao replied, yes, young master. Bitch Lai Don continued leisurely from now on. As he poured wine, he calmly instructed, I will teach you martial arts. Hearing this, Kwang Dao was stunned. Bitch Lai Don even affirmed in a soft voice, not some clumsy imitation, but real martial arts. Kwang Dao's eyes widened in surprise, and he exclaimed in disbelief, really? Then his voice trembled as he asked again, are you serious, young master? Bitch Lai Don replied in a steady tone, yes, I'm serious. At this point, Kwang Dao suddenly fell silent as if thinking about something. He dejectedly argued, even if this lowly one wants to learn, isn't it already too late? This lowly one is already 25 years old this year. Bitch Lai Don denied it. I can handle that. His eyes filled with confidence as he thought to himself. In terms of age, it is a bit late, but if the teacher is me, then that shortcoming can be completely compensated for. Then, Bitch Lai Don seriously reminded him, you should think carefully before answering me. This will not only change your life, but also decide your life and death. He repeated the question once more, decisively. Do you want to learn my martial arts? Kwang Dao was stunned and said nothing for a long while. But immediately after, he answered with great determination, this lowly one will learn. Bitch Lai Don pressed him. The reason? Kwang Dao fell silent, recalling the recent events. The young master has changed. So after encountering this incident, this lowly one also wants to change like that. At this point, Kwang Dao once again repeated with determination, young master, this lowly one also wants to be like the young master. Bitch Lai Don didn't accept right away, but continued to question him. Let me ask you one more question. Why did you treat me so well when I was a piece of trash before? He faintly recalled the image of himself, a mess, indulging in meaningless nonsense. At this, Kwang Dao suddenly let out a sigh, because before the young master was also like that. Bitch Lai Don looked at him, confused. What? Kwang Dao's face had completely lost its tension and became strangely relaxed. He began to tell the story. The young master was originally a good person. When this lowly one was 16 and the young master was 10, you treated this lowly one very well. At that time, this lowly one was very sick. The memory emerged, the image of Kwang Dao suffering from a tormenting fever. He was delirious until his eyes saw only darkness. Because the fever was so high, this lowly one gradually lost consciousness. And then he suddenly woke up when this lowly one opened his eyes. Kwang Dao was startled to realize the person sitting beside him was Bitch Lai Don. The young master was placing a cold towel on this lowly one's forehead. The innocent face of a young boy, but his eyes were filled with alarm. To this day, this lowly one can never forget that worried look in the young master's eyes. Returning to the present, Kwang Dao continued his story. Before that, and ever since, this lowly one has never seen that look again. Hearing this, Bitch Lai Don fell silent, quietly looking at the person before him for a long while. Then, Bitch Lai Don asked softly, you foolish kid, you've remembered that all this time? But Kwang Dao still affirmed decisively, for anyone, that would become something unforgettable. Bitch Lai Don, as if hearing a satisfactory answer, smiled faintly and began to speak. The martial art you will learn is called the 7 Forms of the Southern Sea. Kwang Dao was surprised and repeated the name to himself in his head. 7 Forms of the Southern Sea. Bitch Lai Don suddenly added, also from now on you are no longer my servant. His eyes showed a seriousness that confirmed his words. But my subordinate. Hearing this, Kwang Dao lowered his head without replying, his face clearly showing his confusion. But very quickly after, Kwang Dao unexpectedly shot to his feet. He immediately knelt on one knee and clasped his hands before Bitch Lai Don's astonished eyes. He looked at him with a puzzled expression. Kwang Dao explained in a fluster, when martial artists of the Jianghu learn martial arts, they all do it like this. Hearing this, Bitch Lai Don understood, his expression softening somewhat. Kwang Dao awkwardly imitated what he knew. What do they say? Ah, please accept this subordinate. Bitch Lai Don mused to himself. I had no intention of taking Kwang Dao as a disciple, just teaching a subordinate a little. He carefully observed Kwang Dao's tense expression. Even so, I can still accept this level of gratitude. Time flies like a dog running in a field. And just like that, another day was over. The next day, at the Bitch Tea clan, the Bitch Tea clan master asked in surprise, unbelievable, the Duong Chu Bang's master gathered Ronin to kill us? Bitch Lai Don warned gravely. He was more vicious than we thought. If it weren't for him and that Huyet Kuyan fellow fighting amongst themselves, we would have faced a great disaster. The Bitch Tea clan master fell silent upon hearing this. The clan master's wife beside him also had a very worried expression. It's so fortunate that heaven helped us with this. Immediately after, the Bitch Tea clan master considered. Even so, we must repay the money we borrowed borrowed from the Duong Chubang. Bitch Lai Don also replied calmly, yes. In his heart, he calmly told himself, I knew it would be like this. He analyzed silently, because this was a debt to the Duong Chubang, not just Duong Kothiat. Then, Bitch Lai Don put on the air of a filial son and said caringly, Father, don't worry too much. The Bitch T clan master and the clan master's wife were wide-eyed with surprise upon hearing this. In the next second, the clan master's wife couldn't hold back her emotions, and tears began to well up and fall. The Bitch T clan master also smiled gently and replied, all right, you should go back and rest. Bitch Lai Don replied, yes, but as soon as he got outside, he suddenly stopped, a question popping into his head. Father? Bitch Lai Don fell silent. This is the first time I've ever called someone that. In my past life, my mother raised me alone. I knew nothing about my father's existence. But then a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. It seemed a feeling of happiness was welling up inside him. Bitch Lai Don felt it silently. Although this is the first time, it's not too bad, I suppose. A while later, in another area, at this moment, a large bag was placed on the table. Tu Trong looked from the bag on the table to the person in front of him and asked with suspicion, what is this? Bitch Lai Don explained, this is 3,000 taels that I've saved up. Tu Trong was startled to hear this and hurriedly asked, 3,000 taels? How did the young master get such a large sum of money? Bitch Lai Don, having already thought of a plausible reason, answered nonchalantly, it's money I saved to get married. In his heart, he calculated, this is part of the money I took from Duong Kothiat's place. If I gave it all, he definitely wouldn't believe me. Then, Tu Trong couldn't hide the confusion on his face. If that's the case, then why is the young master giving this sum to me? Bitch Lai Don looked at the money bag and said directly, squad leader, use this money to prepare a sword squad for me. Tu Trong was stunned. What? Bitch Lai Don continued. Also, squad leader, pay off all the back wages owed to the sword squad members. We also need to expand our forces. Hearing this, Tu Trong's gaze suddenly tightened, and he asked seriously, does the young master think we are still here for money? Bitch Lai Don gently clarified his meaning. I know that's not the case, but the sword squad members and their families are all suffering because they have no money. Tu Trong's eyes immediately widened in surprise. It seemed he hadn't expected Bitch Lai Don to realize this, and he fell silent for a moment. Immediately after, he bluntly refuted, I understand what the young master is saying, but the clan master is the one who decides what this money is used for. Bitch Lai Don calmly continued, let me guess. The squad leader won't accept the money that my father gives. Tu Trong said nothing more. It was obvious that Bitch Lai Don had seen right through his thoughts. Bitch Lai Don looked intently at the man before him and silently assessed. From what I've observed, this is a person with incredibly deep loyalty to the Bitch T clan. Looking at Tu Trong's determined face, he was able to predict, even if father gave him money and told him to reorganize the sword squad, he would surely refuse, saying that he would maintain the sword squad by any means necessary and tell the clan master to pay off the family's debt first. With that thought, Bitch Lai Don changed his method of persuasion. The squad leader and the sword squad are the center of our clan. If the squad leader and the sword squad collapse, our clan will surely collapse as well. Hearing this, Tu Trong bluntly refuted. What is the young master saying? The center of our clan is not the sword squad, but the clan master himself. At this, Bitch Lai Don smiled faintly. So it seems that no matter where you are, life is still like this. He went along with Tu Trong's words and spoke with a sincere tone. The squad leader is right, but isn't the sword squad the place that can bring strength to the clan master? Please accept my sincerity. It is all for our clan and the clan master. Tu Trong began to be swayed by Bitch Lai Don's words. He glanced down at the money bag and then fell silent for a long while. In the end, Tu Trong still bowed his head in acceptance. I understand. I promise to use this money to reorganize the sword squad. Having successfully persuaded him, Bitch Lai Don bowed in response, thanking the captain. Tu Trong's gaze, which was on him, suddenly wavered. Bitch Lai Don quickly made to leave. Then I shall take my leave, when Tu Trong suddenly called out, Don Ni. Bitch Lai Don looked up, flustered, yes? Although Tu Trong's face remained expressionless, the sincerity in his eyes was visible. Thank you, my boy. Bitch Lai Don gave a faint smile. He departed calmly, his mind already filled with his own calculations. Just like with Guang Tu, I don't need to say too much to this captain, because in the future, I will show them much more. A few days later, the sky was clear, the air was fresh, and the weather was wonderfully cool and breezy. Sword thrusts cut through the air, in rhythm with spirited shouts. Tu Trong was in charge of leading the sword team's training. Recently, the atmosphere of the sword team had suddenly become incredibly bright. Not just the sword team, the entire family had become much more cheerful and joyous. The lines of men stood firm, each one training diligently. Bitch Lai Don thought to himself, perhaps the main reason for this is because a scumbag like me has changed for the better. The fact that I was the one who paid the back wages owed to the sword team members has been revealed. He calmly walked along the corridor. The whispers and gossip about me have also changed. I have also announced the recruitment of martial artists for the new sword team. Bitch Lai Don leisurely observed the lively atmosphere in the courtyard. It's been a long time since the Bitch family manor has been this full of life. However, a heavy stone still weighed on Bitch Lai Don's heart. But the problem is my internal energy. He immediately turned and left. The Tien Vo Ho Tam quiet can accumulate internal energy 3 times faster than ordinary cultivation arts. He silently recalled the effort he had put in. Although I have diligently circulated my energy day and night, the amount of internal energy I've accumulated is still far too lacking. Bitch Lai Don closed his eyes slightly and told himself, there's only one way now. He immediately thought of an image of a jar of medicinal herbs. By any means, I must open the run and do meridians to be able to speed up the accumulation of internal energy, but to do that, I need the help of a spirit medicine. The more he thought about it, the more worried Bitch Lai Don became. The amount of money I currently have is 29,000 taels. Can this much money even buy a spirit medicine? Chi Nan. This land was covered by endless mountains and forests, its lush vegetation brimming with life. At the Chi Nan branch, the black market, bags of medicinal herbs were carefully packaged and hung on the walls. A greeting rang out, "Young master, are you here to buy spirit medicine?" Besides the dried herbs, there were also jars of herbal medicinal liquids placed neatly on the shelves. Bitch Lai Don replied yes. The shopkeeper then asked in more detail, "What kind would you like to buy, young master? Pills, herbs, or elixirs?" Bitch Lai Don simply replied, "Any will do." Hearing this, the shopkeeper held his chin in silence, as if pondering something. Bitch Lai Don waited patiently, telling himself, there's a saying in the martial world, what the black market doesn't have cannot be found in the martial world. If this place doesn't have it either, then for a while, I won't be able to buy a spirit medicine anywhere. Then, the shopkeeper suddenly broke into a mysterious smile. He began enthusiastically, "Young man, you're truly in luck. For the past 6 months, our branch has been unable to import any spirit medicine. As it happens, a spirit medicine arrived at our branch just 2 days ago." Bitch Lai Don carefully inquired, "What kind is it?" The shopkeeper raised his voice and announced the name, Tien Nien Ba Duong Chiu. Hearing this, Bitch Lai Don's eyes widened in astonishment. The Tien Nien Ba Duong Chiu. He silently pictured the spirit herb in his mind. That is a spirit medicine that can grant its user 10 years of power, or even 50. In an era where spirit medicines are so revered, it's very difficult to buy one. Immediately after, the shopkeeper decisively stated the price, 44,000 taels. Bitch Lai Don immediately let out a frustrated sigh. He could only curse helplessly in his heart. Damn it, I'm short by 15,000 taels. The shopkeeper continued to persuade him, "Young master, you can only buy it at this time. It's difficult to find spirit medicines now. If you don't buy it right away, someone else will soon. Buy it." Bitch Lai Don had no choice but to stand up and say, "I'm short on money, so I'll have to see you next time, sir." The shopkeeper suddenly showed interest and asked him, "Why are you buying a spirit medicine, young master?" Bitch Lai Don answered nonchalantly, "To become stronger, of course." Hearing his decisive answer, the shopkeeper became curious. To become stronger? Bitch Lai Don lowered his head slightly, an iron-like conviction shining in his eyes. He answered resolutely, "I have belatedly realized that I have been far too unfilial to my parents all this time. Therefore, I want to become stronger to be able to properly honor my parents." The shopkeeper was stunned for a few seconds, but then he suddenly burst out laughing. The shopkeeper quickly explained, "My apologies for laughing, but that is the most amusing thing I have heard since I started doing business here." Bitch Lai Don asked doubtfully, "Why is that?" The shopkeeper looked straight at him and calmly emphasized, "Among all the martial artists from the martial world who come here to buy spirit medicines, not a single one is a filial son." Now, it was Bitch Lai Don's turn to fall into deep thought. The shopkeeper's words made him remember his past self. I understand why he said that, because I was once like that too. Those who go mad in their quest to become stronger no longer have the mind to care about their surroundings. Bitch Lai Don had walked a path of nothing but conflict and bloodshed. He thought to himself, I had planned to be filial to my mother after becoming the #1 under heaven. But by the time he was willing to turn his head and look back, he didn't want to believe what was before his eyes. The cold tombstone was a reminder to Bitch Lai Don. It was too late. Returning to the present, he could only give a regretful laugh. What a pity. But it seems I've missed the chance to be the first filial son to buy a spirit medicine from you. But just then, the shopkeeper's voice suddenly rang out, "I will give you 10 days, young master." Bitch Lai Don looked at him in astonishment. The shopkeeper cheerfully stated his condition. "During that time, if you can prepare the money and bring it here, I will sell it to you." I believe that a spirit medicine has its own rightful owner. He enthusiastically emphasized, "Young master, prove it." Bitch Lai Don responded with his determined gaze. Returning to the bitch residence, Bitch Lai Don couldn't help but feel anxious. This is a big problem. 3 days of the 10-day deadline have already passed. Time is just slipping away, and I have no way to make money. He calculated carefully, if I deal with Din Lu and quickly take this and that from Duong Chu Bang, it's very possible I could get another 15,000 taels. After thinking, Bitch Lai Don had to reconsider. But doing so would make my relationship with Din Lu fall into an abyss. He would surely see me as a money-sucking leech. Bitch Lai Don's gaze suddenly became profound. found. And Duong Tu Bang has much more value to be exploited than that. At that moment, Guang Tu unexpectedly approached from behind Bitch Lai Don and asked, "Young master, what have you been worried about lately?" Having been seen through, Bitch Lai Don let out a helpless sigh. This kid is as perceptive as the strategist Zhuge. Guang Tu then put on a mysterious expression and asked further, "Young master, you're thinking about Miss Tong again, aren't you?" Bitch Lai Don froze for a few seconds. Seeing him dumbfounded, Guang Tu looked smug. "I understand your heart, young master." Scene changed to the Kuk Vu branch. Martial Arts Alliance. A white-haired man with a stern expression was standing before the door. And this person was none other than Bitch Lai Don. I had to spend 1,000 taels to get this high-grade disguise. Surely no one will be able to find me out. A profound, unfathomable light shone in his eyes. Returning to the earlier conversation between Bitch Lai Don and Guang Tu, he couldn't help but exclaim in astonishment. "What? The reason I borrowed over 20,000 taels from Duong Tu Bang was because I pretentiously wanted to catch a villain for a bounty, but then ended up being taken by him as a hostage." Guang Tu replied, flustered, "That's right. Back then, the family head lost a lot of money because of that guy." At this, Bitch Lai Don could only curse angrily in his heart. Just what kind of stupid things did this Bitch Lai Don guy get into? Guang Tu calmly continued his story. Ain't tea that time. The branch chief of the Martial Arts Alliance's Kuk Vu branch, Kong Dai Heap, had a good relationship with the kidnapper and had to step in to mediate, which is how you kept your life, young master. Bitch Lai Don was surprised. What? He asked himself in disbelief. The esteemed branch chief of the Martial Arts Alliance was involved with such scum? And not just involved, but had a good relationship with a punk from an evil sect. After saying that, Guang Tu looked disgusted. As far as this humble one knows, the family head had to give Quach Du Tui 15,000 taels and give Kong Dai Heap 5,000 taels as a mediation fee. Bitch Lai Don's eyes widened in astonishment once again. The branch chief of the Martial Arts Alliance dared to accept a bribe. Guang Tu commented nonchalantly while sweeping the yard. In any case, things like that are decided by family status. Bitch Lai Don then asked, "So has that Quach Du Tui guy been caught yet?" Guang Tu replied, "There's been no news at all." At that moment, one could see in Bitch Lai Don's eyes that he had already secretly planned his next steps. A guard quickly approached and asked, "Who are you looking for, sir?" Bitch Lai Don got straight to the point. "I'm here to see the branch chief." The guard asked, flustered, "Where are you from, sir?" Bitch Lai Don, his face still cold, answered decisively with 3 words, "Tien Dao Mon." Hearing this, the guard froze, his whole body as if frozen on the spot. But immediately after, he hurriedly turned and ran inside. "Sir, please wait a moment." Bitch Lai Don silently recalled, "The Tien Dao Mon is currently one of the 5 great powers of the Central Plains with outstanding strength in the martial world. If it weren't for me, those 5 families would have fought a bloody war for supremacy over the Central Plains. That's why I know the internal affairs of the 5 great powers very well. In the martial world, countless forces vie with each other, and the internal situations of the great families are also extremely complex. And among them, the Tien Dao Mon is the easiest to impersonate. The reason is very simple. He immediately thought of a major figure. The Tien Dao Mon sect leader, Ma Bonko, is very complicated when it comes to women. He has dozens of wives, so his children and grandchildren must also number in the dozens. Even the Tien Dao Mon sect leader gets his own descendants mixed up. The guard returned very quickly and bowed respectfully. "Please come in, sir." The main gate opened automatically, and Bitch Lai Don calmly stepped inside. This place truly has no discipline. All I had to do was wear an expensive outfit and say I'm from the Tien Dao Mon, and this servant didn't even bother to clearly confirm who I am. He thought to himself, if I were an assassin here to kill the branch chief, his life would already be forfeit. Inside a large room, as soon as the branch chief saw Bitch Lai Don, he greeted him warmly. "Please come in, sir. I heard you were from the Tien Dao Mon. Is that correct?" Bitch Lai Don calmly replied, "That's right." Then, the branch chief carefully inquired, "May I ask your esteemed name, sir?" Bitch Lai Don had already chosen a suitable identity. He calmly introduced himself. "I am Lin Cheng. The current sect leader is my uncle." The branch chief bowed respectfully. "I have long heard of your great name, and now I finally have the honor of meeting you." Hearing these words, Bitch Lai Don couldn't help but scoff internally. Heard my name? How could he have heard of it? Ma Lin Cheng is a real person. The problem is, he lives in seclusion within the family. Outsiders couldn't possibly know of him. The branch chief enthusiastically gestured with his hand. "Come, please have a seat, sir." As he poured tea, he quickly got straight to the point. "May I be so bold as to ask the reason for great hero Ma's visit to this branch?" Bitch Lai Don also replied, "I'll tell you right now." Bitch Lai Don lowered his voice. "Our sect is searching for someone. In the course of my search, I found information that he once took a hostage in this territory. Then, he didn't forget to add emphasis. I heard that at the time, the branch chief stepped in to mediate." Hearing this, the branch chief immediately understood. He asked, flustered, "Are you talking about Quach Du Tui, sir. Bitch Lydon immediately confirmed. Yes, that's him. The branch chief was now starting to feel uneasy, sweat beading on his face, but he still tried to remain calm and asked further, but why is great hero Ma looking for Quach Du Tui? Bitch Lydon lowered his eyes, his tone taking on a dangerous edge. That man has committed a great crime against our sect. Currently, all the martial artists of our sect are hunting for him. The branch chief was instantly stunned, the expression on his face completely frozen. Bitch Lydon silently observed him and made a sharp judgment. Judging by Kong Trung's attitude, it's clear that he and Quach Du Tui have a close relationship. After a moment, the branch chief asked with a trembling voice, "What did that man do to the Tien Daomon?" Bitch Lydon replied bluntly, "This is a private matter of our sect, so I cannot tell you, branch chief." To add more credibility, Bitch Lydon emphasized seriously, "I can only say that this matter has alarmed the elders in my family, so it is very important to our sect. That is also why I had to come here in such a hurry without prior notice." The sweat poured from the branch chief's face more and more. Although he still smiled and replied, "I see," his hands and feet couldn't help but tremble uncontrollably. He tried to pick up his teacup to hide his fear. Bitch Lydon added nonchalantly, "Once our sect puts its mind to it, catching him is only a matter of time." With that, he also stated his goal clearly. To be honest, I want to catch that man before my family does. Only then can I prove that I am more outstanding than the other successors. But the more the branch chief listened, the more he trembled with fear. He bowed his head, shut his eyes tightly, and couldn't say a word in reply. Bitch Lydon had already taken in the branch chief's every reaction. He deliberately asked, "Don't you also wish to advance to a central position?" The branch chief jumped in fright upon hearing these words, his eyes wide with terror. Bitch Lydon nonchalantly made a promise that if this time Branch Chief Kong can help me find his whereabouts, I will definitely find a way to recommend you to the main headquarters. The branch chief hesitated for a moment, his brow furrowed as he remained silent for a long time. But Bitch Lydon had already calculated in his head. Many branch managers of the Martial Arts Alliance always hope to advance to the main headquarters. I understand that very well. Therefore, the Tien Daomon will be an excellent stepping stone to achieve that goal. Then, the branch chief asked in disbelief, "Are you serious, sir?" Bitch Lydon also gave a serious guarantee. "I also need someone I can trust at the main headquarters. I give you my word, branch chief, in the name of the Tien Daomon." However, his eyes suddenly turned sharp, his words filled with pressure. "You must find his whereabouts as quickly as possible, because we don't have much time to catch him." The branch chief's eyes widened in alarm. Bitch Lydon observed him pensively. Immediately after, he stood up decisively. "I await your news." The branch chief suddenly called out, wait a moment." Bitch Lydon looked back, puzzled. "What is it?" The branch chief's face was still tense, but his eyes were now filled with ambition. "I just need a little time. I can lend you a hand, great hero." After a moment, Bitch Lydon lowered his gaze and observed for a long while before asking, "Is he Quach Du Tui?" On the table was a drawing depicting a man with a long scar on his cheek and a vicious expression. The branch chief affirmed, "Yes. I've also been pursuing that vicious criminal recently, so I know very well where he is hiding." Bitch Lydon asked directly where. The branch chief said without hesitation, "It's Chinan." Bitch Lydon was slightly puzzled. Chinan. The branch chief analyzed clearly, yes, he's a gambling addict who would even sell his own son. So just by searching the gambling dens in Chinan, you'll be able to find him. Then, he hesitantly suggested, "If I were to catch that man," Bitch Lydon, while putting the scroll away, decisively finished his sentence, "I will definitely recommend you for the position of vice head of the Martial Arts Alliance headquarters." Hearing this, the branch chief's face lit up. He bowed respectfully. "In the future, I will definitely be absolutely loyal to you. Great hero." Bitch Lydon also quickly stood up. He didn't forget to remind him, "You must keep this a secret, because I need to catch him before the others do." The branch chief hurriedly replied, "Of course." Bitch Lydon asked further, "Also, you've posted a reward for his capture, right? How much is it?" The branch chief quickly answered, "It's 5,000 taels." But Bitch Lydon pretended not to hear clearly and said, nonchalantly, 20,000 taels? Not a bad number. Hearing this, the branch chief refuted, flustered. "What? Not 20,000 taels, it's 5,000. But Bitch Lydon shot him a sharp glance. The branch chief immediately froze in fear. He quickly corrected himself. "I must have been mistaken. It is indeed 20,000 taels." Bitch Lydon continued to instruct, 3 days from now, bring the money directly to Chinan. He carefully instructed, "After I give you that useless man's head, I will return to my sect immediately." The branch chief bowed his head in acceptance. "Yes, I understand." Bitch Lydon left just like that with a reminder, "I'll see you in 3 days." A few days later, back in the land of Chinan, a figure was now fumbling through the forest path. It was the branch chief. He quickly followed followed the trail, climbing past large thickets of trees. Perhaps because he had to walk a long way, his face was drenched in sweat, his eyes squinting from the dazzling sun beating down. The branch chief walked for a long time, until he saw a familiar figure already sitting by a cliff, waiting for him. Bitch Lydon immediately noticed the branch chief's arrival and glanced over indifferently. But immediately after, the expression on the branch chief's face completely froze, his eyes filled with fear. Because next to Bitch Lydon was the severed head of Quach Du Tui, looking utterly gruesome. Bitch Lydon calmly spoke up. Why so surprised? This is only natural, isn't it? Hearing this, the branch chief regained his composure and laughed in reply. You are absolutely right, sir. Bitch Lydon asked directly, where's the money? The branch chief took out a large bag. Here it is. Your 20,000 taels. He even added warmly, congratulations, sir, on capturing your sex villain with your own hands. Bitch Lydon still asked cautiously, oh, I need to count it. The branch chief replied, decisively, of course not. I checked it over and over twice. Hearing this, Bitch Lydon also smiled with satisfaction. He did not spare any praise for the M.A.N.A.S. expected of Branch Chief Khan. Very meticulous and careful. I am very pleased with you. You should go back and prepare to enter the main headquarters. Hearing this, the branch chief's eyes lit up. His joy was plain to see. He hurriedly bowed respectfully. Thank you, sir. Just as Bitch Lydon was about to turn and leave, he acted as if he had just remembered something. But before this man died, he said that he was acquainted with Branch Chief Khan. Every word he spoke was toneless, but it caused the bowing branch chief to immediately tense up. He also said that the two of you colluded to take money from the bitch family's sword purchase. He hurriedly and confusedly denied, that's not true. In his heart, the branch chief couldn't help but curse angrily. That damn bastard running his mouth so much before dying. Bitch Lydon maintained an extremely calm demeanor and reassured the branch chief. You don't need to be so panicked. I quite like quick-witted people like you, Great Hero Khan. Only people like that can handle work. Well, then he glanced at him mysteriously. Isn't that right, Great Hero? The branch chief tried to ignore Bitch Lydon's scrutinizing gaze and awkwardly pulled his hat down lower. Thank you, Great Hero Ma, for your understanding. Bitch Lydon suddenly asked with interest, but I'm a little curious. Why did you do it? The branch chief was caught off guard by this question and hesitated. Why? That. He once again directed his anger towards Quach Du Tui. You damn bastard. You're gonna die anyway. Why did you have to spill so much? It's unclear whether it was due to the scorching heat or the pressure from Bitch Lydon, but the branch chief's face was covered in sweat. He hesitated, thinking to himself, if I stubbornly refuse to speak, I'll only lose the trust of the Tien Daomon. In the end, the branch chief said decisively, Bitch Lydon is an utter scumbag. Bitch Lydon still feigned curiosity, a scumbag. He replied arrogantly, yes, I just want to teach him a lesson. Bitch Lydon suddenly burst out laughing, that's how it is. You've helped clear up my confusion. Seeing this, the branch chief thought he was on the right track and laughed along. But he had no idea that he had just stepped one foot into the gates of hell. Bitch Lydon immediately placed his hand on his face. The branch chief was still laughing. Seeing this action, his smile froze. Bitch Lydon directly pulled off the mask on his face. A faint smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. The branch chief was now in a state of extreme confusion. He stared wide-eyed, as if not believing what was happening before him. Bitch Lydon asked nonchalantly, and here I thought I had committed a capital crime. The branch chief exclaimed in horror, Bitch, why are you so greedy? The branch chief quickly remembered the heavy bag of money hanging from Bitch Lydon's waist. He roared in anger, my money. Give me back my money. Bitch Lydon just laughed once and then decisively exposed him. How? Is this your money? Isn't this the money you stole from my family? The branch chief, mad with anger, drew his weapon while shouting, Sage, shut up. Immediately after, streaks of light flashed through the air. Before the branch chief could understand what was happening, Bitch Lydon had already lunged past him with his sword. The branch chief only had time to feel a sharp pain in his neck. A spray of red blood filled the sky. He collapsed just like that, taking his ambitions with him as he logged out. After that one decisive blow, a murderous glint still flashed in Bitch Lydon's eyes. He coldly turned and walked away as if nothing had happened. The branch chief lay on the ground, letting out a few last gasps. In the end, one lay in a pool of blood, while the other walked away majestically, as if he were still a righteous alliance leader. Bitch Lydon still solemnly bestowed his last words upon him. The martial arts alliance didn't make you a branch chief for you to commit such corrupt acts. Your duty is to protect the martial artists of the martial world. At this point, the branch chief also completely lost all signs of life. Bitch Lydon walked away leisurely, leaving behind 2 sinners he had purged. Bai Lydon immediately returned to the Jinan prefecture. The black market. I brought the money. It's exactly right. The expression on Bai Lydon's face gradually relaxed. I also didn't expect that I could earn this amount of money in the allotted time. The shopkeeper carefully took the money bag and turned to go inside. Young master, please wait a moment. After I transfer the money to the inner office, I'll bring out the spirit medicine right away. Balai also calmly replied, I'll wait for you here. He quietly watched the shopkeeper's back as he left. 44,000 taels. Balai eyes were once again lost in thought. This was an amount of money an ordinary person could use to eat well and dress beautifully for a lifetime. No, even their children and grandchildren could live in luxury. If one wasn't a martial artist of the Jianghu, it would be hard for anyone to understand why I would use this enormous sum of money to exchange for 50 years of internal energy. But for a martial practitioner, 50 years of internal energy? The shopkeeper very quickly returned with a wooden box in his hand. Balai final train of thought came to a halt. Is an entire 50 long, bitter years of effort. Bitter. Balai took the box. I'll check it for a moment. He cautiously opened it. Immediately after, Balai eyes widened in astonishment. Before him was a perfect spirit herb placed neatly in the wooden box. Balai silently assessed with satisfaction. Its condition is very good. The shopkeeper spoke cheerfully. I told you so. Young master, you're very lucky. As Balai closed the box, he bowed his head slightly. It's all thanks to your care, sir. Thank you, sir. The shopkeeper stroked his chin, also looking very pleased. He watched intently as Balai prepared to leave. Then, the shopkeeper exclaimed enthusiastically, Indeed, a spirit medicine always has its own master. A while later, in an area filled only with large boulders piled on top of each other, a small crevice was hidden among the boulders. Inside, there was a large cave, and the person sitting right in the middle was Balai. His eyes were contemplative. Balai carefully observed the spirit herb below. 1,000-year, 3-yang ginseng. He quickly took off his outer robe, revealing his firm shoulders. He silently recalled the uses of that spirit herb. An ordinary person who consumes it can live a long, disease-free life. As for a martial practitioner, they can increase their internal energy, at least 10 years, and possibly even 50 years. Balai immediately placed it neatly in his hand. If a normal master can gain 10 years of internal energy from eating the 1,000-year 3-yang ginseng, then with my heavenly martial heart protection art, I can surely achieve that much effect as well. Balai thought to himself, now let's begin. Then he decisively bit into the spirit herb. As soon as Balai swallowed it, his body began to emit a faint white aura. He closed his eyes, focusing on the changes in his body. Everything around him was completely silent. Balai expression grew increasingly tense. A sudden flash of light appeared. A torrent of immense energy swirled and merged with the blinding light, as if creating a reaction within Balai body. Outside, everything remained extremely quiet. Time passed just like that, until a powerful beam of light suddenly flashed from within the cave. Balai had remained in a state of extreme concentration. At this moment, his eyes finally snapped open. Deep within them was a strange circle of light. Balai gently looked at the palm of his hand. Then, he immediately clenched his fist. Balai eyes radiated a powerful aura, and the corner of his mouth curled up into a slight smile. Balai quickly walked out of the cave entrance. He silently gazed at the mountains and forests below, feeling the gentle breeze brush against his skin, and assessed internally. After an increase of 15 years, I now have 20 years of cultivation. Balai decisively drew his sword, raising it to face level. He channeled his energy and thrust the sword forward, carrying a powerful pressure as if it could blow away anything obstructing its tip. Balai continued to pivot his feet. The sword energy I unleash is also much more powerful. His body had now become incredibly flexible, and he leaned rhythmically with each graceful sword stroke. Streams of immense energy also escaped with his every slash, and not only that. The flow of sword energy has also become extremely natural, and that's with me only. With a serious expression, Balai lunged forward, his sword tip aimed straight ahead. He told himself, I've only increased my cultivation by 15 years. Although there was no specific target, Balai still executed incredibly powerful and beautiful sword strokes, seemingly causing the surrounding air to become heavily compressed. He sighed emotionally in his heart. How long has it been since I felt this excitement? Then, he crouched low to the ground. In the next second, only a gust of wind was seen rushing past. In the blink of an eye, Balai was able to leap high up. Balai landed lightly on a small tree branch. The entire scenery, from the mountains to the dense forests and the winding blue river, all came into his view. A small hope gradually kindled in Balai heart. The hope that my path of martial cultivation this time will not be as brutal and blood-soaked as my previous life. Thus, his eyes just stared into the indefinite distance, hoping that at the end of this road will be what I have always wished for. Then, the figure on the branch once again vanished like a fleeting breeze, heading back towards the Bai family estate. Balai calmly pushed the door open and stepped inside. Kuang Dao, as if he had been waiting, saw him and asked worriedly, Why are you only back now, young master? Balai was puzzled. What's wrong? Kwang Dao immediately sighed in relief. There's been no news from you for the past few days, young master. I was so worried about you, I could barely function. Bai Lai Don quickly noticed the haggard look on Kwang Dao's face. Look at this kid's eyes. He couldn't sleep because he was worried about me. As he walked past him, he gently reminded, "You don't need to worry about me, kid." Kwang Dao asked in alarm. How could this servant not worry? He also hurried after Bai Lai Don to inquire. So how did everything go? Did you catch that person, young master? Bai Lai Don leisurely replied, "I'm a person who always repays my debts." Hearing this, Kwang Dao was stunned, as if he understood the meaning behind Bai Lai Don's words. Could it be? Before he could regain his composure, Bai Lai Don asked sternly, "By the way, have you been diligently practicing the heart technique? Try performing it for me once." Kwang Dao was flustered. Why so suddenly? But Bai Lai Don was very nonchalant. What's so sudden about it? Kwang Dao's voice trembled as he tried to make an excuse. It's just that this servant was too worried about someone, and so Bai Lai Don bluntly urged, "Hurry up." Kwang Dao could only obey. Yes. A moment later, Kwang Dao, with a tense expression, was channeling his streams of qi. Behind him, Bai Lai Don attentively observed his state. He slowly placed a hand on Kwang Dao's back to feel it. Immediately after, Bai Lai Don couldn't hide the surprise in his eyes. He smiled faintly with satisfaction. Look at this kid. He pretends like he hasn't been studying at all, but in reality, he's been incredibly diligent. Bai Lai Don then praised him happily. All right, this level is already very good. Hearing this encouragement, Kwang Dao also showed his joy. Really? The next second, tears of happiness welled up in his eyes. Seeing this, Bai Lai Don was curious. You're that happy? As Kwang Dao stood up, he confessed softly, "Since I started practicing martial arts, this is the first time this servant has been praised by the young master." Bai Lai Don replied cheerfully, "Don't be so dramatic." Deep in his eyes, a hint of sadness suddenly flickered. He remembered the hands that had gently caught the biting, cold snowflake. Ba Bao smiled faintly. His expression relaxed, as if he was receiving it with all his happiness. He looked towards the far distance, letting himself fully feel the cold from the white snow. At that time, Bai Lai Don had silently observed Ba Bao. Ba Bao was also such a sentimental person, to the point that just seeing the first snow of the season was enough to make him happy. Remembering himself in the days when he was the alliance leader with white hair and beard, he thought to himself, thinking back, those close to me were all such sentimental people. At this moment, Kwang Dao suddenly asked doubtfully, "But, young master, something about you seems different." Bai Lai Don came to a judgment. This kid is really perceptive. Could it be that he has seen that I have opened a run and do meridians and changed my chi path? If not, then perhaps it's because he has been by my side for too long. With that thought, he calmly asked back, "What do you see a difference?" Kwang Dao placed a hand on his chin, his face looking as if he was pondering something. This servant doesn't know where it's different, but what do you see a difference? You become much calmer, young master. Hearing this, Bai Lai Don silently confirmed indeed. But right after, Kwang Dao acted as if he had a sudden realization and made a very oh my god guess. Could it be that on this trip, a woman has appeared in the young master's life? The expression on Bai Lai Don's face instantly went from satisfied to speechless. He asked again in bewilderment, what? Kwang Dao was still very confident in his judgment. He even made up other outrageous details. That's right, isn't it? You two have slept together, haven't you? It must be. Bai Lai Don was too tired to explain. He could only helplessly return to the main topic. Stop making a fuss. From now on, I will teach you techniques. So go bring the sword you bought last time. Kwang Dao put on an innocent face, but still replied yes. The two quickly moved to the training yard. Bai Lai Don was explaining every detail to Kwang Dao. Kwang Dao listened to him attentively while focusing on the sword in his hand. Bai Lai Don even diligently corrected his every move. He demonstrated first, and Kwang Dao watched, trying to memorize and repeat. The two continued like that, one teaching with dedication, the other practicing with enthusiasm. Bai Lai Don observed silently and smiled. In his eyes, Kwang Dao was always working very hard. The entire large yard had only two small figures practicing, yet their spirit did not diminish at all. A while later, Bai Lai Don had returned to his room to meditate and stabilize his qi. He gently exhaled and inhaled in a steady rhythm. At this moment, a piercing scream suddenly rang out, breaking Bai Lai Don's concentration. Young master, something terrible has happened. Kwang Dao rushed in to report. The martial arts alliance leader has passed away. Bai Lai Don lowered his face, trying to maintain his breathing. Seeing him act unconcerned, Kwang Dao was stunned for a few seconds. He anxiously pointed outside. The entire Jianghu is in an uproar right now. Not just the martial artists, but even the common people. Everyone is talking about the martial arts alliance leader. Bai Lai Don still asked nonchalantly, "So what?" Kwang Dao couldn't help but ask directly in confusion, "What's with your reaction, young master?" Bai Lai Don calmly retorted, "What's wrong? Do I have to cry my eyes out?" Kwang Dao immediately argued back, "At least you should act surprised, right?" As he tied up his hair, he countered, "I was surprised." Kwang Dao still still looked at him with a puzzled expression. A series of question marks appeared clearly in his head. Balidon glanced at the scenery outside. Balidon thought to himself, I was very surprised. It's just that you don't know. He briefly recalled the image of himself collapsed on the floor. Even I didn't expect to die in that way. Kwang Dao suddenly asked curiously, what kind of person was the alliance leader? A faint smile appeared on his lips. Balidon didn't answer, but was drawn into his own stream of memories. Kwang Dao suddenly spoke up. What a pity he died as the martial arts alliance leader. Balidon couldn't help but be surprised by Kwang Dao's words. Why? Kwang Dao lowered his head slightly, a look of bitterness clear on his face. His voice was also filled with unwillingness. Isn't that so? He was in the happiest position in the world, yet he died. If it were me, I would be too resentful to die. A flicker of surprise flashed in by Lai Don's eyes. As if a layer of fog was covering his eyes, Lai Don asked himself, happiness? Have I ever been happy? He recalled the scene of himself standing above the world. Even Ba Bao and Zhuge Liang only accepted to stand behind and serve him. Everyone was afraid of me. Until one day, when even the figures of those close to him gradually faded away. He was left standing alone. The alliance leader at that time also wanted to look back, but in his eyes, there was only disappointment and suppressed loneliness. He thought of the image of countless subordinates submitting to him, yet there was a deep chasm between them. I have subordinates who would willingly die for me if I just gave the order, but there was still an invisible wall separating me and them. He thought of Zhuge Liang again. Even with the Grand Commander and Zhuge Liang, I never share my private, secret matters with them. The alliance leader's eyes widened. I was never truly honest with them, but then a hazy mist covered them, forcing him to accept it. I am truly a lonely person at the position above all others. Bai Lai Don's eyes now were the same, filled with loneliness and hopelessness. But then, a cheerful voice startled him, making him look back. Young master, shall we have a drink? Bai Lai Don asked doubtfully why. Kwang Dao replied sincerely. An old man of the Jianghu has suddenly passed away. Let's have a drink as a sign of our condolences to him. Bai Lai Don's eyes immediately widened, but now there were glimmers of light in them. Bai Lai Don smiled faintly. Indeed, you're the only one who thinks of me. Then, he happily agreed. All right, on the occasion of you becoming a martial artist of the Jianghu, treat me to a drink. Kwang Dao looked thoughtful. Since the young master has said so, how can this servant not buy wine to treat the young master? In the end, he still generously shouted, all right then, it's my treat. Bai Lai Don also had to laugh enthusiastically. At a large tower with tiled roofs and meticulously carved patterns. By the window, a figure was silently gazing into the distance. Zhuge Liang was silent for a long time. A question kept circling in his mind. The alliance leader has passed away? He frowned slightly. His eyes tightened in deep thought. I still can't believe this truth. A voice suddenly came from behind, making him pause for a moment. We can't delay the selection of the next alliance leader any longer. Zhuge Liang turned his head coldly. He just remained silent. The person sitting leisurely at the table pouring tea was the leader of the Bright Moon Troop, Zhu Tailong. A surge of bitterness welled up in Zhuge Liang's heart. He asked himself, when the alliance leader was alive, he was the one who swore his loyalty with his life. But now, he didn't even bother to discuss it with me and has nominated himself for the position of alliance leader. Zhuge Liang thought of the increasingly fierce struggles. Not only that, the 10 great organizations of the Martial Arts Alliance, including the Bright Moon Troop, the Iron Cavalry Troop, the Red Dragon Troop, the Lightning Law Hall, the Finance Hall, and even the Council of Elders, they're all trying to win over the core organizations. Thinking of this, Zhuge Liang could only silently clench his fist in the face of the harsh reality, and all of this had been prepared a long time ago. At this moment, a resolute thought flashed through his mind, and also, that's right, the alliance leader was assassinated. Zhu Tailong indifferently urged, I understand the commander's feelings, but shouldn't the Martial Arts Alliance continue to operate normally? We cannot delay any longer. Zhuge Liang could only reluctantly nod to get over with. I will consider this matter carefully. Zhu Tielong's eyes, filled with schemes, glanced at Zhuge Liang. He suddenly slammed the teacup down on the table. Zhu Tailong stood up bluntly. If you continue to be so stubborn, we will have to vote without the commander's presence. Hearing these words, Zhuge Liang's expression darkened. His eyes seemed to hold an unspeakable sorrow. The atmosphere in the room immediately became tense. Zhuge Liang remained silent for a long time, until he suddenly let out a long sigh. Zhuge Liang could only helplessly tell himself he has won over 2 of the 3 most important organizations in the Martial Arts Alliance. There's nothing I can do now. Zhuge Liang once again looked out into the space outside. He thought unwillingly, Alliance leader, you can't just leave like this. Elsewhere, on a quiet street corner, a small cup of wine was poured. Bai Lai Don was now sitting calmly at a small tavern. Suddenly, the sound of a lively conversation caught his attention. I don't know about him as an alliance leader, but as a martial artist, alliance leader Tian is someone who deserves the respect of this entire world. An old man was enthusiastically telling a story. Do you all know about the battle between alliance leader Tian and the fighting demon? A person at the same table table with the old man continued. Of course, wasn't that story later turned into many tales and passed down among the people? The old man waved his hand, that's right, but most of those stories are just nonsense. The other man asked curiously, how do you know so much? The old man put on a mysterious face and replied, because I was there. Hearing this, Balai had a chuckle. He silently exposed him in his heart. That old man is lying. Balai faintly recalled the scene of that day. Rain poured down, soaking everyone lying on the ground. None of the people who participated in the battle that day survived. The fighting demon, of course, died. Not only that, I also killed all of his subordinates. The boastful old man's performance was still very smooth. He lowered his voice, feigning danger. The fighting demon looked very scary. He immediately described the image of a terrifying great demon king, 9 feet tall. His fist was like an adult's head. In other words, he was born to fight. Hearing this, Balai felt weary. 9 feet tall, a fist as big as a person's head? He recalled the image of 2 large men following a small young man. The first time I saw the fighting demon, I was very surprised. He was only about 5 feet tall, very short and scrawny. His demeanor was effeminate and completely unsuited for fighting. Balai suddenly put down his teacup. The smug look on that fighting demon's face made him silently affirm. However, the old man's words were not entirely wrong. At that time, he had lunged towards Balai with a blood-red pressure that looked incredibly terrifying because that guy was truly insanely strong. He himself had to grit his teeth to defend and fight with great difficulty. The old man was still continuing his story. The Martial Arts Alliance leader showed his miraculous strength. Then, he became as excited as if he were telling his own story. Especially, the final moments of the battle were something I could never forget. The great Alliance leader dodged the pressure wave from the fighting demon's fist and flew straight into the sky. In his mind now was the image of Balai with a confident face, pointing his sword down. Then, according to the old man's tale, he just plunged down, using countless sharp sword strikes to pierce through the fighting demon. After soaring up like an azure dragon, dozens of sword energies poured down like a storm. It was a magnificent scene. Hearing this, the other people actually believed it without a doubt. They even exclaimed in admiration, "I'm so jealous. If I could have witnessed that battle, I would die content. Long live the sword god." At this point, Balai was also speechless. So that battle was beautified like that. He immediately remembered the scene back then. The sword was worn out, and neither of them had the glamorous appearance from the story. The truth is that the fighting demon was crawling on the ground, and I had a very difficult time plunging the sword into his heart. At this moment, a sarcastic voice suddenly cut in. So what if he's the sword god? A man turned around unhappily and asked, "Do you have a problem?" The other guy put on a despicable look and nonchalantly asked back, "Haven't you heard the rumor that Tion Ha-jin got rich through illicit means?" The other man was stunned. Is that true? It wasn't just them. The main subject himself, sitting nearby, was also extremely bewildered upon hearing this. I got rich through illicit means? The despicable guy showed clear contempt. If you had such high martial arts skills, wouldn't you do the same? The fat man, sitting at the same table with him, also chimed in. I think I've heard that rumor before. As well, the 2 men who had just listened to the old man's story. One was still in shock, really? The other sighed wearily. Well, he is the Alliance leader after all. The despicable guy poured wine while mocking. Alliance leader Tion is the most powerful Alliance leader among all the others. Balai took in all the gossip without missing a single word. Yet he died before he could spend all that money. How much did he embezzle in the end? 1,000,000 taels? 10,000,000 taels? It must be a lot. Balai expression grew deeper and deeper. His eyes were trying to suppress the anger in his heart. I can tolerate other slanders, but illicit enrichment? But the more those people talked, the more enthusiastic they got, each of them acting as if they knew everything. The Martial Arts Alliance leader has been embezzling for a long time, for sure. Balai just quietly left. No explanation, no response. He just let out a soft sigh. His eyes drooped slightly. I have lived my whole life for the Jianghu. Balai quickly pulled his hat down to hide his face. He silently blended into the crowd with an unspeakable disappointment. I thought they would also like me, or at least know what kind of person I am. But no, they know nothing. Returning to the familiar scenery of the Bai estate. The figure of the young man was graceful in every sword stroke. Kwang Dao was able to stand firmly in the correct stance. His hand decisively swung out powerful sword strikes. Balai stood silently behind, observing Kwang Dao. He suddenly became interested and wondered, does this kid know? No one in this Jianghu has ever been taught by me like this. His eyes drooped slightly, because I'm the one teaching. The 7 forms of the Southern Sea has never been so easy to learn. Right after, Balai stepped forward and asked, "You've mastered the techniques of the 7 forms of the Southern Sea, haven't you?" Seeing him, Kwang Dao was startled. "When did you arrive, young master?" Balai Don replied calmly, "A while ago, but you were too focused to notice." Hearing that, Kwang Dao scratched his head and laughed sheepishly. He continued to instruct, "You must remember this. The same type of martial art will have certain differences depending on the user. When practicing martial arts, the person is always the most important thing." Baldy immediately replied enthusiastically, "This lowly one will remember." Then Bitch Lai Don presented the sword in his hand. "From now on, get rid of that one and use this to train." Baldy's eyes were glued to the gleaming sword before him. He asked in astonishment, "Young master, did you buy this sword for this lowly one?" Bitch Lai Don replied cheerfully, "That's right." Baldy carefully took it and cherished the sword. He called out with a choked voice, "Young master." Bitch Lai Don urged him unhappily, "All right, try drawing the sword once." Baldy immediately and gently drew the sword from its sheath, his expression extremely tense. Bitch Lai Don also silently watched his reaction. Right after, Baldy raised the tip of the sword and exclaimed in happiness, "A sword bought by the young master is truly different. The feeling is very distinct. Even with a treasure sword in hand, this lowly one could not have a feeling like this." Bitch Lai Don bluntly retorted, "You only say that because you've never held a treasure sword before." But Baldy's face suddenly darkened. He stared at Bitch Lai Don as if pondering something. Bitch Lai Don also immediately noticed his unusual expression and asked in confusion, "What's wrong?" Baldy suddenly asked seriously, "Young master, are you all right?" Bitch Lai Don was still bewildered. "What is it?" But Baldy continued to act scared and backed away from him, leaving Bitch Lai Don utterly speechless and confused. Then, Baldy recounted in a trembling voice, "There's a saying that when a person does something they've never done before, it's a sign they're about to die." Hearing this, Bitch Lai Don gave a confident smile and promised, "If that's the case, then I'll leave a will to have you buried with me." Baldy became even more panicked and quickly ran farther away. Bitch Lai Don's eyes now grew profound. "There are not many people who can look me straight in the eye and talk, because everyone is afraid of me." He recalled having gone through hundreds of campaigns and had also subjugated countless heroes to kneel under his command. But as he lowered his gaze, a question repeated in his mind. Was I happy with that? Bitch Lai Don's eyes were still filled with determination. At times, I saw it as a testament to my own strength. The long lines of people below all bowed respectfully to him, a testament to his lofty self-esteem. Until this moment, looking at what was before his eyes, another thought suddenly appeared in him. Thinking back now, if I hadn't made that choice, my life might have been different. He frowned slightly with a look of regret. How nice it would have been if I could have had a close relationship with them, without any distance. Over on the other side, Baldy was suddenly full of spirit and confidently affirmed, "With this sword, this lowly one will definitely become a master." Bitch Lai Don closed his eyes and smiled with relief. He calmly turned around while reminding him, "I'm leaving. You go and train." Thankfully, the air here is always clear and fresh. Tong Gu Kin spoke a greeting. "Young master, have you been well?" Bitch Lai Don also replied politely, "Yes, and you as well, family head Tong?" Tong Gu Kin chatted warmly. "I just came from meeting the young master's father." The atmosphere between the two suddenly became suffocating. Bitch Lai Don also understood inwardly. To be honest, this relationship is rather awkward because the marriage alliance between me and Tong Hoa Lan has been called off. Tong Gu Kin continued to show sympathy. "I know the young master went through a period of being lost, but I think that youthful impulsiveness is not a bad thing." He smiled kindly and added, "Because it is those mistakes that will help the young master in the future." Bitch Lai Don also felt a sense of relief. I didn't expect that even at this point, he would still have such good thoughts about me. He then thought about how the head of the bitch sect and Tong Gu Kin shared a close friendship. Of course, that also stemmed from the friendship between him and my father. That was also something I was very envious of. Black and white images from his past life flickered in Bitch Lai Don's mind, because in my past life, I was unable to have that. Right after, Tong Gu Kin Roy reassured Bitch Lai Don in a fluster, "Young master, you don't need to worry about calling off the engagement with Lana anymore. Daughters can be fickle." Bitch Lai Don calmly retorted, "Doesn't the family head know very well that's not the case?" Hearing this, Tong Gu Kin was startled and called out loudly, "Young master." He still replied decisively, "This junior thinks that Lana was not wrong at all. Marriage is an important matter in one's life, and it must be decided by oneself." Tong Gu Kin was rendered speechless by his words. Bitch Lai Don maintained a calm expression despite the man's scrutinizing gaze. Tong Gu Kin immediately turned around. His tone had softened a few degrees, but he still insisted, "Even so, I will not give up on you, young master." Baldy, who had been waiting outside the door, immediately bowed respectfully upon seeing Tong Gu Kin emerge. He cast a worried glance at the man's retreating back. Bitch Lai Don suddenly let out a long sigh. Baldy hurried over to chide Bitch Lai Don. Shouldn't the young master have said that we will get along in the future? Why did the young master have to be so honest and straightforward? Bitch Lai Don calmly asked him in return, "Do you think that by doing so, the relationship between me and young Miss Tong will become better?" Baldy looked confused. Didn't the young master say so himself? Bitch Lai Don was curious. Why is that? Baldy recalled helplessly. Why what? The young master has repeated it many times before. Because young Miss Tong is very beautiful. And it's not just about beauty, is it? A good family background, and she's intelligent. Not only that, but her father has an excellent character. What more could the young master hope for? Then he even let out a soft sigh and exclaimed, the young master must have saved the entire martial world his past life to have such a blessing. Hearing this, Bitch Lai Don had to silently confirm. Thinking back, it's true that I did save the entire martial world in my past life, didn't I? Then he pointed out decisively, but you've missed the most important thing. That is love. Hearing this, Baldy was suddenly stunned. Seeing this, Bitch Lai Don had to ask doubtfully, what's with that expression? Bitch Lai Don calmly analyzed. There's no love between us, is there? Baldy still stood there dumbfounded, with an expression that spoke volumes. Bitch Lai Don was even more confused. Did I say something wrong? Only then did Baldy reply, no sir. Bitch Lai Don was still not over his confusion. Then why are you looking at me with that expression? Then, Baldy still stared at him with wide, astonished eyes. He explained softly, the young master has truly matured. You speak just like an adult. Hearing this, Bitch Lai Don didn't reply and maintained an extremely calm demeanor. Right after, he suddenly remembered and asked, but what are you doing here? Baldy quickly relayed the message. Oh, I forgot, the family head is summoning the young master. Inside the main room of the bitch residence, Bitch Lai Don quickly arrived. Father, you called for me. The head of the bitch sect began. That's right, I have something to tell you. The master of the Tong family manor just left here. Bitch Lai Don briefly recounted their conversation. I just met him outside as well. He said that the engagement cannot be called off. The head of the bitch sect exclaimed, oh dear, this friend of mine is really something. Bitch Lai Don quickly got to the main point. Father, what did you want to talk to me about? The head of the bitch sect reiterated. My friend came here to discuss a matter. He carefully explained the situation to Bitch Lai Don. The Shandong Merchant Guild is the largest merchant guild in Shandong. They want to gather the noble families in Shandong to create the Shandong Alliance. Hearing this, Bitch Lai Don's eyes widened in astonishment. The Shandong Alliance? The head of the bitch sect placed a hand on his chin, pondering as he spoke. That's right, not just Shandong. Alliances in other places are also stirring. This is happening right before the election of a new Wulin Alliance leader. A look of confusion was already clear in Bitch Lai Don's eyes that in the past, I strictly forbade martial arts sects from forming factions and cliques. It was to prevent those with power from joining forces to create chaos. He recalled how stern he had been, and yet, as soon as I died, the martial world immediately changed like this. This is much faster than I expected. The expression of the head of the bitch sect opposite him suddenly grew grim. The Shandong Merchant Guild has put forth a proposal to support the Tong family manor. They intend to make this friend of mine the head of the Shandong Alliance. Bitch Lai Don immediately and shrewdly guessed. Father must also support the Tong family manor, right? The head of the bitch sect confirmed. That's right, I've decided that no matter what decision Master Tong makes, I will support him. Hearing this, Bitch Lai Don fell silent for a moment. He carefully posed a question in his mind. Why would the Shandong Merchant Guild make such a proposal? This matter needs to be considered carefully. Bitch Lai Don's eyes narrowed slightly. He silently reminded himself. A businessman will surely only act when there is a benefit to be gained. Especially when you do business with a martial arts sect, it must be an extremely cautious decision. Then Bitch Lai Don bowed his head slightly. Thank you for letting me know about this. The family head behind him always had a gentle smile for him. The head of the bitch sect also said softly, thank you. This is something you definitely must know about. Bitch Lai Don also smiled slightly in response. I will go over there and see how things are. The head of the bitch sect added softly. All right. Walking down the long corridor, Bitch Lai Don silently assessed. It seems my relationship with those two is becoming deeper and deeper. He recalled the first day he returned. At first, I only thought of accepting them as my parents in form only. Now it seems it's no longer just a formality, but an emotional aspect. He glanced up at the clear blue sky and silently confirmed in his heart, I have truly come to see those two as my own parents. He told himself, my late mother would surely understand. Even if the filial piety I couldn't give you has been transferred to these two. Around the bitch residence, there didn't seem to be many people passing by. But Bitch Lai Don's eyes were now showing surprise. The person who appeared before him was Tong Hoa Lan. In contrast, she looked at Bitch Lai Don very calmly. Tong Hoa Lan spoke first, breaking the awkward atmosphere between them. You seem surprised, young master? Bitch Lai Don quickly regained his composure and replied, I just didn't expect the young miss to be looking for me. Tong Hoa Lan suddenly looked resigned. To be honest, if I didn't need a favor, I wouldn't have sought you out, young master. Hearing this, Bitch Lai Don was flustered. Me? Tong Hoa Lan's expression immediately became serious. She directly stated her wish. That's right. Could you speak with the head of the bitch sect and persuade my father to refuse the Shandong Merchant Guild's offer? Bitch Lai Don was stunned for a moment. Right after, he calmly asked Tong Hoa Lan, if my father were to stop him, would the young Mrs. Father change his mind? Tong Ho Alan answered frankly. To be honest, I don't know either, but I can be sure that the opinion of the head of the bitch family has a great influence on my father's decision. Bitch Lai Don then sighed. Ah, I understand the lady's meaning. He calmly asked for more details. So what is the reason you want to prevent this? Tong Ho Alan said decisively. The matter of establishing the Shandong alliance is not suitable for my father. Bitch Lai Don calmly reminded her. Aren't you underestimating your father? A little? But Tong Ho Alan maintained a very resolute attitude. It's better than overestimating and then having problems arise. Hearing this, Bitch Lai Don silently analyzed. That's true. Acting cautiously in this chaotic situation is not superfluous. Moreover, there's a high probability that the Tong family manor will be toppled by this change if they overestimate themselves. Then he continued to raise a doubt. Didn't the previous Wulin alliance leader already stabilize the martial world? In this era of great peace, becoming the head of an alliance is not a bad thing. The strength of the Tong family manor is also very great. Tong Ho Alan's face became gloomy upon hearing these words. That's precisely why I feel worried. Bitch Lai Don couldn't help but be confused. What do you mean by that, my lady? Tong Ho Alan looked worried. For a long time, the Wulin alliance leader ran the martial world with his absolute martial prowess. It is a fact that he protected the peace of the martial world. Thinking of the other great powers, Tong Ho Alan became even more anxious, but conversely, it also allowed some things to grow in the dark. Bitch Lai Don still didn't quite understand her meaning and asked again, things that grow in the dark. What are they? Tong Ho Alan pointed out decisively. Suppressed ambitions. At this, Bitch Lai Don could not hide the look of shock on his face. Like wild beasts that always fight and tear each other apart. Martial artists of the Jianghu are people who carry the instinct to defeat others to climb to a higher position. They are born with a violent, wild nature. She calmly affirmed. They're wolves and tigers, not rabbits or deer, are they? Then, the appearance of the alliance leader, who was Bitch Lai Don in his past life, created a sturdy iron cage that imprisoned everyone. Thanks to the alliance leader's power, everyone had to suppress their instincts. Because if they dared to reveal them, he would kill them without mercy immediately. A beast tied up for a long time. Throughout those long years, until the shackles were broken, Tong Ho Alan asked bluntly, weren't they always waiting for the alliance leader's death? Or not? Bitch Lai Don's eyes completely lost their composure. He was horrified as if he had realized a truth that had been buried for a very long time. They were just waiting for the day I died? As an alliance leader, Bitch Lai Don could never have anticipated this. An extreme confusion seemed to pour from the depths of his eyes. Another new day passed. Bitch Lai Don was getting dressed, but his expression was somewhat gloomy. He slowly opened his eyes, and deep within them, a patch of sorrow seemed to exist. After talking with Tong Ho Alan, it's been a long time since I've had that dream again. Bitch Lai Don recalled the scene in his dream, a dream where I returned to the past and participated in a Wulin Alliance conference. At that time, he seriously observed each person, but everyone had an extremely calm attitude. Bitch Lai Don scanned past each familiar face. In the end, a big question arose in him. Were they really just hoping for me to die? Thinking of this, Bitch Lai Don's eyes suddenly turned cold. He silently judged. If so, was I assassinated? A moment later, inside a small pavilion in the middle of a large lake, two figures could be seen. Tong Ho Alan's impatient voice rang out. Young master, you didn't speak with the head of the bitch family? Bitch Lai Don replied awkwardly. That's right. Hearing this, Tong Ho Alan was stunned, her face clearly showing disappointment. Then she lowered her head sadly. All right, I can't blame the young master either. I'm sorry for asking the young master to do such a difficult thing. But Bitch Lai Don's next words startled her. I think your method is wrong. Tong Ho Alan asked in confusion. What? Bitch Lai Don calmly explained. If my father were to vehemently oppose it, family head Tong might stop. He said nonchalantly. But if that happens, Lord Tong will forever regret this matter. Tong Ho Alan listened attentively, a hint of confusion on her face. Bitch Lai Don continued to analyze. Not only that, but after this, the friendship between my father and yours could very well fracture. He looked at Tong Ho Alan meaningfully. I know this is something you do not want. Tong Ho Alan did not deny it. Of course, I would never want their relationship to change because of this matter. Bitch Lai Don suggested. Therefore, you need to find a decisive reason for your father to issue a refusal. Tong Ho Alan couldn't help but be doubtful. Of course, if I could find that reason, nothing would be better, but how? Bitch Lai Don suddenly asked bluntly. Have you tried looking for it? Tong Ho Alan was stopped in her tracks by his unexpected question. What? Bitch Lai Don repeated seriously. I'm asking if you've ever tried to look, not suppress desires. We need a more concrete reason. Tong Ho Alan stared at him with wide eyes, silent for a long time. She wanted to explain, but the words that came out of her mouth didn't know how to form. That is, Bitch Lai Don maintained a very calm demeanor. He then recounted to Tong Ho Alan. Yesterday, Chief Steward Tong, I heard something. A few months ago, the Shandong Merchant Guild, which was being held back by the Tong family manor, had planned to open a large trading area. However, matters related to it quickly disappeared. Tong Ho Alan was bewildered. Trading? What kind of trading? Bitch Lydone also looked helpless. I don't know either. Then, his expression suddenly grew grim. But I think that matter is related to this one. We clearly need to verify why they stopped this trade. Tong Ho Alan was worried. My father is about to give his answer. I really don't have time to investigate this matter anymore. Bitch Lydone suggested. You just need to give money to the information brokers. Then you can find out what you need to know within a day. Hearing this, Tong Ho Alan was surprised. Information brokers? Bitch Lydone didn't forget to add. That's right, although the price is not cheap. Right after, he gently urged, you should make a choice. Tong Ho Alan's face showed a haggard look as if she had been thinking a lot, and now she had to hesitate between two choices. Night fell, the whole sky mystical with twinkling stars. On the street, two figures were walking silently. Bitch Lydone glanced at Tong Ho Alan, who was following behind. I didn't expect she could gather 2,000 taels in just 4 hours. He observed the awkwardness on her face and realized. She looked so tense. She must have never done this kind of transaction before. Bitch Lydone thought to himself. As for me, I learned about this method through Zhuge Liang, so Tong Ho Alan's current appearance is only natural. A moment later, at the Heavens Mandate Society in Kuk Fu Prefecture, all the rooms inside were brightly lit. Tong Ho Alan then softly confessed. Because this is my first time, I'm a little nervous. Bitch Lydone smiled slightly. He carefully reminded her, don't let them know this is your first time. If they find out, they will press you for a higher price. Tong Ho Alan immediately adjusted the emotion on her face. She let out a sound in reply. I know. Bitch Lydone smiled again in satisfaction. The two of them quickly entered. Bitch Lydone, walking in front, gently lifted the curtain in front of the door. He calmly walked straight ahead, with Tong Ho Alan following closely. A man turned his head and asked, what brings you here? Bitch Lydone replied calmly. We came to an information broker, so, of course, it's to buy information. The information broker looked at the two of them with a scrutinizing gaze. Tong Ho Alan was trying to remain as calm as possible. The man's gaze shifted towards Bitch Lydone. His eyes were cold and deep, creating a suffocatingly oppressive feeling. Right after, the information broker calmly asked, what information do you want? Bitch Lydone replied decisively. I want to know about the Shandong Merchant Guild. The information broker immediately quoted a price. 1,500 taels. It was originally 200 taels, but the price has gone up recently. Bitch Lydone shrewdly realized. That means recent information has become more valuable. He glanced at Tong Ho Alan, giving her a signal. She stepped forward and placed a large bag of money on the table. I'll buy it. The information broker quickly tucked the money bag away. He began to speak. A few months ago, the Shandong Merchant Guild joined forces with the Yangshao gang to enter Hebei. Upon hearing this information, Bitch Lydone and Tong Ho Alan were both simultaneously stunned. The Yangshao gang? Bitch Lydone silently pieced together the timeline in his head. A few months ago was before I dealt with the Yangshao gang. This was from when Duong Ko Thiat was still the gang leader. The information broker continued to explain. You must know that it's just as difficult for a merchant group to enter a new area as it is for a martial arts sect to expand its territory. Because there isn't just one merchant guild. Bitch Lydone now realized they were trusting in the power of the Yangshao gang to pave the way for them. The information broker also confirmed it. That's right, the information broker carefully recounted. In the process, they came into conflict with the Sure family manor, a backer of the Hebei Merchant Guild. A turf war broke out. It could have been a major war. Tong Ho Alan listened intently to every word, her expression already a little tense, but the Yang gang leader suddenly passed away, so the Shandong Merchant Guild failed. The information broker suddenly lowered his voice, because Din Lu, who became the next generation's gang leader, cut ties with the Shandong Merchant Guild. Hearing this, Bitch Lydone asked doubtfully, if so, what will the Sure family manor and the Hebei Merchant Guild do? The information broker answered, of course they will want revenge on the Shandong Merchant Guild. There are even rumors that the Hebei Merchant Guild wants to take this opportunity to enter Shandong's territory. At this point, he concluded, this is all the information related to the Shandong Merchant Guild. Tong Ho Alan spoke up, thank you, your excellency. The two of them quickly left. Bitch Lydone thought to himself, if this information is completely useless, then the 1,500 taels would be considered thrown down the river. He carefully considered, but this was information that was worth much more than that. Tong Ho Alan, who had been silent all this time, suddenly spoke, so the Shandong alliance was all a lie. She judged with annoyance. They want to escape the pressure from the Sure family manor and the Hebei Merchant Guild, so they want to drag us into it. Bitch Lydone also confirmed, you're right. Tong Ho Alan lowered her face slightly, a gloomy look evident on her features. How terrifying. Bitch Lydone gently added, that's right, very terrifying. Tong Ho Alan looked up worriedly. Right after, she decisively turned away. I must quickly inform my father of this truth. Right away. But after walking a short distance, she suddenly stopped, which made Bitch Lydone confused. Tong Ho Alan softly said 2 words. Thank you. Bitch Lai Don calmly denied it. It's your money. You don't need to thank me. Hearing this, Tong Ho Alan suddenly blushed, her eyes widening in surprise. The next second, Tong Ho Alan hurriedly ran off. Bitch Lai Don also turned and went back his own way. The two of them left in different directions. The next day, Kwang Dao asked curiously, this subordinate heard that Manor Lord Tong and young Miss Tong came by yesterday. Is that right? Bitch Lai Don let out a soft in confirmation. He silently recalled, after learning the inside story, Manor Lord Tong came to my residence with Tong Ho Alan to thank me. Tong Gukin was extremely cordial at that time. Thank you, young master. It is thanks to you that I learned the whole truth. Bitch Lai Don also replied modestly, not at all. Lin Ni found out everything on her own. I was merely accompanying the young miss. Upon hearing these words, Tong Ho Alan still couldn't hide her surprise. Tong Gukin gently took his hand, expressing sincerely, I know. If it weren't for you, young master, the four manners would have been painfully deceived. His hand completely enveloped Bitch Li's small hand. He could feel it, a large and rough hand, yet incredibly warm. In the end, Tong Hoakin repeated once more, thank you so much, young master. Kwang Dao excitedly asked, through this incident, the young master has scored points with young Miss Tong. Did you two have a heart-to-heart drink together afterward? Bitch Lai Don bluntly denied it. No, they just left right after that. Hearing this, Kwang Dao looked regretful. Ah, you should have had a drink together, shared a few stories. Bitch Lai Don still smiled and replied comfortably, I had no such intention. With that, he suddenly made a suggestion, but you will spar with me today? Kwang Dao was immediately alarmed. Why so suddenly? Has something been troubling you lately, young master? Then you should be meeting with young Miss Tong, shouldn't you? Bitch Lai Don impatiently urged him, stop talking nonsense and bring the swords out. Kwang Dao became even more bewildered. Yes, are we really using real swords? Bitch Lai Don asked bluntly, are you planning to bring a wooden sword? Kwang Dao replied decisively, of course, that's a given. Bitch Lai Don suddenly became serious, affirming without hesitation, that's fine, but you won't be able to draw your sword when you're out there. These words made Kwang Dao's eyes widen in shock. He said nothing and just lowered his head slightly, his expression clearly showing his confusion. Immediately after, Kwang Dao looked up and replied with determination, this subordinate will bring the swords right away. A moment later, the two were in the middle of the training yard, ready. But Kwang Dao's hands holding the sword were trembling uncontrollably. Bitch Lai Don immediately noticed his state, his eyes coldly cast down for a long moment. Kwang Dao quickly spoke up to explain, young master, you being so sudden is making this subordinate a little scared. Bitch Lai Don calmly continued as he drew his sword, of course you should be scared. Drawing a sword and pointing it at someone is not a simple matter at all. Then, his face hardened as he reminded him, but trembling out of fear is not acceptable. Kwang Dao was stunned by Bitch Lai Don's words. Bitch Lai Don thought to himself, I don't know how Kwang Dao will take this, but every single word I speak contains the mindset related to martial arts. Kwang Dao then explained in confusion, this subordinate is just afraid of hurting the young master. Bitch Lai Don gave a slight, relaxed smile. He calmly reminded him, don't worry. Treat me as an enemy and attack with all your might. Kwang Dao immediately raised his sword and shouted, yes. He quickly entered a state of high concentration. In his sight, there was only one target, Bitch Lai Don. Bitch Lai Don also raised his sword slightly, his posture looking a bit more relaxed than Kwang Dao's. Immediately after, Kwang Dao leaped forward. He pointed his sword straight and charged towards Bitch Lai Don, but with just a light flick of his wrist, Bitch Lai Don blocked Kwang Dao's attack. Kwang Dao was knocked back by the force of Bitch Lai Don's sword, clenching his teeth to endure it. His eyes couldn't see clearly either. Bitch Lai Don shouted provocatively, open your eyes. Do it properly. Hearing this, Kwang Dao quickly pulled himself together. He once again raised his sword and charged forward. Bitch Lai Don directly leaned aside to dodge. Kwang Dao slightly turned the tip of his sword, his eyes burning with fighting spirit as he repeated his attack. He swung his sword in a horizontal sweep from bottom to top. Bitch Lai Don slightly shifted back, his hand quickly parrying the slash. Kwang Dao attacked relentlessly, and Bitch Lai Don simply blocked each blow. He was now starting to get serious, but Kwang Dao's continuous powerful strikes had exhausted him. Bitch Lai Don decisively launched a counterattack. Kwang Dao was panicked by the suffocating pressure. He tried to raise his sword to block, his eyes squeezing shut once more. Bitch Lai Don immediately warned, open your eyes. If you close your eyes, you'll die. Pay attention to your stance, too. Kwang Dao hastily replied, yes. With that, he sped up and launched a second wave of attacks. When Bitch Lai Don swung his sword, this time Kwang Dao was able to predict it and dodge. But then, he was pushed back by Bitch Lai Don's aura. Kwang Dao's face was now drenched in sweat. He could only grit his teeth and endure Bitch Lai Don's assault. Bitch Lai Don's eyes also narrowed slightly. The sword in his hand suddenly flashed, pointing straight at Kwang Dao, his gaze becoming just as sharp. Kwang Dao only had time to widen his eyes in terror. Immediately after, the air around them seemed to be blown away. Kwang Dao had to squint his eyes to endure it. As soon as he opened his eyes, right in front of him was a sharp sword tip pointed directly at him. Bitch Lai Don reminded him sternly, remember this. This is the feeling of a real battle. Kwang Dao looked at the sword tip before him and trembled with fear. Sweat poured down his face as he stammered in reply, "Yes, young master." Bitch Lai Don gently retracted his sword, and Kwang Dao collapsed on the ground. He panted heavily, his face still showing signs of panic. Bitch Lai Don quickly sat down beside him. He suddenly called out Kwang Dao. Kwang Dao hastily replied, "Yes." Bitch Lai Don said calmly, "If you're scared, it's okay to stop learning. You don't have to overexert yourself." Kwang Dao's expression became troubled, and he pressed his lips together tightly. Kwang Dao glanced at the sword in his hand, then immediately replied decisively, "Young master, this subordinate wants to see it through to the end." Bitch Lai Don was surprised by his words. Kwang Dao caressed the sword as he recounted, "This subordinate likes learning martial arts. Although I was very scared just now, I also felt very happy." He said in a relaxed tone, "This subordinate is happy because I am fighting." Bitch Lai Don smiled faintly. "Then you must see it through to the end." Kwang Dao was immediately filled with fighting spirit. "Yes, this subordinate will do so." "Young master, don't abandon this subordinate, okay?" Bitch Lai Don replied nonchalantly, "We'll see about your attitude first." Just then, raindrops began to patter on the ground. "Oh!" Kwang Dao excitedly looked up at the sky. It's the first rain of the season. Bitch Lai Don also quietly let himself feel the cool raindrops. Kwang Dao shouted again, "It seems like spring has really arrived." Bitch Lai Don softly added, "Yes, it's spring now." He faintly remembered the white snowflakes flying outside the window, which gave him a strange feeling. "I used to feel nothing when the first snow fell, yet now I'm moved by the arrival of the spring rain." Looking at the rain spreading across the sky, Bitch Lai Don wondered to himself, "A new spring awaits me. I wonder what will happen in the days to come." A few days later, the sky had returned to its usual clarity. Kwang Dao suddenly burst through the door, calling out loudly, "Young master." He hurriedly announced, "The new alliance leader has been announced." Kwang Dao thought to himself, the day has finally come. He calmly asked, "Who is it?" Kwang Dao's expression grew even more alarmed. "The sect leader of Tien Daomon has become the new alliance leader." Bitch Lai Don's eyes widened in disbelief. "What? The sect leader of Tien Daomon, Ma Bonko?" He silently recalled Bonko's cunning face. Ma Bonko is the sect leader of Tien Daomon, the sect of Ma Trung-on, the one I impersonated before. He immediately thought of the man's dirty secrets. That guy who has so many women, it's promiscuous. Not only are his affairs with women complicated, but he's also a man of great ambition for money and power, with an extremely cruel and dangerous personality. Bitch Lai Don couldn't help but feel indignant. "I never, not even once, thought that Ma Bonko would be the next one to sit in the alliance leader's position. How can a person like that become the martial arts alliance leader?" Bitch Lai Don's gaze turned cold. He asked carefully, "You didn't miss here, did you?" Kwang Dao immediately affirmed with certainty, "No, every corner of the neighborhood is talking about it right now." Kwang Dao was also certain of one thing. There's no way Jia Cat Luong would have voted for Ma Bon Company. He then speculated he must have had no way to prevent this from happening. Thinking of this, Bitch Lai Don unconsciously clenched his fists. This matter. A murderous glint flashed in his eyes. He decisively came to a conclusion. Something is wrong. In a magnificent capital city, with its long, straight streets, flanked by rows of traditional curved tile roofed houses, red lanterns hung all over the sky. In the distance were tall, majestic towers. All of it created an atmosphere that was both bustling and solemn in the capital city of Wuhan. On the streets, the bustling crowd of passers-by created the inherent liveliness of a prosperous capital. Behind the crowd was a tavern with people coming and going. Inside the tavern, Lai Don was leisurely sipping tea at a table by the window, a pensive and sorrowful look on his face. Suddenly, his gaze sharpened, his brows furrowing as if he had thought of something. At the same time, at the table in front of him, two guests were chatting. One spoke up, "Have you heard? Sect leader Ma, the new alliance leader, is the one who killed the Shadow Palace Master, one of the leaders of the three dark alliances." The other guest replied, "I heard that too." So, was sect leader Ma's credit stolen by the former alliance leader? After hearing those words, Lai Don's face once again showed a sorrowful expression, as if he was lost in thought. The guests in front were still chatting incessantly. The guest in purple asked, "Heavens, so it wasn't Tien Ha-chan who wiped them all out alone?" Another guest chimed in, "Since he already had everything, why would the former alliance leader go to such lengths?" At this moment, he was still silently listening to the group's conversation. Lai Don picked up his teacup and thought pensively, this isn't the first time. Then his eyes sharpened as if he was annoyed by something. He thought again, after arriving in Wuhan, I've heard countless rumors praising Bonko, some of which are complete lies. Then he thought of the image of the battle from years ago when he was Tien Ha-chan. He stood alone on the battlefield, surrounded by corpses lying everywhere, showing the severity of the battle. His two subordinates, still struggling with their injuries, stood behind Tien Ha-chan. The line of thought echoed. I still remember it it clearly, the day I finally managed to kill the Shadow Palace Master after great difficulty. Bonko showed up late after dealing with the remnants. At this moment, the image of Tien Ha-chan's back appeared in his memory. Then came his sharp eyes glancing. Behind him, as if looking at someone. The spot where Tien Ha-chan glanced was where Ma Bong and his subordinates were standing in a large group, a stark contrast to Tien Ha-chan's side, which only had him and his two subordinates. His expression at that moment looked extremely awkward and frightened. The thoughts continued to flow steadily. During the war against the evil heretics, he was forced to reluctantly help the martial arts alliance. He avoided combat to minimize the losses to his own sect. In his memory, Tien Ha-chan shot a sharp glance in Ma Bong's direction. His face was full of seriousness and warning. Lidon's train of thought had not stopped. After that, once he was on my radar, Tien Daomon had to live holding its breath. Then Lidon's eyes hardened. He thought again, and now he's being praised for something he didn't even do? Afterwards, Lidon took a sip of tea, his face still full of contemplation. Then his eyes suddenly became serious. He thought, someone is secretly spreading false rumors. He recalled another memory. In it, Tien Ha-chan and Jia Cat Luong stood together by a window, looking into the distance. Jia Cat Luong suddenly spoke, Alliance leader, if you become the number one under heaven, you won't be able to control the Central Plains. His face was somber as he thought, his gaze still fixed on the distance. He continued, the number one under heaven is just the best fighter in the world, but what controls the martial world is power. Hearing this, Tien Ha-chan also fell into a somber mood, his face filled with contemplation as if thinking about what he had just heard. After reminiscing, Lidon closed his eyes and fell into deep thought. What Jia Cat Luong said back then was indeed very accurate. Then, he strode out of the tavern, wearing a wide-brimmed hat, and walked forward. Then Lidon stopped on the road, his face becoming complex. He pondered, on top of that, I'm not even the number one under heaven anymore. After that, his eyes became serious again, as if he had understood something. Lidon strode leisurely along the empty path leading up the mountainside. Behind him were towering mountain ranges. Suddenly, Lidon glanced to the side of the road, as if he had noticed something. At this moment, in front of him was a bridge crossing a small stream to a quiet tavern in the mountains. He thought in surprise, isn't this the tavern I used to visit during my night travels? At this moment, a gentle breeze blew, causing the flag hanging in front of the tavern to sway. Lidon thought to himself, did I unconsciously walk to this place? After the gentle breeze passed, the flag returned to its initial stillness. The image of the past reappeared along with his thoughts. Tien Ha-chan and Bob Bao sat opposite each other at a table by the tavern window. In his hand was a white porcelain wine jug, preparing to pour wine for the person opposite him. The thoughts continued to echo. I was never one to enjoy wine, but the feeling this place gives is truly wonderful. On times like these, Bob Bao would accompany me as an escort. Tien Ha-chan's hand holding the wine jug was still extended towards Bob Bao. At that moment, he was solemnly closing his eyes, pretending not to see anything. The thoughts echoed steadily again. Bob Bao sat opposite me. I offered him a cup, but he always refused. I told him one cup wouldn't hurt, but he was still adamant about not touching a single drop of wine. Then, Tien Ha-chan sighed, looking helpless before Bob Bao's resolve. The thoughts continued to echo. My guard is someone who never breaks his principles when on a mission. The image of Bob Bao, with his stern face and righteous eyes, appeared in his mind, along with the thought, Bob Bao is that loyal. After reminiscing, Lidon's expression suddenly turned somber. He asked himself, maybe I should drop in for a bit? Then, he pushed open the door and entered the tavern. The sound of the door opening was accompanied by a welcoming voice from the tavern owner. Welcome, esteemed guest. As if seeing something, Lidon's eyes revealed clear surprise. At this moment, in front of him was Bob Bao, the person who had just appeared in his memories. Lidon thought in astonishment, Bob Bao, still not over the sudden surprise. Lidon, his face still full of astonishment, asked, has this place changed owners? Hearing this, Bob Bao just smiled gently. He replied, that's right, I was given this place not long ago. Today is the reopening. The surprise in his eyes had not yet faded, and he was even more astonished upon hearing Bob Bao's answer. He continued, you're the first customer of this establishment. At this moment, Lidon was still standing at the door. He said nothing and suddenly became pensive. Seeing this, Bob Bao looked at him with a puzzled expression. He spoke up, esteemed guest, please take a seat. Hearing this, Lidon snapped out of his thoughts, uttered a sound, and walked to the table near the window, replying, yes. He sat down at the table by the window, just like in his past memories, without saying a word. The scenery outside was of towering mountain ranges. Seeing the spot where Lidon had just sat, Bob Bao immediately asked, you're sitting there, esteemed guest? That's my favorite spot. Hearing this, he leisurely took off his wide-brimmed hat. With a calm expression, he smiled and asked back, does the owner have a special reason for this spot? At this moment, Bob Bao's scarred hand placed a teacup on the table, and at the same time, his voice was heard. It's just. Then he smiled, a hint of sadness on his face as he replied, I just like it. Hearing this, Lidon Don's face showed a hint of reluctance and awkwardness. He thought to himself, Then came the image of Tien Ha-chan leisurely drinking tea. As his thoughts continued, always sat in this spot. The expression of Tien Ha-chan in the memory was always serious, looking into the distance, with the stern Ba Bao always standing behind him. The thoughts echoed again with Ba Bao. At this moment, Ba Bao was still diligently working at the front. The spot where he sat was suddenly replaced by the image of Tien Ha-chan. Along with that, Tien Ha-chan and Lai Don's body mused, I really want to tell Ba Bao that I am Tien Ha-chan. In Lai Don's eyes, Ba Bao still had a serious demeanor as he worked. He thought, if it were Ba Bao, he would definitely follow me. Then Tien Ha-chan took another sip of tea. The thoughts continued, but Tien Ha-chan is already dead. The image of Tien Ha-chan reverted back to Lai Don. He thought, in his life, or in my life, he is dead either way. Then his eyes showed seriousness as he continued to ponder. I am currently Lai Don. Then his serious gaze suddenly turned to shock as he heard a voice say, what a warm atmosphere. Lai Don looked up in shock and alarm, as if searching for the owner of the voice that had just spoken. The person who just entered the door was Jia Cat Luong. His face still held a stern expression mixed with a hint of a smile. At this moment, he thought in shock, Jia Cat Luong. Seeing the newcomer, Ba Bao was surprised and loudly invited Jia Cat Luong inside. Strategist, please come in. Hearing the invitation, he asked, so you've opened this tavern? Hearing the question, he smiled kindly and explained, I was very lucky. The owner of this place handed it over to return to his hometown. Hearing Ba Bao's words, he calmly replied, I see. Then, as if noticing the presence of someone else in the tavern, Jia Cat Luong glanced towards where Lai Don was sitting. Then he turned away, walked towards the door, and said, I want to get some fresh air. Hearing this, Ba Bao took off the apron he was wearing, preparing to follow, and looked in the direction Jia Cat Luong was going, replying loudly, yes. Jia Cat Luong and Ba Bao were now standing in the small courtyard in front of the tavern. Both looked into the distance, neither speaking first. At this moment, inside the tavern, Lai Don was also looking out the window, observing the two people outside. Although Jia Cat Luong's eyes were still fixed on the distance, he broke the silence. He used to come to this place, didn't he? After hearing the question, a sad look appeared on Ba Bao's face as he replied. So the strategist already knew. Then, both of them continued to look at the mountains in the distance. Jia Cat Luong added, he told me a few times that this place has a wonderful atmosphere. He also said that next time he had time, we should go together. As he said this, a sorrowful expression appeared on his face. His sad eyes still looked into the distance as he continued. It seems he was very happy back then. At this moment, his hand holding the teacup made a soft sound as he placed it on the table. His face was now also tinged with a bit of sorrow. He thought, sadly, I have many regrets. The image of Tien Ha-chan replaced Lai Don's position. Ba Bao and Jia Cat Luong were still standing outside as the thoughts echoed. If only I could have been a little closer to Ba Bao and Jia Cat Luong. Then, outside, he asked Ba Bao in a serious tone, you don't intend to stay in the martial arts alliance anymore? Ba Bao replied somberly, my apologies, strategist. I don't think the new alliance leader is worth protecting. Hearing the answer, Jia Cat Luong looked clearly helpless and replied, you know that all too well. Actually, I'm the one who should be apologizing to you. Hearing this, Ba Bao disagreed. He said worriedly, the strategist has already done his best. With Noyet Hall and Tik Kai Hall's betrayal, you couldn't have stopped this single-handedly. Lai Don's expression suddenly became one of utter bewilderment. He immediately thought, Noyet Hall and Kai Hall have betrayed us? Then he fell in a deep thought, his face still full of worry. Lai Don thought, if Ba Bao hadn't said it himself, I would never have believed this was true. At this moment, the images of both Noyet Hall and Kai Hall appeared in his mind. He lamented to himself, how could those two betray me? Outside, the two men were still standing together. Jia Cat Luong spoke. To be honest, they didn't exactly betray us. At least they were loyal until the alliance leader died. Hearing this, he couldn't suppress his anger. His eyes sharpened, his lips pressed together tightly as he thought furiously, no, that is betrayal. When I died, for the people I always cherished to act like that is clearly betrayal. They should have helped Jia Cat Luong, shouldn't they? He thought of Ma Bong's image again. In his mind, he was smiling triumphantly with a cunning face. The thoughts continued to echo relentlessly. Especially, letting someone like Ma Bongko sit in the new alliance leader's position is unacceptable. Outside, Ba Bao asked again, what are your plans for the future, strategist? He replied somberly, they're surely hoping I'll give up, so I will try to hold on for a while longer. Hearing this, Ba Bao became worried. He said, will you be alright? Jia Cat Luong was pensive, his face filled with sadness as he spoke. Many eyes are watching, so they won't dare to make a move against me, but I'll probably be demoted to some small organization. Even so, I will hold on until the very end. Hearing this, Ba Bao's face was filled with worry. He looked at Jia cat Luong, speechless. Then he asked hesitantly, if I may be so bold as to ask, why doesn't the strategist leave the martial arts alliance? Hearing the question, he gave a sad smile, his eyes looking into the distance as he answered without hesitation, because this place was his home. Hearing this, Lydon's expression became surprised, mixed with a bit of emotion. The sky gradually turned the pale yellow of sunset. Below, the canopies of trees swayed in the wind. Beside the trees was a gate with a traditional curved tile roof and surrounding fortress walls, creating a sense of solemnity and mystery about what lay behind the gate. At the same time, Lydon, with an expressionless face, casually pushed open the wooden gate and stepped inside. His face suddenly turned sorrowful, his lips pressed tightly together, and he thought sadly, after that, I had no choice but to go home because there was nothing else I could do. Lydon recalled the incident at the tavern, when he sat by the window and watched two people talking outside. The train of thought continued to echo. In my current state, even if I told them the whole truth, nothing would change. Suddenly, a voice rang out, pulling him from his memories and private thoughts. A look of surprise flickered across Lydon's face as he looked ahead. The voice asked, "Young master, you're back? Is everything all right?" The owner of that voice was Kwang Dao, who was holding the handle of a broom. Seeing that he didn't answer, he worriedly continued to ask, "Did something bad happen? You look pale, young master." At that moment, after hearing him speak, Lydon calmly closed his eyes, let out a sigh as if in agreement, and replied, "It's true, things are not very good." Hearing his reply, a look of surprise appeared on Kwang Dao's face. He pursed his lips slightly, looking at him in astonishment, but not speaking immediately. Then, Kwang Dao let out a surprised cry as if he had heard something very unexpected, and he continued, "Now you finally look human, young master." Hearing this, he asked back in surprise, "What?" Then, Kwang Dao looked helpless and continued to talk about the past. Kwang Dao said, "Well, every time you came back from going out, you always put on a successful and smug look. Although I didn't say it, that look of yours didn't seem human at all." Hearing his words, Lydon's expression suddenly softened, and he thought to himself, "This kid is worrying about and comforting me." With that thought, he walked past Kwang Dao, who remained in place, his eyes following Lydon's direction. As he walked, he casually instructed Kwang Dao, "So you'd better train diligently. Things like this, you'll have to handle them for me in the future." Hearing Lydon's words, an indescribable joy and emotion appeared on Kwang Dao's face. He kept his eyes fixed on the direction he was going. Then Kwang Dao remained in place, still holding the broom as before. He watched his back and happily shouted instructions. "Young master, go inside and rest. This humble one will tell the kitchen to cook your favorite dish for dinner." At this moment, Lydon was still striding forward, a hint of joy on his face. He replied softly, "All right." Then, images of the former masters of Cat Luong, Ba Bao, and Ma Bong appeared in his mind along with the thought, "I've decided not to care about the martial arts alliance's affairs anymore." Cat Luong, Ba Bao, or Ma Bong. Then an image of his former master, when he was Tien Ha Tran, appeared. Lydon continued to think, and my death as well. Then he remembered the incident at the tavern, when the two guests in front of him were talking, and what they said at that time. Then he thought again, because even if I cared, nothing would change. Then, a determined look shone in Lydon's eyes. He thought, for now, I need to take good care of the bitch T sword sect. At this moment, a hazy scene was before him. Nevertheless, Lydon's back remained resolutely straight, his hands clenched as he looked forward. He thought, the affairs of the martial world are unpredictable. I need to nurture the bitch T sword sect to become strong, so I can protect myself. Then his eyes glinted with solemnity and resilience. His train of thought came to an end. Definitely, the storm will come again. The sky gradually brightened. In front of a room with an ancient style, made of wood, and a traditional curved tile roof in the manor. The next day, Lydon was sitting in front of the bitch T sect leader and the sect leader's wife. He spoke seriously amidst their speechless surprise. "I want to form a sword team." After recovering from her surprise, the sect leader's wife's expression suddenly became worried as she looked at him. The bitch T sect leader also immediately became stern. He looked seriously at Lydon and asked, "You do?" He immediately replied, "I plan to start with about 20 people and will gradually increase the number later." At this, the bitch T sect leader closed his eyes. He let out a sigh, but did not speak right away. Then, he looked straight at Lydon with a stern expression and said, "I understand your intention, but before you choose the members, go see Tu Trong for advice. I will talk to Tu Trong about this." Hearing this, he smiled at the bitch T sect leader and the sect leader's wife, and at the same time, spoke politely, "Thank you, father." At this moment, the sect leader's wife spoke, her eyes looking at him with affection mixed with a bit of trust. She asked, "You'll do well, won't you?" The bitch T sect leader also looked at him with a trusting expression and smiled. A kindness that was hard to hide radiated from his face. Lydon's eyes were still calm, but no less serious and moved. He thought, I have now gained the trust of these two. Then, he looked straight at them and replied with a determined voice, yes. In another corner of the manor, the architecture was still ancient with bright red pillars and traditional curved tile roofs. The lanterns hanging silently under the eaves and the traditional window patterns created a solemn, yet warm and peaceful feeling. Lydon was currently strolling leisurely along the corridor in the courtyard. Suddenly, his face filled with curiosity as he turned to look behind him, because someone's voice called out, "Young master." The caller was Kwang Dao. He walked up behind Lydon and looked at him with a worried and expectant expression, asking, "Is this humble one in the sword team that you are forming?" He immediately replied with a calm expression tinged with a smile, "No." Hearing this, a look of disappointment and disbelief appeared on Kwang Dao's face as he asked again, "But why?" At that moment, Lydon thought to himself, "Because I want to use you for more important things." Although he thought this, his expression remained calm with a hint of playfulness as he replied, "You're still too weak." Hearing his answer, his face filled with disbelief, but he did not speak immediately. Then, Kwang Dao chased after Lydon again. He persistently tried to persuade him, "When this humble one is capable enough, you must let me join the team." Hearing this, he continued to stroll forward and replied, "We'll have to see what you can do." Hearing this, Kwang Dao immediately drooped with a helpless expression. He replied, "Yes." Then he chased after him again as he walked calmly ahead and asked curiously, "But why are you forming a sword team, young master?" Hearing this, Lydon did not turn around but continued to walk forward, saying as he went, "I will make the Bitch Tea Sword sect the #1 sect in the Central Plains." Hearing his words, Kwang Dao was shocked and shouted, "What?" At that moment, he continued with determination, "I will make the Bitch Tea Sword sect a family that no one would dare to offend, and the sword team is the beginning of that dream." Hearing this, Kwang Dao's face was filled with surprise and a bit of admiration. After answering him, Lydon still looked forward with determination. He thought, "This is my resolve. Although I'm just talking to Kwang Dao, this is also what I want to say to the entire Central Plains." Then, hearing no reply, he looked curiously towards Kwang Dao behind him. He was still looking at him in astonishment without saying a word. Seeing this, Lydon asked, "Why are you looking at me like that? Do I look like I'm talking nonsense?" At this, Kwang Dao reacted, replying happily but with no less admiration, "Not at all. Young master will definitely be able to do it. This humble one will do my best to help the young master." Hearing this, he smiled, his eyes gentle as he thought, "If it were anyone else, they would surely think I'm crazy. I didn't expect this kid to believe in me so much." At this time, in the main courtyard of the manor, the crowd of applicants was dense. Surrounding the main courtyard were ancient buildings and high towers, showing the prestige of the sect. The number of applicants grew, filling the entire courtyard, everyone lined up neatly waiting for the competition to begin. At this moment, Lydon stood in the presiding position, looking down at the participants below. He thought absent-mindedly, "The Bitch Tea family has a good reputation." So as soon as the recruitment news was announced, hundreds of people gathered to apply. Following that, the competition began. Images of the fighters starting to perform their moves appeared one after another, along with his ever-echoing train of thought. One by one, they stepped out to perform their moves. "I have selected the 40 with the best skills among them." Then, in another room, Quan Hui looked forward with determination, as if ready for the test. His train of thought had not stopped. "After that, I will talk to each one of them." At this moment, Lydon sat in the center, calmly looking at the scroll in his hand, and then asked, "Why do you want to join the sword team?" Hearing his question, Quan Hui replied seriously, "This humble one wants to become a famous martial artist in the martial world." Then, he was still sitting in the same position, the scroll still in his hand, and in front of him was another applicant. Lydon thought to himself again, there are many different answers, from genuine reasons like making money, to even the reason that they respect my father. At this moment, his eyes gradually became profound as if he was calculating something. He thought, actually, I don't care about their answers. Instead, I just want to see if they are honest people or not. After the competition, the selected fighters lined up neatly in the main courtyard. A serious expression was on everyone's face as they stared straight ahead. At that time, Lydon stood opposite them in the center, his face exuding calmness and seriousness. He spoke, "I know everyone has heard many rumors about me." Then, two fighters standing below still had serious faces, yet a hint of a smile was visible. His voice continued to ring out evenly, "But I only want to say one thing, forget it all." As soon as he finished speaking, a hint of surprise appeared in the fighters' eyes. They remained standing seriously in their positions and did not speak. Then Lydon looked at them again with determined eyes, and he spoke loudly, "From now on, you will test and judge for yourselves." As soon as Lydon finished speaking, all the fighters below began to bow and said in unison, "Your subordinate understands." After finishing his speech, his face suddenly became grim. He thought to himself, "I was once the person with the largest number of subordinates in this martial world." At this moment, below, the girl with the ponytail girl and the girl with the bun were happily chatting together. Lidon's train of thought had not ended, but this is the first time I've had to directly nurture subordinates who are low-level martial artists. The other fighters were still standing firmly in their positions, their eyes looking straight ahead, exuding seriousness. The thought echoed again, because after becoming the #1 person in the world, I immediately became the alliance leader. Lidon's face was now affectionate, but no less serious. He was still pondering, can I lead these people well? My heart is also very restless right now. I will never forget today's meeting. After finishing his thoughts, he looked seriously at the fighters again and said, now, I will select the squad leaders. Then, Lidon glanced in one direction, and he calmly called out. Quan Hui, hearing his name, Quan Hui immediately stood at attention and replied loudly, present, along with his thought echoing. I've had my eye on him from the beginning. After answering him, he looked forward with determination again. Lidon's train of thought had not ended. His name is Quan Hui, 23 years old. He was studying martial arts at a martial arts school when he applied here. The moves he performed were very solid, but the reason he caught my eye was his answer in the interview round. In a room with the ancient architecture of the manor, a voice suddenly rang out from inside the room. This humble one wants to succeed as a martial artist in the martial world. Then, after hearing this, Lidon smiled. He asked back, do you think you will succeed by joining our sword team? Hearing the question, Quan Hui immediately replied seriously. This humble one has heard many rumors. The team leader has changed a lot. This humble one wants to learn that secret technique. If this humble one can also change like that, then I will surely be able to succeed in the future. After hearing his answer, Lidon's face showed satisfaction, and he smiled silently. Returning to the present, Lidon still glanced at Quan Hui, and he calmly gave his order. From now on, you will be the squad leader of this small sword team. Hearing this, Quan Hui immediately bowed to him and replied, understood. Thank you, team leader, for your trust. Seeing this, a look of satisfaction flickered across Lidon's face. He looked at him and curved his lips into a faint smile. A new, beautiful sunny day arrived. The disciples were tired after finishing their training. Some were so tired they lay on the ground. Panting, Quan Hui supported himself with his hands, his face covered in sweat. He panted while glancing around with a puzzled look, his arms stretched out firm and steady. The young man let out a long sigh. Lidon frowned, holding his stance firmly. Quan Hui was surprised and immediately asked, how does the team leader have such good stamina? He opened his eyes and calmly explained, if you run around and roll on the ground for 3 hours every morning, you'll be like this too. He was incredulous, his eyes wide. The team leader spends 3 whole hours on physical training, and you still have the energy to join the sword team's training. His face was serious as he replied, for a person to succeed, there is always a period where they must immerse themselves in training. Quan Hui stopped, asking with a bewildered look, immerse in training? What are you talking about, team leader? Lidon continued to explain patiently. When you go crazy for something, there will be a time when you work tirelessly for it. Then he stood up straight and let out a sigh. He turned to the side and asked with a bewildered voice, Quan Hui, you want to become a successful martial artist, right? He was surprised and stammered in reply, yes. Yes. Lidon's expression became stern as he reminded him. Then all of your time should be spent on making an effort. Quan Hui was stunned, staring intently. He turned his face away and continued to advise, the harder you work, the more successful you will be. He didn't answer, his expression surprised. Quan Hui bowed deeply, his hands clasped respectfully. Thank you for your guidance, team leader. Lidon silently watched him leave. Then he unconsciously broke into a satisfied smile. Kwang Dao suddenly appeared with a gloomy look, complaining, young master, why don't you teach this humble one like that? Lidon glanced away awkwardly and replied, is that so? He replied sullenly, yes. He called out behind his back, are you jealous? Kwang Dao whipped around and shouted with determination, jealous? This humble one is a real man. I've done everything a man has to do. He walked calmly and replied, you don't have to worry. Hearing that, he was instantly overjoyed. Lidon glanced at him and teased, he's not as funny as you, is he? Kwang Dao's face darkened, and he walked away angrily. You're too much, young master. He chuckled to himself, calculating quietly. I need to maintain this tension. Kwang Dao needs to compete with Quan Hui. This will definitely help his development. Quan Hui glanced over, looking tense. Kwang Dao's face was covered in sweat as he watched intently. Lidon smiled slyly and thought, that's right, go crazy. You have to be crazy like that to achieve anything. The sunset gradually fell everywhere. General Manager Tong asked grimly, are you still running the sword team well? Isn't it just a waste of money? Lidon was sad and said awkwardly, how can I do it well? I've never managed money before. The old man chuckled and replied, I knew it. Taking care of someone is harder than we think. He continued sullenly, I only realized this after I started doing it. General Manager Tong has worked very hard managing our family for so long. The old man coughed slightly and then suddenly asked, last time, you asked me about a capable young lad, right? He asked cheerfully, I wonder if you still need one now? Lidon quickly replied, of course. General Manager Tong said with a serious face, go to Chow and find Chu-san. He was satisfied and said gratefully, thank you for your guidance, General Manager. The old man stood up with an effort and ordered, take this with you too. General Manager Tong turned his back and reminded him in a stern voice, you must use it sparingly, even more so than money. He frowned and smiled faintly. Too figures walked on a mountain path. The next day, Chao City. Kwang Dao walked behind, saying resentfully, "Young master told this humble one to come, so I had to come. But because of you, young master, I couldn't train today, so it's hard to catch up with squad leader Quan." Lai Don said with amusement, "You're that worried?" His face darkened, and he sighed in reply, "Of course. You're about to burn the bridge after crossing it." He closed his eyes and suddenly burst out laughing. He complained angrily, "You should say that's not true, young master. Why are you laughing like that?" Lai Don thought to himself, "This kid doesn't need to chase after anyone. The Namhai, that duk, that Kwang Dao is learning is a type of martial art that cannot be compared to the martial arts of ordinary practitioners." Kwang Dao sighed in disappointment. He still thought with amusement, "It's just that he has never been in a real fight, so he doesn't know." Kwang Dao is now stronger than the sword team members who joined this time. The calculations in his head continued to flow. In addition, with my personal guidance, Kwang Dao will become even stronger. He asked with great boredom, "Why do you keep laughing, young master?" The two of them stopped in front of a small house. Kwang Dao observed and silently judged. The house of the person in charge of financial matters is so shabby. Lai Don ordered in a stern voice, "As long as the person inside isn't shabby, it's fine. Go knock on the door." He exclaimed in surprise. He called out loudly, "Is anyone home?" The door slowly creaked open. Chusen stepped out grimly. Kwang Dao leaned in and commented doubtfully, "The person inside looks shabby too." He immediately explained awkwardly, "As long as his mind isn't shabby, it's fine." Lai Don immediately spoke seriously. "Are you Mr. Kong?" He hesitated in his reply. "Mr. what?" "I am from the Kong family." "What brings you here?" He immediately explained in a serious tone. "The general manager of the Bitch Tea Sword sect recommended you to me." Chusen was surprised, his eyes wide. He turned and walked away, saying, "Come inside." In the room was a full bookshelf. Lai Don asked hesitantly, "Forgive my rudeness, but what is your relationship with General Manager Tong?" Kong Chu San answered honestly, "He is my master." The two of them widened their eyes in surprise. He then asked curiously, "Is my master well?" He smiled happily and replied, "He is very healthy." He bowed his head and said with relief, "That's good. But what brings you two to see me?" Lai Don introduced himself respectfully. "This humble one is the successor of the Bitch Tea Sword sect, Lai Don. I am in need of a general manager." Chu San frowned, guessing quietly, "You want me to be the general manager?" He quickly continued, "That's right. General Manager Tong recommended you to me." He didn't answer, but asked, "I wonder if my master told you the reason why I live like this?" He lowered his eyes and replied calmly, "Everyone has their own story." Kong Chu San bowed his head sadly. He frowned, his face darkening as he explained, "As I thought, you haven't heard. I killed someone. I killed the person who recruited me." Hearing this, Kwang Dao's eyes widened in fear. He slowly stood up and ordered, "You should leave. I won't see you out." Lai Don's casual voice made him freeze. "You don't need to worry about that, mister." Chu San frowned, looking at him doubtfully. He was silent for a moment, then spoke coldly, "I'm not so weak as to be easily plotted against and killed." He was stunned, his eyes wide open. A day with a clear blue sky in the village. General Manager Tong looked in one direction. Chu San stared straight ahead. He gradually transformed into a different person. Lai Don smiled, standing next to him. Chu San gave a faint smile and looked up. He clasped his hands and bowed, saying respectfully, "Master, it's been a long time." General Manager Tong smiled happily and replied, "All right." Lai Don watched him. General Manager Tong looked at him and said, "Your new master has many shortcomings, so you need to try very hard." Chu San replied obediently, "I will remember my master's teachings." He glanced to the side. "Young master, please treat me to a cup of wine." Lai Don closed his eyes slightly and smiled gently. He looked straight at the old man and said decisively, "Yes, let's drink together when the time is right." General Manager Tong turned his face and let out a sound. He turned his back and walked away. Lai Don thought to himself, "So that's how it is." He smiled and said to himself, "So this is General Manager Tong's way of thanking me for taking in his disciple." Lai Don put his hand into his robe and said, "The situation is just as the general manager said." He held out a bag in front of Chu San. "This is 3,000 taels. With this money, General Manager Kong, please take care of the food and lodging for the sword team of 20 people. Of course, your salary is also included in this amount." Chu San replied indifferently, "Yes, I understand." Lai Don asked with concern, "Is that all right?" He put the bag away and replied, "Didn't you call me here because this matter is very difficult?" He widened his eyes in surprise. Then Lai Don smiled with satisfaction. He looked ahead and said, "Thank you, General Manager Kong. I believe you can do it." Lai Don turned away, thinking at the same time. A sword team of 20 people, one general manager. This scale is not even a fraction of a landman. He pondered more deeply. But the important thing is that I have taken the first step. In a residential area near the mountains. Everyone was diligently practicing their swordsmanship. A strong man swung his sword. Time flew by. 2 months had passed since the small sword team was formed. His opponent quickly retaliated. Quan Hui directed attentively. Quan Hui managed everything very well. He turned his back slightly. No matter what he did, he was always at the forefront, working hard. Therefore, no one had any complaints about the squad leader. Another person came and smiled at Quan Hui. Everyone gathered in a training stance. After only 2 months of training, the entire team's movements had become much more graceful and agile than before. Everyone lined up in the training yard. Therefore, it could be said that the sword team was developing quite well. In a nearby room, a person comes and give a scroll to Li Don. This is an escort mission. Ju San explains further. Not long ago, the Taizhou Merchant Guild from Jiangsu province came here to do business with the Taiyan escort agency, but it didn't go very well. It seems that in their haste to find another escort agency, they couldn't find a suitable one. He opens the scroll and reads it carefully. He glances at it and adds, "The escort fee is also very expensive. The estimated time is up to 10 days. Li Don asks sternly, "How much?" Ju San closes his eyes and replies, 2,000 taels. His face darkens as he silently assesses. 2,000 taels? Then the value of the escorted goods must be extraordinary. He continues to report, "Moreover, this job is also quite dangerous." Li Don speaks decisively. "I will take this job. It's time for the little sword squad to get some real combat experience." At a luxurious estate, Taizhou merchants. People are bustling, loading goods. The horse-drawn carriages are being prepared. Guan Hui shouts a reminder, "Load the goods carefully." A man approaches from behind and says, "The goods are quite valuable. I hope the young master will be extra careful." Li Don replies cautiously, "Guild master, don't worry too much. The goods will certainly reach their destination." He lets out a sigh. Then, turning away, he says, "Then I'll be counting on you all." He helplessly watches him go. Li Don observes everyone working and admits, "Everyone is uneasy because we're not an official sword squad, but just a little sword squad. But this is a job we must be able to do." The carriages start to roll. The convoy of carriages passes through a rocky gorge. Everyone slowly forms a procession. Guangdu lets out a long yawn. He speaks sluggishly. "How fortunate. 3 days have passed and nothing has happened." Li Don cheerfully chimes in, "In any case, it's best to avoid a fight." Guangdu, walking beside him, continues, "Yes, aside from the inconvenience of sleeping on the road, it's been so idle it's boring." He suddenly realizes something. Li Don says with a sly smile, "Speak of the devil, and he shall appear." Some strange fellows have shown up. Guangdu also looks ahead, puzzled. Suddenly, his eyes widen in shock. The entire convoy immediately stops before a group of people. One of them speaks up, "Leave the goods and scram, and you'll live." Li Don stares at them, quite the imposing aura. A dense crowd blocks their path. It seems this is not an ordinary band of bandits. Guan Hui observes intently. 2 others also watch them tensely. He says in a clear, loud voice, "Just do as we've practiced." Everyone draws their swords and gets into position. The bandits also draw their swords, so you choose death. The man shouts, "Attack!" Li Don firmly grips the blades in his hands. He immediately takes down a series of them. Countless men behind him fall. Li Don quickly gives an order. Team leader Guan on the left, Guangdu on the right. The scar-faced man glances around, observing. He approaches Li Don. He immediately leaps back. "I won't use the soul-chasing Azura sword style, but will use my family style, the White Moon sword style, to deal with this one." He fiercely observes Li Don. He quickly flashes past and attacks him. He clutches his stomach and cries out in pain. His hand is covered in blood as he cries out. Li Don continues to attack his abdomen. The scar-faced man's eyes roll back. The men in his group look at him in panic. His eyes glare, full of killing intent. How on earth? Li Don observes indifferently. He pulls the sword from his abdomen. The scar-faced man collapses to the ground. He glances slightly behind him. A bandit swings his sword, attacking a male squad member. Suddenly, a sword pierces through his waist, ensuring the boy's safety. The male squad member on the ground looks at him from a distance. "Young master." Li Don grips his sword and charges forward bravely. He executes a martial technique, easily taking down 3 bandits. Li Don's sharp gaze sweeps around. Then he powerfully swings his sword, eliminating another bandit. He stands there, glancing at the remaining enemies. A second later, Li Don darts forward as swift as lightning to fight. In the blink of an eye, 2 bandits are taken down. Their bodies fall heavily to the ground after receiving a powerful blow from him. A member of the Bitch T Sword School stares blankly. "Young master." Guan Hui's eyes widen in astonishment. He's a master of this level? Both of them look at Li Don in disbelief. He only swings his sword lightly, yet it carries an extremely great force. Li Don is drawn by something and turns his head. He sees Guangdu fighting fiercely with a bandit. He raises his sword, struggling against the opponent's palm strike. Seeing this, Li Don silently encourages him. "Guangdu, calm down. With your strength, you can definitely defeat him." Meanwhile, the bandit swings his sword. "Go to hell." Guangdu grits his teeth as he witnesses this sight. He musters his strength and swings his sword, slashing hard into his body. The bandit, unable to defend, gradually collapses to the ground. Guangdu pants heavily after a long fight. Around him are countless bandits who have lost their lives. He is also extremely stunned by this scene. There are 4 downed men around Guangdu. Could he have eliminated 3 of them by himself? Across from him, Guangdu remains extremely vigilant, tightly gripping the sword in his hand. Li Don silently looks at him without saying anything. After securing victory, Guan Hui shouts, "Everyone, quickly use the golden sore medicine to treat your wounds. Those who are unharmed, set up a perimeter in all 4 directions." The members of the Bitch T Sword School open their mouths in unison. Understood. Then he helps the wounded to